After months and months of waiting, it is finally here. NFL Christmas is upon us. 32 teams, 32 first-round picks, each one having their own pick for the first time since 2014. The NFL Draft is officially here, and we cannot wait to get started with coverage of all 32 picks and every player taken in the first round.
It's an all-the-time thing. You don't win once in a while. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. There is no room for second place. There is only one place in my game, and that's first place. It is and always has been an American zeal to be first in anything we do, and to win, and to win, and to win. Every time a football player goes to ply his trade, he's got to play from the ground up, from the soles of his feet right up to his head. Every inch of him has to play. Some guys play with their heads. That's okay. You've got to be smart to be number one in any business. But more importantly, you've got to play with your heart, with every fiber of your body. If you're lucky enough to find a guy with a lot of head and a lot of heart, he's never going to come off the field a second. I don't say these things because I believe in the brute nature of men or that men must be brutalized to be combative. I believe in God. I believe in human decency. But I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, his greatest fulfillment to all he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted in the field of battle, victorious.
It is officially that time. The NFL Draft is here upon us. We've been waiting. The mock drafts, the scouting, the player personnel, the interviews, the rumors, everything you can imagine has finally come to fruition as today 32 players will make their NFL dreams come true as they are selected in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. Thank you all so much for joining us here on this Thursday evening. It is DJ with the High Low Sports Podcast for the Belly Up Sports first round NFL Draft live stream. I'm joined with a host, a plethora, if you will, nearly a dozen other sports personalities across Belly Up and the internet sports world. Joining me for the hosting duties will be my co-host and my sidekick. And you know what? You could say the Shedeur Sanders to my Travis Hunter. And yes, I gave myself the Travis Hunter billing. Kelcey Coin. Kelcey, it's that time we've been waiting all year for this. The mock draft's over. It is finally here. The NFL Draft is upon us.
Yeah, this is always a favorite time of year. If nobody has ever heard of our stuff, this is what we do every year. This is what we prepare for. This is our Super Bowl in a lot of ways. We love the draft. And obviously, I love the fact you gave me Shedeur. I have been told in interviews that I might be a little bit too sarcastic and a little bit too out of the loop at times, and obviously him getting some shade coming into the draft. But this is one of those things, man. I'm always excited for the draft show. I'm always excited for the first round. There might be some surprises, might be some crazy trades. Hopefully, we get some interesting things happening in Lambeau tonight.
Absolutely. One thing that is not expected to be interesting is the very first pick of the draft is officially the Titans are on the clock. So the Titans, we already kind of have a general idea of where they will be going in this draft. It is all but a sure thing, but we won't say it's a sure thing till it's a sure thing. That Cam Ward will be heading to Tennessee as the first overall pick, the quarterback out of Miami. And you know what? We can see by the position needs, they need everything along the lines of football players, and Cam Ward is a football player. So that's right along what they're looking for, and someone to solidify the signal caller position.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Obviously, they took the shot with Will Levis. They took a shot before that. It didn't work either. So it's a situation where you would think, obviously, the option here is you're going to go quarterback. It seems like the most obvious thing here. And Titans, look, I love the position needs on this graphic. Everything's needed. You need football players at the end of the day. And right now, probably one of the best football players that's not named Travis Hunter is Cam Ward. So this just makes sense if they go quarterback here and take this option. I mean, you got a new regime. You got to get a new start in there. There's no point in trying to hold on to the past. We've seen it happen in different ways for other teams, Chicago being an example. For Tennessee, it just makes sense here. If you're going to start over with a new head coach, go ahead and get a new quarterback and see if you can make it work, because you need a new start. And you're getting a new stadium in 2 years. You got to be excited about that. Got to get something exciting on the field between now and then, though.
We're talking about Nash Vegas, too. It's not just any team. You have Nash Vegas. You need a little pizzazz. You need a little bit of hoorah. You need something to bring people in. And I think that's exactly what Cam Ward is going to do. as we are still waiting as they are officially on the clock, I want to take a moment. We have some very good hosts with us that will be joining us, some very good panelists. Some of them have done some big boards for us, and we'll be hearing from them as well. I'm going to go and pop up this first one. It is our good friend Jared from the Corner Boost Big Board to take a look at where he has some of these position players ranked. Abdul Carter at the top, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Jalen Walker, Tyler Warren, Mason Graham. UZ and Cam Ward, they're sitting at pick number 7, Jahad Campbell, Kelvin Banks, and Armand Membu at number 10. Now, if we take a look at our good friend Vince's big board, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ashton Genty, Jalen Walker, Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Tyler Warren, Micah Williams, Armand Membu, and Tyler Booker. So, Kelcey, I'm going to ask this one to you as the designated offensive lineman of the group here. How do you feel about a quarterback being in the top 10 on one big board, but not the others? It's kind of that quarterback draft class where how good are they? Is it a necessity thing, or are we just overthinking? What are your thoughts there where we have one quarterback kind of up there and the rest are meh?
I'll say this, and I stand by this year after year after year. Quarterback is the most important position in football, but it is also the most overhyped position in a draft. You see guys all the time going in the first round, all because they can get a fifth-year option at the end of the day. That's not the intention of a draft. The intention is not to get an extra year out of a guy. It's to get a guy that makes a difference for your team. And as much as I love quarterbacks and some quality quarterback play, I don't mind the fact that a big board, one big board has him in the top 10, one big board doesn't, because I think it just gives a perspective on what we're trying to rank, because some people do rank quarterbacks way higher in their brain. They have an extra weight towards them. That's fine. I personally don't care. I would like to see a lot more offensive linemen up there, but bias is what it is. I'd also like to see running backs higher up on most boards, but it's one of those things. And speaking of running backs, we do have a few in this draft that I'm excited for, but you know, it's always going to be one of those things with quarterbacks. You always just expect it. At this point in time, I think I'm numb to the fact quarterbacks get overdrafted. And the fact that there's talking about potentially 3 quarterbacks in the first round in this draft feels a little extreme.
You know what? That's a perfect way to say it. And we do have some interactive comments going on too. So we do have everyone who is here, feel free to jump in the comments. We do have our good friend from insert name FC, Hector, join us, Vamos. And of course, will we see a kicker or punter get drafted? Kelcey, I talked offensive lineman's your forte, but kicker and punter might be second in line. Do we see one of the leg specialists get taken in the draft somewhere?
Man, kickers are people too, right? It's one of those things. I love seeing a kicker, a quality kicker, go in a draft, and you see the difference they can make. It's almost free points in every situation. So if you get inside the 45, it's free 3 points if you have a quality kicker. If you have a quality punter and you get him late 5th, 6th, 7th round, and you can guarantee he flips the field 9 times out of 10, you win the position battle 9 times out of 10. So I don't see, if we're talking about purely analytical standpoint and play on the field, there's no reason some of these kickers shouldn't be an opportunity. There shouldn't be an opportunity they get drafted in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Should a kicker get picked in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round? Probably not. We're not there yet. There's no kickers hitting 70-yard field goals like Brandon Aubrey does for fun. But there's a lot of kickers that are getting there. And I think once that happens, once we see a 70-yard field goal in a legitimate game, I think then we're going to see a kicker get drafted earlier than the 3rd round. But I do love seeing kickers get drafted. I think it's just one of the cool moments. They work just as hard as linemen do. They work just as hard as fullbacks and running backs do. They perfect their craft. Why should they not get an opportunity? And don't get me started on some of the other alternative leagues and they're trying to phasing out kickers. That's a conversation for a different show.
Yeah, we don't talk about that here. That's a whole nother complaint. And I want to jump back into our comments too. So we have one that resonates with all of us right now too from our good friend Kev. It's time for the Titans to take the entire 10 minutes, even though this decision has been made for the last 4 months. We already know who's going to be taken, but in the meantime, they're still kind of on the clock, not even getting going. They're going to take all 10.955 minutes, give or take. Just in other words, more or less, they're going to make us wait it all out, which I'm thinking is a network programming thing, just to get all that pregame stuff in that they already have built in.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to be the guy that takes up all the time. It can't just be me and you all the time. It can't just be the big board all the time. Somebody's got to take up the time. And so in this case, let the Titans take up the 10 minutes. We all assume we know what's going to happen, but I'll also throw this out here. If anybody's ever seen the movie Draft Day, we've seen a lot of these first couple picks in Draft Day. And I'm only saying that because it just kind of fits the motive we're in here. There might be Avonte Mack on the board at the end of the day. But you know what? It's one of those things. I do love seeing teams actually take their time, maybe field offers at number 1. Maybe they're not sold on Cam Ward for whatever reason. Field an offer. Maybe you get a great offer. Some team wants to offer you a first this year, a first next year, 2 seconds. Like, who knows what can be being offered here? And this is 1, 2, 3. I think this is a great move if you just let the clock tick. Because at the end of the day, everybody else is going to get more nervous while you're comfortable knowing exactly what you're going to do if none of these trades just blow you out of the water.
Absolutely. And you know what? I would do, since we have a little bit of time here, I do want to bring in our good friends Vince Stover and Jared from the corner booth. I do want to get them both in here ready to go with us because I have a few questions for them as they will be our resident draft experts as we go through here. And gentlemen, I'm bringing you here for one reason and one reason only. The latest report is that the Browns and the Jaguars talk is all but imminent at this point, that there will be a trade with the Jaguars climbing up to 2. They're on the clock soon, and they believe it will happen from some Cleveland Browns Air's reporters. So, Vince, I'm going to start with you. The Jaguars, new regime making a big move. What do you think of this, and who do you think they're moving up to get?
Well, it has to be Travis Hunter. I mean, you look at a team that needs wide receivers, needs cornerbacks. Why not get one for the price of 2, right? So, or 2 for the price of 1, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, Travis Hunter is the guy that sells tickets. He's a guy that can play both sides of the ball. And, you know, if you're the Jaguars right now, you got a new regime in, new coach and Coach Liam Cohen, and just the opportunity to bring in some pizzazz. You talked about it with the Titans doing that even with Cam Ward. I think it's a great opportunity for Jacksonville. I'm a little surprised by it because I felt like there's really good value at 5. But, hey, why not go out there and make a big swing? I like what Jacksonville's thinking.
Absolutely. By the way, a big shout out to your suit, man, from co-founder Bello Sports Blaine. So we always dress snazzily. And I do want to point out something you mentioned, that the Giants offered a king's ransom to try and get up to number 1 because they wanted their guy, but the Titans were ready to stick and pick in. Jared, I want to ask you, if this trade does happen where the Jaguars do climb up to go get Travis Hunter, what do you think it's going to cost them? Because in theory, you're only going from 2 to 5, but that is 5 to 2. That's a big ransom nonetheless.
The problem is we got to go back to trades in recent history. You can go as far back as like the Julio Jones trade. I believe it was 2008 or 9. You can go even farther back to the Ricky Williams haul. There's other ones, even the RG3 with the Rams and the Commanders. They were not named Commanders back then, but you get what I'm saying. It's going to cost at least 1 first next year and a couple seconds, maybe another first. It's not going to be cheap. You know they're going to have to pay for it. And you have to ask yourself, if you are the Jaguars, is Travis Hunter worth it? I think in this aspect he is. It's either that or you wait and hope that Ashton Jeanty falls to you at 5. I like this move for the Jaguars better than drafting Jeanty. I think this solves more of their issues.
Yeah, absolutely. As well as the first pick is finally in a good solid wait, but we finally got Cam Ward heading to Tennessee. So with breaking news, we were all completely shocked by it as well. That Miami signal caller is heading there. And Jared, we just talked about the trade, which we'll get to in just a moment, but I'm going to ask you, first quarterback on your big board, first one off the board. What does he do for the Titans moving forward? Is he an instant impact guy, or do you think this might be a slow, steady burn since they need everything?
So this may be a shocker as the resident Miami Hurricanes fan. If the Uncle Ed Reed jersey behind you didn't show everything. I wasn't the biggest soul on Cam Ward when he first came to Miami. Then the Florida game happened and he blew me away. This kid has more confidence than any other quarterback in this class. And that's even saying something compared to Shedeur Sanders. But he doesn't say it off the field. He just does it on the field. Has no fear throwing the ball across his body, across the field. He may at times struggle in Tennessee because they are rebuilding an O-line. They did do a lot to address that in the offseason, but I think that teams are going to be a little surprised because, 1, the AFC South, DJ, as you know, is a garbage can, and 2, they actually went out and got veteran receivers to help him develop along with a decent offensive line to go with it. I think they're going to be pleasantly surprising this year in Tennessee. I think this is the best fit for him and the best fit for them. So yeah, I think it's a home run for both sides. I think people are going to be surprised how well Tennessee plays with the weapons they have and the offensive coordinator they have. So,
and you know what? We're not heading to Cleveland for pick number 2. We are heading to Jacksonville as the trade is official, and the Jaguars are on the clock. So they did decide to pull off the move and bring on the Jaguars. Thank you very much, Vince. We appreciate you. We'll have you back in here in just a moment. Jared, we're going to keep you on for just a little bit here. So, Jared, we talked about it. The move is official. The Jaguars on the clock. Travis Hunter sees to be the move. What do you think this means for the move forward? What do you think? Do they think he's going to be receiver corner receiver, or just please save us, Travis? You're our only hope.
Well, the good news about Travis Hunter, and this is something I've really found interesting about his demeanor as a pro, is that 1, all the kid does is play football and go fishing. He's not a partier. He's not a drinker. He stays out of all that stuff, and it's a great thing to hear, especially when you're evaluating a prospect. I am the biggest Colorado hater. I've never been a fan of the whole Dion experiment. It's not been, trust me, it's public knowledge. Travis Hunter is the saving grace of that. I love everything this kid does. It started with him spurning Florida State to him playing both sides of the ball and doing it effectively. Do I question his physicality and he's got to put on a little weight, obviously. But dude, he's so raw at every single position that he puts his mind to. Receiver, excellent route runner, great hands, very good speed. As a corner, not afraid to make a tackle, great in coverage. I think he can get a little dominated by big physical receivers. Lucky for him, the only team that seems to have that in the division would obviously be Nico Collins down in Houston or Michael Pittman up in Indianapolis. But I think this is the best home run move for Jacksonville. They need to reset everything. The Doug Peterson era was a complete failure after 2022. And it is one of those things where you have to reset the whole culture. You have to put the whole like Liam Cohen's press conference behind it. You have to really show Jacksonville, hey, listen, we're here to change things and make it better. I think that Travis Hunter is a home run for them. Now, DJ, they could go out and draft Ashton Jeanty right now. That is a very real possibility. But this is Jacksonville. But I think with them trading Christian Kirk and letting Evan Ingram walk, they have to go get a pass catcher. Like Trevor Lawrence cannot throw to deck chairs. We saw what happened with that in Carson Wentz in 2019. Had an MVP caliber season and then got his bell broken in because there was no way to throw it to in the playoffs. Jacksonville knows they got to make a move here, and I think that the Jaguars moving up to make this trade, regardless of the compensation, is the right move.
Absolutely. And real quickly, the compensation they did get. So the Browns got 5th overall pick, 36th overall pick, 126, and next year's first from the Jaguars. The Jaguars will get number 2 overall, 104, and the 200th pick. So the Browns got an absolute haul. There was the draft day joke a little bit earlier, and they got a bit of a haul out of that one. They got 2 more first-round picks, or they got 2 first-round picks, second-round pick. They're loaded now. They can quickly rebuild quick, fast, in a hurry after a very rough contract and financial situation the last few years.
I don't think it's a bad move for either team. I'm very intrigued to see what Cleveland does at 5 now. We all thought, besides the rumor from Rap Sheet that broke, I believe, last night around 7 p.m. about this trade, there has been not a lot of speculation of what Cleveland's doing past Travis Hunter. Now, do they draft Shedeur Sanders at 5, DJ? That's my question to you. Because to me, it almost makes a little bit of sense now. So, or do they take Ashton Jeanty? Because we talked about this in the corner booth about an hour ago. Me, Nate, and Matt. Their best running backs are on Ford right now.
That's a good question. I don't think they take Shedeur there because you get that extra second-round pick and that extra ammunition. You can move back up into the first round easier, I think. So if he does slide, maybe go there. I do like the Ashton Jeanty thing like you talked. They had so much success with Nick Chubb. Why would not re-emulate that? We know how good Stefanski's offense runs with an elite running back. If he is there too, there is a chance that someone takes Jeanty here before that point. There's a chance they get jumped. Anything can happen there. I think they just move back. I wouldn't be surprised if they want to move back again because they do have a lot of holes. They need to get a lot of players on small contracts. If someone's willing to come up, I could see them moving back again.
Another team that we could see move up. We've heard a lot about Chicago moving up. And obviously a shout out to our boy Zach. He'll probably be on at some point because he's always around Bear stuff. But I think Chicago's one team that could move up because they know they want their running back. You know that in his first season, Johnson's going to want to establish a running game along with that passing game with Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze. I think the biggest thing right now is that we have to basically see what happens at 4 with New England. They're the key. If New England trades back to see, let's say, like Las Vegas, and Vegas trades up for Jeanty because they are about him. It's either going to be him or maybe possibly the tackle out of Texas or possibly Will Campbell. A lot of moving parts right here. The next 2 picks, I think, are going to really tell us post-Jacksonville how the draft is going to go for the next 10, 15 picks.
Absolutely. And thank you, Jared, so much for joining us. We appreciate you. We'll definitely be hearing from you here in just a little bit. But right now, the Jaguars are about to make the pick. We do expect it to be Travis Hunter in just a little bit. So, well, actually, Jared, well, I'll ask you really quickly, too, before we get out of here. Do the announcement as a corner or a receiver, or do they say corner/receiver? Because he has 3 draft cards made.
I'm going to say corner/receiver. He's been so adamant about it.
Do you think Jacksonville's drafting him for his receiver? Like, do you think they're looking at
more receiver than corner? I think they're going to do like cornerback packages for him, but it's going to be mostly receiver.
One thing my co-host Kelcey and I have talked about a lot too is he could play safety. You don't have to just put him on the island. You can move him around back there however you need. Like he could just be versatile Swiss Army knife on offense and defense. Don't put him at running back though. Don't subject him to
kind of like a
anywhere else,
DJ kind of thing.
like moving around Brian Branch. Like there's a lot of different ways that you could put him out there. But
Monster
as of right
back.
now, we are waiting for them to officially announce the pick. But as of right now, we're going to presume it is Travis Hunter, which I'm going to pose the question to you before the Giants get on the clock and we get our Giants experts in here. Does that mean Abdul Carter goes to the Giants, or do you think they look to trade back, or do you think this shakes things up a little bit for them at all?
So I had a conversation with a Giants fan about an hour and a half ago, and I said to them, what do you think's going to happen? I'm like, you want my honest opinion or what I think they should do? I think they should trade back, get more picks. They have a lot of holes to fill on that team. Go to trade back to 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. Get an extra pick on the board. Abdul Carter is kind of lumping strength on a strength. As much as it would help their franchise, they still have Thibodeau. They still have Burns. Maybe trade back to get more pieces, get a tackle later, maybe get a receiver or a quarterback as well later in the first round. There's a lot of things the Giants can do. I don't think taking a edge rusher at 3 is the smartest move. It's the sexiest pick, but it's not the best pick.
And if you do that, does that mean Kayvon Thibodeau's on the move then? That opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Well, he's definitely not going to get re-signed. That's the best thing I can say.
And the pick is official. It is Travis Hunter heading to Jacksonville. So they get the most versatile player in the draft, and a lot of people's top-rated player in the draft is heading to Jacksonville. So big shakeup out of the gate after last year's draft, where we didn't see a trade until, I think, pick number 10. This year we get one less than 10 minutes into the draft. But Jared, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again here shortly, as now the New York Football Giants are now taking over on the clock, and prepare for trouble and make it double, as we got 2 Giants experts joining us today. We got Nate from the Corner Booth and the 3rd and 10 podcast, and his co-host Brian is also joining us. Members of the 3rd and 10 podcast and adamant fans of the New York Football Giants. How are you doing today, guys?
Well, man, we're doing well, man. Excited for today. Brian, good to see you as always again, and DJ.
Yeah, no, Nate, it's been so long since I saw you.
I know, right? It's like I didn't see you this morning.
Someone's dogs are excited. They are barking because it is time. The Giants are on the clock.
That's my dog. I don't
He's
know what his deal. I don't know what his deal is. Maybe he's just happy for Travis Hunter.
Hey, you know what? He's happy the pick is on the clock. So I posed it to Jared. We're going to start the question with you guys right out of the gate. I'll start with you, Nate. What do you do here if you're the Giants? Travis Hunter's gone. Abdul Carter's right there, but there's a sense of redundancy, as we talked about, Jared. Do they move back? Do they stay put and just take the best guy? Do they go completely out of left field? What are we feeling, Nate?
Yeah, man. I think the best course of action for us is just stay at 3, get the best player available, which is Carter. I know we have a bunch of holes, but I tell you what, I like I discussed with Brian quite a few times so far in our recent episodes, that when we have success, it's usually because we have a good defense, and you get a guy like Abdul Carter. If he is officially the pick for us, he's someone that would, change our defense. You have a front 4 that's dominant with Burns, Lawrence, Thibodeau, and Carter. That's a formidable line that can compete against the tough teams in our division, which consists of Jared's Eagles and the Cowboys and the Commanders. So as much as I do want a quarterback, particularly Shadur Sanders, it's best if we get Carter and hopefully trade up later on in the draft tonight. So that's my thoughts there.
The nice part about having the nice part is you have Dexter Lawrence, who can make up for a lot of the undersized pass rushers or the smaller pass rushers. You just need a certain amount of girth on the defensive line, and he covers a good majority of himself. So, Brian, I'm going to pose the same question to you. What do we do with the Giants? Do you take Abdul Carter? Do we move around? What are we feeling?
I think you take Abdul Carter. As much as I would love to trade back and, accumulate a draft pick, especially if the rumors are true that we're trying to move back, into 20 through 25, get a bunch of draft picks and not have to give up too much to move up and get that. I think you stick with Abdul Carter. Like Nate said, we have so many great quarterbacks and great offense in the NFC East. I think it's, instead of trying to copy what they do, we go the opposite way. We kind of do what the Steelers did in the AFC North, where you build a just elite defense, have a strong running game, the wide receiver out left. And bringing Abdul Carter makes, an already great defensive line even better, and will, give guys like Jayden Daniels and Jalen Hurts a lot of problems coming into the next season.
Absolutely. The Giants have been known historically for their quote-unquote NASCAR package, winning the Super Bowls with all of those guys out there. If they do something like this, who slides inside then? Because Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Abdul Carter all combined weigh about Dexter Lawrence's forearm in the Campbell's commercial when he flexes through the sweatshirt. So my question is, who's playing in the middle? How do they balance that out? Nate, I'll start with you. Do you think they make that work, or do you also think Kayvon Thibodeau's probably going to be on the move?
I think to keep Thibodeau would be great. But, as you mentioned, we do run a 3-4 defense, right? So it's going to be tough to have all 4 of them on the field. So if anything, if Thibodeau is willing to, I think you move him to the inside and put Carter on the edge. I feel like Carter is more of an explosive guy. I mean, Carter can also play inside, but I just would rather have Carter on the outside because he's a bit faster than Tibbs. So if Tibbs willing to go inside and play his role, I'll take it. So.
It is worth noting too that this was his first year actually playing on the edge, so he does have experience as that off-ball linebacker,
That's true.
outside
Yes.
linebacker, middle linebacker. It's his first year truly rushing the passer. But Brian, I'll kind of pose it to you. Do you think he just takes Kayvon Thibodeau's spot, or do you think how do you see that bouncing out if they do keep everybody?
I think they will they move Kayvon inside and give Carter kind of at least to start the season the outside role. If Carter does end up struggling, maybe you do move him inside, try to get him more comfortable that way. But I think for starters, I think there's so much, especially when you're drafting him third overall, there's so much hype surrounding him. You have to start Carter on the edge and then move Kayvon, who has been good for us, but has been underwhelming and has not been consistency as consistent as some other guys picked this high. So maybe a move inside for him kind of helps him become a more consistent pass rusher.
Absolutely. And Nate posed the question earlier, so I'm going to circle back to it. Quarterback's obviously a huge need for the Giants. Jameis is going to get everyone riled up. The horses are ready for battle and dangerous. It can be dangerous for everybody on the field. What do we think the plan is at quarterback here? Because we're going to presume they're going with that dual Carter. I'm going to start with you, Brian. What do they leave this draft to the quarterback? How do they plan on going about that? What are your thoughts? What would you like to see them do?
They definitely leave this draft for the quarterback. I really do think, I wasn't sure this morning, but from reading everything I've seen, they're going to trade back up in this draft. I think the Vikings make a lot of sense for us to trade up. A team only has 4 picks this entire draft. I see we move up right there, maybe draft a Jackson Dart, maybe even a Jalen Milroe if Dart's off the board and Shedeur Sanders is off the board. But I really think Jackson Dart's the guy because we've heard Brian Dable loves him. And for all you saying that, Jackson Dart's this, Jackson Dart's that, Brian Dable has a great track record of having an eye for talent. He was big on C.J. Stroud, who's coming to the league, big on Jane Daniels and Drake May. All 3 have had relatively good success in the NFL so far. So if Dable likes it, I trust him.
And you know what? You know who he does love is he does have Abdul Carter. That is a pick is official. He is heading to New York. They take arguably the best player in the draft. Looks like everyone's excited for it. Looks like there's no qualms, concerns, or trepidations at this point.
Nope, not at all.
Not at all, man. Add to the defense, man, and hopefully we'll make other moves later on tonight to hopefully get back into the first round. But hey, we'll take it. Best player available. We love it. Finally, I'll be getting a new jersey for once. I haven't bought a jersey in years. So he'll be my first jersey in quite some time. Because the one I'm wearing right now is an old Saquon Barkley jersey that Jared clowned me for earlier on the corner booth.
I
So
would clown you too. You can't wear that to an Eagles fans podcast. What are you talking about?
I didn't have anything else. I had to wear something. So
you have a Giants t-shirt you could wear?
Yeah, but I felt like wearing a jersey today. But it's all good. I'm excited to have Carter, man. Officially, man. I never thought we would get him, honestly, a few months ago. But glad he's a Giant, man, and super excited to hopefully terrorize the NFC East offenses that he'll be dealing with for the next few years. So
one thing that's for sure is he's going to have a strong neck because that chain that he's wearing that says Abdul on it has got to weigh more than probably 2/3 of the people on the screen right now.
I like me some swag, man. I like me some swag, brother.
If Belly Up one, it pays nicely, you might have to get the chain instead of the jersey because that's going to last a lot longer. But
there you go.
Nate, Brian, I do appreciate you both for joining us. This is wonderful. Giants walking with Abdul Carter. Check out the 3rd and 10 podcast with both of these handsome devils. And of course, the corner booth with Nate as well. Appreciate you guys for joining us. And now we're going to move on from the NFC East to the AFC East. And the Giants are heading off the clock and they're going to be taking on a team that next up on the clock is a team that they are very familiar with. We have Kevin from the tailgate on the quad for the New England Patriots pick. And Kevin, appreciate you so much for joining us along the ride. And how are we feeling so far?
I'm ready to be hurt.
All right, we're ripping the Band-Aid off.
I'm ready to be hurt. I fully expect them to do something stupid. Which is weird to say. I feel like everyone's going to go, oh, the Patriots fan needs to shut up and get off my screen. But they, outside of Drake May, they've really not made any good drafting decisions for the past 10 years. And I have absolutely zero faith in this front office. You heard the story. A lot of people in New England at least heard the story last year. Chargers called and like, hey, we want the pick. We want your 2nd round pick. And they said, well, tell us if you're going offense or defense. The Chargers said, well, we're not telling you. Patriots front office, then we're not trading you the pick, and hung up. And then called back a minute later and said, actually, no, please take our pick. And then they took Ladd McConkey, who was a stud when the Patriots needed receivers. So, yeah, I have zero faith in Elliott Wolf and what this offense is going to do. My only saving grace is going to be the fact that Mike Vrabel might threaten to put them in a locker, and then they might act right.
I don't think it'll be a threat. I think it'll be a promise too with Mike Vrabel. But I want to ask you one thing too, really quickly. How do you feel about Josh McDaniels coming back as an OC? Miserable run as a head coach multiple times, but as New England's offensive coordinator, there's been some success.
It's tough because it always does come down to, do you need a specific kind of quarterback with Josh McDaniels? And this is not a knock on Drake May. I think he's amazing. But Tom Brady, and to a lesser extent, but still Mac Jones, their success in their game was based on intelligence. They were very cerebral players. They didn't have those athletic and physical traits you look for, but they could read a defense quick and they could get the ball where it needed to go. Will Drake May succeed in that sort of complex offense? Who knows? But it can't be much worse than last year. So I'm hopeful because this is also kind of what he does. He goes somewhere as a coach, isn't a good coach, gets upset when people talk trash about the Patriots in the building, and then goes back to New England and does well, and then someone else gives him a coaching job.
You know, I gotta ask, because you just kind of hit my question like nail on the head here. Is that why Joe Milton leaves in the offseason? Is that what happens between him and Josh McDaniels? Is that the dispute, or was it just best opportunity?
I think it was best opportunity. I mean, you took the guy in the 6th round last year. I've tweeted and made jokes about the Joe Milton experience, and a lot of Tennessee fans and SEC fans did this too, where he looked electric for 1 or 2 games, and then you're like, oh, this guy might actually lead us somewhere. And then he just starts doing Joe Milton things, throws the ball 20 yards out of bounds, completely misses his receiver in the flats. So I think it was best opportunity to get some value back. But also, I think the Patriots, and even though a lot of them were gone or weren't there yet at this point, they saw what happened with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. They saw Mac Jones struggled, whether you want to say that was because he's not a good quarterback or the team around him was garbage or somewhere in between. You saw Bailey Zappi come in and also struggle, but it wasn't Mac Jones, and he was a 4th-round pick. We're clamoring for that Tom Brady replacement. So they wanted to avoid that with this quarterback, so they shipped Milton out of town.
Yeah, that's fair. You know, the replacement for Tom Brady question. And, you know, not to harp on a quarterback continuously here, but like you look at this, and they've tried 3 different times now. Is Drake May the answer, or are we looking potentially at another situation where the Patriots maybe this year later in the draft or next year decide to make a shot on a quarterback?
I think this new staff, Mike Vrabel even said part of the reason he came to New England was Drake May. He showed flashes of, now he wasn't a Pro Bowl alternate his rookie year like Mac was, but he showed more flashes of being and I still love Mac Jones, so anyone watching, I'm not going against Mac, but Drake May showed more. He showed the potential that he will become more with his athletic traits, with the stronger arm. He still is an accurate quarterback. He's not completely missing throws. It's something he needs to work on. And I think they're going to give him a fair shake. They're going to let him play out the next 4 years, pick up the option, unless he falls off a cliff. But I don't anticipate that necessarily.
Absolutely. And right now the pick is in for New England. We are waiting for them to announce it, but they had the pick ready to go relatively quickly. So whoever they were thinking, they did not waste a whole lot of time considering, well, the first 3 picks minus who they went to, the players that went were pretty much what we expected. So what are your thoughts? Who do you think is pick number 4? What does your gut tell you, and what do you want?
I just want something that I can get excited about. I'm glad they're not trading back and going, oh, well, we're smarter than everyone. We'll pick someone later and show how we're right. My gut's telling me Will Campbell. I think the arm issue has been a little overblown. They are slightly undersized, but as an undersized person myself, you don't knock him for it. He can still be a very successful player. And I think if you're looking at his play and also some of the draft notes, they say, oh, the arms are short, but it was never, oh, that's a detriment. Something bad's happening because of his arm length. He's getting out leveraged, which is a knock on Membu, by the way. He's short and he gets out leveraged on the play. But yeah, Will Campbell's the one with short arms. I could see him potentially sliding to guard. I don't know if I necessarily trust the offensive line coach ever since Dante Scarnecchia left. The offensive line has been a mess. I don't know how I feel about them transitioning him and teaching him an entirely new position. But, and again, this with a caveat, Dante Scarnecchia, one of the greatest offensive line coaches in NFL history, was there. Logan Mankins, tackle out of Fresno State, moved to guard and had a 9-year NFL career, won some Super Bowls, is regarded as a great guard in NFL history. So I'd be okay with Will Campbell. I don't know why I've been talking myself into Ashton Genty too. And I've been hammering for the last decade. You don't take a running back this early. You can get a good one or a serviceable one in the third round, but I would 100% be okay with that.
Well, I'm glad you didn't talk yourself too far into it because the selection is in and it is Will Campbell. So they will be building that offensive line in front of Drake May. So I don't want to say chalk, but relatively expected in an area of need. And like you mentioned, short arms be DAMNED. That he'll be just fine.
Yeah, look, short arms when you're 6'6", you still have a reach of 6'5" with short arms. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? Like, the guy can reach 76 inches across. Like, what? How bad can that really be?
And they're going to prevent Drake May from getting killed. He gave up. Campbell gave up 5 sacks as a 3-year starter at LSU, which is 0.2% of plays where he is a tackle. He is giving up a sack. There were some questions in the season after a game. Well, this one looked like it's a sack Campbell gave up, but you didn't attribute it to him. So maybe there's 5 more, which is still 0.4% of snaps he plays. So I'm okay with it. I wasn't sure about it earlier in the week, but I think it is the right pick. If you think you can get a stud tackle, you pick them. And worst case scenario, you have a very good guard, which is something else you need.
Absolutely. The point is keep Drake May alive, and that's exactly what he's going to do. And he has a very strong college career of doing that. But Kev, go ahead and let everybody know where they could find you out so they can hear your reaction on the rest of the Patriots draft, as well as all things at football and college football as well.
You can follow me at BellyUpKev on Twitter and Instagram. Or am I supposed to call it X here? I'm not sure. I'm never going to stop calling it Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Okay, good. And then at Quad Tailgate, me and my co-host Kieran, we've been breaking down these guys for the last 3, 4, 5, 12 years for some of them, it seems. So check us out. We are doing off-season content. Tailgate in the Quad also, look us up on YouTube. We did release an episode this morning talking about the Big Ten's history. So that should be fun.
Absolutely. It's a great list, and definitely go check it out. Well, Kev, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. It was a pleasure to have you on, and I'm glad that they didn't hurt you too much this time. I'm glad that that's 2 drafts in a row in the first round. They didn't hurt you too much, at least. So we're going in the
I'm
right
proud of
direction.
them. They're showing progress. No N'Keal Harry's this year.
Well, they got to pick later to do that. When they pick early, it's fine. It's when they start getting good is when they falter. But thank you so much. We appreciate you having us with you, and hopefully no N'Keal Harry's moving forward.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And next up, we have the Cleveland Browns on the clock. And no, this isn't deja vu. No, it is not Groundhog Day. It is post-trade. And you know what? We have a special guest joining us for this one too. The other half of our dynamic duo of draft analysts, prospect rankers, and just following along with everything. We got our good friend Vince Stover from the Stove podcast. And Vince, wow, okay. We didn't have this one coming on. We weren't supposed to have you for the Browns pick, but you know what? Here we are. How do we feel about this trade?
Hey, I like it. I'm curious to see what happens. It sounds like there's some talk. Maybe they could move out of it as well. And I think now this is we always said, right? It started at 5, the draft did. It has gone chalk, in my opinion, at least according to my mock draft, with the exception of Jacksonville moving up. The players have been exactly in order as we expected. So now we get to 5. There's already a question mark. What's Jacksonville going to do? Are they going to go Ashton Genty? Are they going to go? It doesn't matter. Now we're with Cleveland. What's Cleveland going to do here? I love Jalen Carter. I think that there's very little room between him and Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker, between him and Abdul Carter. I think they're very similar in talent. I think that'd be a great addition. Obviously, when you've got the best edge rusher in the league, do you need to go with another edge rusher? No. You mentioned Ashton Genty earlier. I think it would be a great pick for the Browns to replace Nick Chubb with Ashton Genty. Would be awesome too. I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do here at 5.
I'm going to raise a question to both of you. I'm going to start with you, Kelcey, on this one because I'm going right after you with this one. Tommy Reese is an Alabama ties at offensive coordinator. Is this a Jalen Milroe sighting? He was invited to the draft. They know something we don't know. Is this a Jalen Milroe sighting?
They always talk about they invite the top 20 guys as the opportunity. I have a hard time thinking Jalen Milroe goes top 5. I will also say, as I said in the lead-in, quarterbacks are overdrafted year in and year out. Trey Lance is a perfect example. Zach Wilson, perfect example. Go down the list of quarterbacks that just disappoint in the top 5. It's not normally the first one taken. It's usually the second one taken. And guess what? We already have one off the board. So who's going to be the guy that's going to fall victim to this second quarterback situation? I hope for Jalen Milroe's sake he doesn't go to Cleveland because I think there's better opportunities for him. I don't think Shador goes here either. But then again, this pick got in so fast. Like, we don't know what they're about to do, but they were ready as soon as they got to 5 because somebody is sitting there that they were excited for at 5. And they got a bunch more draft picks later on in the draft. So despite all my Cleveland coworkers irritated, I'm literally getting texts blown up by the trade back. I will say, don't worry, guys. You'll be okay tomorrow and Saturday. But today, well, let's just not mess this one up. How about that?
Absolutely. And the pick is in, and they're taking Mason Graham. They're taking a Michigan guy is heading to the school down, as I said, not too far away, but he's heading to basically the Forbidden Land in Ohio, joining the Cleveland Browns. And you know what? This kind of makes sense because you have, like you said, we mentioned Myles Garrett, arguably the best pass rusher. Now you get Mason Graham, who is the clear best run stopper in this draft. Maybe some limitations as a pass rusher, but now you're going to force teams to basically have to throw the ball and let Myles Garrett just terrorize quarterbacks. So, Vince, what do you think on this one? A lot of very highly rated player, but a surprise at number 5, if you will.
Yeah, these last couple of days, all the talk has been short arms with him too, right? You hear it a lot with offensive linemen. Defensive lineman doesn't come up too often. All of a sudden it did. And it started making you think, is he going to slide a little bit in this draft? He's been clear-cut top 4 talent in this draft from day one. But all this talk moving around, what it seems like to me is Cleveland had him ranked up there, maybe even top of their board. And they said, if we take him at 2, we're going to get all kinds of grief. We can pick up some pieces. We can move down to 5. We can take him at 5. People go, that makes sense. It's a good pick. And we pick up more picks for this year too. Mason Graham's an incredible talent. He's going to fit right in Cleveland. I think it's wise to continue to stockpile on defense, get everything solid there, figure out everything else. They could not miss on a quarterback in the top 5. So they weren't going to take the quarterback in the top 5. And so Kelcey was just covering that. They'll take one in the second round. Maybe they'll trade up at the end of the first round. But at the end of the day, this pick was about best player on their board. And I think Mason Graham, I obviously didn't see their board. I wouldn't be surprised if Mason Graham was top or second on their board. And they're pretty happy with getting him here at 5.
Yeah, I love this pick for the Browns because everybody was so excited about getting an edge rusher, getting some kind of edge to go along with Myles Garrett. That doesn't make sense for Myles Garrett's standpoint. Myles Garrett has succeeded when there is a defensive tackle inside of him that demands an immediate double team close to him so he can be on the free guy on the outside. He's only getting a one-man or two with a tight end or a chip from a running back. Like, this makes sense for Cleveland's defense. They're trying to make Myles Garrett happy. That guy just got paid. You make him happy. Not only can he study archaeology down the road, but now he can actually sit here and enjoy this with a guy inside who is, Vince, you had him at number 5 on your board. I believe Jared had him at number 6 or 7. He was up there top 5 for both of them, or top 10 for both of you guys. I agree. I think he's a top 10 talent. And it's a situation where they knew ahead of time, like, all right, let's not go Abdul. Let's go get something that's going to really help Myles that we haven't tried before. Like, they've tried to get big guys, but they didn't really pan out. There's injury concerns, things like that. But this is one, they've tried the defensive tackle or the defense edge or rusher on the outside twice now with Clowney and Zadarius Smith last year. And then he get traded to Detroit. Like, those didn't work, obviously. So you needed option. This just made sense for what they were trying to do. I pulled up this comment because Browns be Brown, and every Browns fan is thinking that right now. And I'm sitting here like, this is the smartest thing the Haslams have ever done.
Yeah. Yes.
So
well, and you look at too, they gave up all their first round picks with Deshaun Watson. And so not only did they get a top level talent, they've actually replenished some of the picks that they lost. And you're looking at a team in Jacksonville that, they could be decent, obviously, but next year's first round pick, that could end up being a pretty nice little pick.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All it takes is slightly being off, and that's a really early pick. But Vince, thank you so much for joining us. We will definitely be hearing from you again soon for not too long. And be sure to check the scrolling bar at the bottom to see Vince as well as Jared's top 50 players as we go through the draft as well. But that's going to now move us on to the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. And not only are they on the clock, but the pick is already in. they handed that one to the fastest guy on their team and ran it right up there. And maybe they handed it to a running back.
Fastest guy. I was gonna say
was
the fastest guy on their team. I imagine after that, how quick that got in. I got to imagine this feels like a home run where they're going to go out and they're going to just slam down Ashton Genty's name. Now, I say that knowing full well one of our big board experts did put Amarian Hampton in this top 10 and might be a sneaky pick here for the Raiders to go make that first, as Vince said, after 5 is when the draft starts. This could be the first real upset pick in the draft if they don't decide to go with the chalk pick of Ashton Genty, which I really hope they're smart here.
Hey, you know what? They ran it right to the board. The pick is in, and they did take Ashton Genty, so they wasted no time. And wonderful pick. I know it's been the chalk pick for a lot of this. Weirdly, the players have all fallen where they're supposed to chalk-wise, even if the teams are shaken up so far through his first 6 picks. But I love this. That is an absolute workhorse. He's a 1,000-yard rusher out of the gate as long as the offensive line is in the top 31. And you get Geno Smith. I like this pick a lot. This makes a ton of sense. Pete Carroll's gonna love this.
Oh yeah, this is a Pete Carroll pick. Get the dominant, powerful running back early in your draft in your first couple years with a team. Anybody remember Marshawn Lynch? That's the type of guy that Pete Carroll loves. And I'm not saying Ashton Genty is Marshawn Lynch, but they're very similar body style wise in the way they run. They will run you over and they will seek contact every single time. They don't seek to run past somebody. They seek to run through somebody like Derrick Henry does. That's what you're getting here. That's what they're trying to do in Vegas with Pete Carroll and try to set that tone. I think this is the setting the tone pick. This is the one that's going to try to emphasize what they want to do. And you got to start somewhere some of these rebuilds, but running back was just an easy, safe bet after Jacobs being gone last year. It was obvious it didn't work last year with their tried numeral running back rotation, whatever you want to call that silliness. So hopefully this solves up a lot of that running back problems.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to jump from the Raiders to the New York Football Jets, and we're going to have our good friend Matt from the corner booth get ready to join us as well. And we're bringing him in quickly and abruptly here because that pick is already in too. So you know what? It looks like the draft is going exactly how everybody wants it so far because their pick is already in. Matt, how we feeling?
Jets, Jets. We're going tackle right here. I'm telling you, it's Membo. That's how I'm feeling.
You're feeling Armin Membo. So all right, that was the first question is how you feeling. But Armin Membo, how do you think he slides in at right tackle? How do you think he would make the immediate adjustment if it is Armin Membo? Do you think that with him, Elijah Vera Tucker and squad, do you think that refortifies the offensive line a bit?
I think so. I'm excited for it. I mean, listen, if it's Warren, I'm very happy. But I'm looking at Membo because this will be the first time the Jets have an entire offensive line that they pretty much have drafted, and minus John Simpson. But they would have Olu Fashanu, Tippmann, Vera Tucker, and Membo, or Kelvin Banks, whichever one they go. I would think that would just be a solid offensive line for Justin Fields and the future quarterback of this team, whoever it might be, because it's not Justin Fields. But as long as it's not Jackson Dart, I am perfectly happy. I would love Tyler Warren. We talked about it, DJ, in the pre-show. But I think right here, they have their eyes set on Armin Membo.
You know what? The way they ran that card in there, it was someone they were looking for and someone they were hoping to be here. So I think Armin Membo makes a ton of sense too. I like the Tyler Warren that you mentioned as well. I also wouldn't hate if they looked at corner to play opposite Sauce Gardner with DJ Reed. I think it'd be a reach here maybe, but
I wouldn't at all be upset with that. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of Brandon Stevens from Baltimore. He got burned a lot in the past years. If they were to take Barron or Will Johnson, I would be thrilled. I really don't think there's a bad choice that they can go here. If they were to go Jackson Dart, that would be horrible. That's the only thing that would really make me just chuck my drink through the window. But other than that, there's
horrible.
No. Other than that, there's so many holes on this team. They really can't go wrong unless they take Dart at 7. That is the only thing they could do wrong.
Yeah. Hopefully, we don't add more holes to your window. We don't want to do that. I know they've tried to cause enough damage to your house just by their own stupidity.
Oh yeah, no. Listen, I can't afford it, so it's not going to happen. But I mean, I would love for it to not be a thing.
Yeah, but I love the idea of going corner here. You touched on it. There's some not necessarily trust in the second corner for the Jets. Aaron Glenn, we know he is. We know he's a DB guy. We know he's a secondary guy. It almost makes too much sense if they decide to go corner here and shock everybody with this pick. But I still love Tyler Warren. I also, when we did our mock draft last night, DJ and I talked about this. I think a sneaky pick at tight end would be like a Colston Loveland that would fit perfectly with that reception style tight end they have enough blocking tight ends. You don't need another Jack Conklin out here. You need a guy that's going to go take the top off, and that's a possibility for a tight end there. But I mean, honestly, any one of these options I think is a great option. Membo, I think, is fantastic, as we talked about with Kev on the earlier. Maybe questions about his leverage, maybe questions about his arm length. But for you as a Jets fan, I mean, outside of Jackson Dart, if there's a shock pick here that you're going to hate, what is it other than a quarterback?
I mean, I guess if they were, because we've done this before, I guess if we reach on like safety, because safety is another big thing that this team lacks. I mean, we got Andre Cisco, great, but who on the other side, we have nobody. So if they were to take like a Malachi Starks or Emma Worry or Watts right here, I'd be very, very upset because that's just a huge reach in my opinion. We need help at linebacker, but I mean, Jalen Walker, I wouldn't be upset with at number 7 as well. But it's really just safety, I guess, because that's the one position that we need that I'd be very upset with if they address that at 7.
Yeah, I feel
Are
like
you
there's a great
surprised that they
opportunity.
didn't trade back? Were you thinking the Jets had a chance to trade back? Because I thought they were a trade back candidate, but the way they ran that card in, there was absolutely no qualms or trepidations about it whatsoever.
You know, I wasn't going to be upset at a trade back. That just means we're accumulating more picks, and we have some picks in the future that we're going to be losing from the Aaron Rodgers trade, from the Hassan Reddick trade, from the Devontae Adams trade. So I wouldn't have been upset if we traded back. But yeah, they submitted that pick really quick, so that tells me that they know exactly who they want. And with Will Campbell off the board, with Mason Graham, I believe, off the board, I think to me that tells me it's Membo. We will see. Even if it's Warren, I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
I also
Even
want
if
to
it's
mention
Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks is fine with me.
before we figure out who the pick is, Brees Hall reportedly could be made available. How are we feeling about that? And does this make you kind of wish Ashton Genty was available just to maybe quell those rumors or make them very clear?
No, I'm very comfortable and confident with Braylon Allen and or whoever they may draft at running back if they do trade Brees Hall. I think it makes sense. I don't want Brees Hall to leave the team. However, Brees Hall is one of 5 guys, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Brees Hall. That is 5 guys that we do need to pay within the next 1 to 2 seasons. And I think it makes sense to offload Brees Hall. I love Brees Hall. However, you know, there was a bunch of times last year where he had 13, 14, 15 carries for 30 yards, and you just need more production from that. And the offensive line wasn't that bad. Aaron Rodgers just could not move. If Aaron Rodgers could simply just run, the offensive line would have been much better statistically. However, the fact that he was a statue in the pocket, the offensive line looked bad. They're not really that bad. I think that it makes sense to move on from him just because that is one less contract that you need to have on that roster. However, I would love to keep him, but if they get rid of him, it makes sense just because he's one of 5 guys that they do have to pay within the next 1 to 2 years.
Absolutely. And I do want to just note really quickly, I know Kelcey had a quick question for you, but the Jets are finally starting to get their pick, and they ran that in quickly, but because of programming notes, they decided to make us wait, just like the Titans are having to do. But
Well,
the Jets are close to getting their pick in now, hopefully.
I think you guys are much far ahead of my TV, so I probably will hear from you guys first before my ESPN and or NFL network tells me who the pick is. So I am anxious to be surprised for this pick.
That's good.
Don't
We're
worry,
going to get
we
an
won't
authentic
spoil it
reaction
for you.
from you as it is. Roger Goodell is up at the board. I presume he's getting booed. Jets fans losing their mind. And rest easy, sweet Matt is Armand Membu, offensive lineman from Missouri, heading to the New York Jets.
That's who is coming to the Jets, or that's who you
Yep.
think?
No,
that's-
Armand Membu is coming to the Jets.
Oh, there we go. I love that pick. That's who I wanted. All right. I just saw him come up to the podium. He's saying his little thing. He's getting booed. My wife is cheering. Armand Membo on the TV. Okay. This is great. No, this is awesome. So we have Olu at the left tackle. You have Simpson at the left guard. You have Tippmann center. You got Vera Tucker right guard. And you got Membu at the right tackle. Perfect. Justin Fields, who is not going to be the quarterback of this team in 2026, is going to be protected at least for 2025. So I'll take it.
Him, Braylon Allen, and Brees Hall are going to run for 1,000 yards each, and Garrett
Listen,
Wilson
I
will
have
lead the
been-
team in receiving yards at 350.
I've been on the record for saying the Jets are going to have the best rushing offense in the league. However, they're probably going to have the bottom 6, bottom 7 passing offense in the league. But they're going to be running the ball crazy.
Hold on now. Don't forget, Justin Fields with DJ Moore was better than Caleb Williams and DJ Moore. Let's not forget that. Let's not get it twisted. The
It's
guy
also
knows
not
how to
for-
throw it to a talented receiver. That's all I'm saying.
Let's also not forget the guy probably averages about 150 yards passing per game. So let's just,
That's the modern day NFL. Let's be honest about that. Most of these modern day quarterbacks don't know how to throw it past the line of scrimmage, but also goes back to my quarterbacks are highly rated, a little too highly rated. Hopefully this pick though, going back to the Jets, I do hope this pick gets the Jets off this 24th rank for the offensive school for their offense, because this is a situation where you have talent across the board. You have offensive linemen for half of your line until now. Now you have a full line of at least 4 guys, 5 guys that you can throw out there that you feel really comfortable with. You can say they're above average in 4 out of the 5 positions. And you look at this 24th ranking, no matter how bad Justin Fields could play, you still feel like the rest of this team is built offensively to still be better than 24th. That's my vibe as a Jets fan. Are you hopeful for that?
No, you're 100% correct. I love the Membo pick because now that just means we have about 90% of our offensive line is just homegrown drafted guys. And all of them are great offensive linemen. I mean, like I said, Aaron Rodgers just couldn't move in the pocket, and that's why he got sacked so much, because he couldn't move at all. And I love this pick, and I think that just adds to the homegrown talent on the offensive line. And I think for the foreseeable future, we're going to have a strong line to protect the quarterback, whether it's Justin Fields or whoever it is going forward. But listen, I think this is great. I'm very happy for this, and I'm
So we're going to get an Armand Membo jersey here from you. Is that what's going to happen?
Probably not tonight. I've learned 2021 was the last time that I, instinctively bought a jersey just because of the Terramana that I was consuming. So I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I'll wait. But yeah, Armand Membo definitely in the future is going to be in my collection.
All right. Absolutely. I like it. I do love some offensive lineman jerseys, by the way. I would love to see nothing but people buying offensive lineman jerseys. Please bring that back. Yeah.
I appreciate that from the great Kelcey that has pancaked Nick Fairley in his time.
God, okay. One time, guys. One time, and then I was blown up 375 more.
One time is a lot more than one time is a lot more than a lot of people in America.
Yeah, well, fair. I got lucky once, and then then it didn't work out for me the rest of the 400 times we faced off.
You know what? Better lucky than good. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Go and let everybody know where they could check you out on your podcast every Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, every Monday and Thursday you can check us out at the Corner Booth Pod on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, X, Threads, at Corner Booth Pod, TikTok as well. I appreciate you guys. Listen, you guys do a lot for our show on every Thursday, and I just wanted to repay the favor to you guys. You guys mean a lot to me, and thank you for having me on, and I would love to do more for you in the future, but appreciate you guys. Corner Booth Pod on everything social media. You can follow us on and subscribe to us on everything.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Matt. We do appreciate you having us on as well, too. And that's going to now take us to pick number 8 on the board, the Carolina Panthers. And you know what? But by the time Matt was fully done reacting to his pick, the pick was already in. So just like the Jets, the Raiders, and it feels like the last few picks, the Panthers ran their pick in immediately, too. Feels like maybe Jalen Walker or something like that. But like whatever they wanted, it was sitting right there for him.
Yeah, there's too many options that are still available here. Look at the position he's here. Offensive line, edge, receiver. I think we're going to see 2 of these 3 on literally everybody's board going in for the rest of this draft, because there's so many offensive linemen that you can upgrade with in this draft, potentially, whether that be offensive line. No, you can even go into the edge situation. Let's not even forget interior defensive line is an opportunity in any of these positions. Now for Carolina, they don't need interior defensive line. They still have Derek Brown in there. They're good right now. But they do need to still figure it out, and we talked about this in our mock draft last night. They need to figure out who they're going to replace Brian Burns with still, and an edge rusher here just makes way too much sense for what they're trying to do. You got to figure it out. Like, you can't just keep, like, you got rid of Brian Burns, but what have you done since then to try to replace him? I don't know. But then, the other part of this is you're throwing to a 50-year-old Adam Thielen on the other side. It's no longer Adams 40 anymore that's out there. It's you're Adams 50. Like, you're over the hill almost at this point in time. And I love Adam Thielen, but he's not that guy anymore. He's not your number 1 target. He's a good guy to come in, third down. You need a clutch reception, get that first down and get down. But, man, he's not there for the situation of being a number 1 target for anybody, let alone for Bryce. And you hope that they're going to make a right decision here, whether it be receiver or, an edge rusher. But it's hard to think they're going to go anything different. But if they do, it's Carolina. I mean, this is talk about the Browns Browning. I think Carolina might be a close second in messing up draft picks.
Let me throw a proposition at you, because obviously they need edge, they need offensive line, they need a lot of things. What if you have Xavier Legette, a big-bodied, athletic X receiver? let's say you throw in something else a little more dynamic. What about if I threw a Matthew Golden type at you? Something along those lines. A speedster, a dynamic number 2 receiver to get Bryce Young, who took some serious strides at the end of last year. A bit of a reach, maybe, but you get a true speedster like that. What do we think about something like that to spice it up a little?
Yeah, paired with Xavier Legette, I think that is a great matchup. Those two guys side by side, it opens up the opportunity. I've always loved the switch routes, so where you have the inside the slot guy comes back and out up the field, runs a drag or a go down the sideline, but he cuts underneath the outside receiver. Outside receiver cuts it deep, runs a deep post. I love that situation for if you end up with a Matthew Golden type with him and Xavier Legette. You can interchange them. Legette is still a quick guy, but he's a big body quick guy. So you don't really need him to try to blow past anybody anymore when you have a Golden, because now you're going to pull a safety. You're going to overload one side. You're going to give every opportunity. And then you have Adam Thielen from the other side of the field dragging across the top and giving Bryce 3 options that are going to be open instead of right now he has a half an option that is open. And you're just hoping and praying that you can get the ball to him. He can see to get the ball to the receiver. So, this is a situation with if you go receiver, go Matthew Golden. That sounds a great idea. I do love Tet McMillan, but I don't think you need 2 big body guys here. I just think that doesn't match up in this situation. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to go receiver, Matthew Golden, I think is your best opportunity here to make an impact. And that's if you don't reach for a Trey Harris out of Ole Miss type of thing where small burner, but this would be a reach if they'd pull it. And that's where I'm going with that.
Well, they did make the pick during that, and they did go with Tet McMillan, the receiver out of Arizona. So I guess they split the difference between you don't love it, but you don't hate it. But Tet McMillan, 6'4", runs about a 4.5, very athletic, 24 forced missed tackles, which was among the tops with receivers last year. So for being a big body, he can boot, scoot, and boogie a little bit on the outside. Reminds me a lot of Drake London, the ball skills, the ability to play outside and move around. So I still like the pick. It's still a dynamic receiver, and it gives Bryce Young the, oh, goodness, I'm about to die. There's a big body out there on both sides now. So I like this, even though I presented Matthew Golden, I like this as another other option.
Yeah, it's one of those, it reminds me of the old 2002 Buccaneers, where you have 2 big body receivers. I believe it was Keyshawn and then Vincent Jackson, I believe, were the 2 out there, or Keyshawn and somebody built similar to Keyshawn. Or TJ Houshmandzadeh is what I look at a lot for Tet McMillan, where it's that big body. He runs clean routes. He gets open. Best receiver one of the best receivers in the game last year, even though his quarterback couldn't hit a broadside of a barn door. And you look at that opportunity. Bryce can get it close. Tet McMillan feels like a great opportunity for him. But we talk about a potential reach or a potential misfit. I think this was maybe not the best fit. But I've been wrong before about receivers. I mean, Mike Evans was supposed to be a guy that's a great number 2 option, and yet he's a walking 1010 type of guy. So take that for what it's worth. It depends on how they integrate him. But I think you're right. It's a bailout pick. Like Tet McMillan's going to be out there somewhere. So Bryce just throw it up over there. That's kind of the theory I feel like they're rolling with on this one.
Hey, Canales was in Tampa Bay, where you had Chris Godwin, who's pretty big size receiver, and Mike Evans, who's a massive receiver. So maybe a little emulation of that. So I like the pick, even though it wasn't I presented. I do want to point out too, we got an update from our producer Nate. The Giants will hold on to Kayvon Thibodeau and will accept his 5th-year option. So you know what? They are going full NASCAR package with Dexter Lawrence. You are responsible for being the girth on our defensive line. Everybody else go sprint to the quarterback. So a very intriguing idea, but I like what they're doing. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's like you got to try to do something new if you're and any one of these teams that's picking in the top 10. I'm not even going to just pick on the Giants because trust me, I could pick on the Giants for weeks, months, years, centuries, but I'm not going to. I love Nate, so I'm not going to do it to him. I think any team that's picking here in the top 10, they all have the same problem, and that's we need to make a change. We need to make an impact. We need to get that guy that's going to make an impact. That's why I don't necessarily like the Tet McMillan pick for Carolina, but they're trying something different. They've never had 2 big body receivers. They had Steve Smith for a decade and a half, and he's nothing like a big body receiver. He played big, but what, 5'10", 200 pounds soaking wet? Like that's mean, but I'm sorry, Steve Smith. I love you. You're a Hall of Famer, but that's the type of receivers they've always played with. And so Carolina trying something new with Dave Canales, with Bryce Young, maybe it's worth a chance. The Giants, obviously, they got to figure it out, but I think keeping Kayvon's a smart move on their part. We'll see what the rest of this top 10 shakes out with. Obviously, we only have 2 picks left in the top 10, but I think we're at the situation where some of these teams might start making a reach for that quote-unquote impact player is what they're kind of hoping for at this point, I imagine.
Well, speaking of potential reaches, the Saints are following suit. I think the draft board is falling perfectly for everyone as they had their pick up before we even had the graphic ready to go. They sprinted right to the board. Kellen Moore taking over at the helm as the head coach, basically shaking things up completely. Brandon Staley coming in on defense. After an incredible first 2 weeks where they were world beaters, well, you see the overall record and how it finished at that point as well. Derek Carr, there's a lot of questions if he's even going to be available this year. And if he is available, then Chris Olave might not want to play, considering the amount of times he's been sent to the hospital courtesy of a Derek Carr ball. So what are your thoughts here? The pick is in, so they rushed it quickly. Who do you think captivated their eyes so quickly? Who's heading to the Big Easy so in the snap of a finger?
Yeah, as much as I love the Kellen Moore hire here, I think pairing him with Brandon Staley is a very interesting thing that they did. And I want to go to our comment section for a second and pull this up, because where will Jalen Walker and Tyler Warren go? Well, one of these two sounds like a great fit in New Orleans. I'll let you figure out which one. But one of these two does feel like it's a great fit for New Orleans. The other one, probably not going to fit in well, considering they don't have a quarterback to throw the ball. But I think that's a situation where you look at this as I love Jalen Walker as an opportunity for these guys. I do love maybe if they go with Will Johnson. I'm a big Will Johnson stan here for New Orleans. Whenever we talked about this last night again, when we see New Orleans do well, they have solid corners, and you're trying to replace one of the best corners in your entire team's history. I mean, it's not a long history, but in your entire team's successful history, and you got to do that somewhere, and it's going to have to start with the draft. And I think Will Johnson's a guy. I know he's a Michigan guy. Some people love to hate Michigan, but he's a guy that's hard to hate at the end of the day. He does everything right. He reads routes well. He jumps on the ball. He has smooth hips. And for New Orleans, you need something. Again, you need an impact guy, and you need to get it somewhere. And you got to match up with now what is Tet McMillan on one side, Xavier Legette in Carolina, all the weapons in Atlanta, all the weapons still in Tampa. What are you going to do if you're New Orleans? You got to start matching up with that. So go get yourself a corner. Seems like the smartest pick.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what they're going to do. They're going to ignore everything you just said, and they're going to go to the trenches, and they're going to grab Kelvin Banks, the offensive lineman, out of Texas. So back-to-back years going with offensive linemen, and I love the pick. Now you pair him with Talisi Fuaga from last year. Who cares who's playing quarterback? They're going to be safe is basically what they're banking on at this point, which hopefully means no more panic hospital balls with whoever's playing quarterback. So I like the pick when you have so many holes and you're such a mess and you're in Kellen Moore's spot. He was just with the Eagles. Let's just get the front five loaded. Let's just figure that out. We'll deal with the rest later.
Yeah, Kellen Moore's, he was successful as a quarterback that was undersized and really, quote unquote, under-talented. He had a great mind for the game, but he was undersized and under-talented. He was great because he had great offensive line. He's going to looks like he's going to play the same playbook here in New Orleans. He did the same thing in Dallas. So it's no surprise. Obviously, he didn't do anything new in Philadelphia. Philadelphia already had a great line, so he just went there and was like, hey, we're going to keep being great, guys. Now in New Orleans, he gets to run the show. I think this is, for him, it's a make sense pick for the team needs currently. It is a little surprising. I'm not going to lie. I think it is a little surprising they went this, but I feel like this is also, well, he fit our board. Let's take him, because their boards are all private for us normal people. We don't know exactly what they weighted more than everything else. And we can assume, we can read off insiders, but Kellen Moore's a guy I don't want to try to figure out his brain either. So,
it's probably better safe than sorry not to. But in the blink of an eye, we went from New Orleans to the Chicago Bears, who not only on the clock, but they are following suit. They are rushing the pick in as well. I appreciate the speed of which we are going right now. Chicago Bears, a bit of a disappointing season. A lot of hype going into last year. Rookie quarterback, a good offseason. Finished 5-12, lowest rated offense. Shaking things up in the head coaching department. We could see Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen coming in. Big additions with Joe Thuney, Drew Dalman, and Grady Jarrett. Matt Eberflus is the biggest loss, honestly. They kept a lot of things. And you know what? I think they can take a best available player, whether it's Tyler Warren or Will Johnson or offensive line. Like they can be very versatile here with what they've done in the offseason.
Yeah, this is, don't overthink this if you're the Bears. Ryan Poles is still hanging on for dear life. That is a thing. It is do or die for Ryan Poles. This is, again, we go back a little bit backwards to the Titans when they drafted, and I talked about this. When you restart, you need to restart fresh. You can't keep a guy around that's from the old regime, because that's some of the old problems. And those old problems are going to rear their ugly head. And it did last year. Caleb looked lost, and he looked like he wasn't being led properly by anybody. And that's what's concerning if you're the Bears right now is, okay, so you just had a quarterback that was supposed to be the guy that changes things for you. And yes, the Bears still suck. But the guy that still is supposed to change things for you, and you watched him flounder all last season. What can you do when you bring in Ben Johnson? Is Ben Johnson the answer here? Because Declan Doyle is a play caller, but he is not a quarterback play caller. He is an offensive line, receiver, tight end play caller. He's not a quarterback play caller. Ben Johnson's the quarterback guy. And so can you have this and can it work for Caleb? And now with that in mind, when you're drafting these guys, who are you drafting to try to protect? Are you going to try to fix your 27th ranked defense? Or are you going to try to fix the all-time worst offense that you've had? Well, I shouldn't say all-time worst, but the last decade is the worst offense you've ever had. And that's some pretty bad offenses in that last decade for the Bears. So this is a situation where you have a lot to figure out. New head coach, GM hanging on by a thread, a quarterback there's a lot of questions about still. I didn't get a lot of answers about Caleb last year, truthfully. I questioned whether he was the right pick at 1 because I felt like he needed work. Last year almost proved me right. I'm not going to say it did because I don't want to put that weight on him yet. Like, I don't want to say, oh, yeah, stamp, he's not ready yet. Like, maybe he is. Maybe it was just a wrong situation last year. We're going to find out for real, but I think it starts with this pick. Like, I think you need an offensive lineman. I think you need something to give a weapon to Caleb that's going to succeed because Cole Kmet's an every once in a while guy. He's not an every game guy. Your receiving core, you have the best receiving core on paper and one of the best receiving cores on paper from 5 years ago, and then DJ Moore. And yeah, it didn't work out. Your offensive line looks to be in tatters. You can't get a solid offensive line. I think they rotated offensive linemen of their 17 games, 11 of the 17 games. So we're talking about a situation with the Bears, like you need to make an impact, you need to make a move, and offensive line just seems like the safest option here that they need something from.
Well, you know what? The Bears, the pick is in. There's a lot of different ways they could go with it. Roger Goodell's announcing it. Definitely getting booed. You are in Green Bay mentioning the Bears pick, so they absolutely have to get booed. So as we do wait for that pick to come in, I do want to mention, I do think they can go with a running back here. I think Omarion Hampton would be a wild pick, but when you think about the Ben Johnson factor, I think he is a very good pick here if they decide to go that direction, as well as Malachi Starks, because like you said, they got to get stops, especially dealing with the Lions and the Vikings. You need somebody to play over the top. So as we do await patiently for the pick to come in, we do have our good friend, the man, the myth, the legend, the king of the UFL and all things spring football, our good friend, Zach Heilman is joining us quickly for the Chicago Bears pick. Zach, how are we feeling, my guy?
You know, doing good. I'm with friends over here waiting to see what comes up here. But you know, with them, if they were going to trade back with Genty losing out, of course, to the Raiders at 6,
hell yeah,
kind of feels like it's more you're just trying to go with the, like your guys are talking, safe pick, maybe a lineman, you know, kind of invest more and get maybe an upgrade at the tackle position. So, you know, I'm not fully sold on the Tyler Warren option. I've seen some mock drafts with that. I'm hoping it's not him. But if they do, then it's an I mean, look, that otherwise, basically, the Warren pick's investing in like moving on from Cole Kmet later down the line. That's how I view it. So,
Jalen Walker.
And it looks
We'll
like
see.
the pick is in, and it looks like it is going to be Jalen Walker is what it sounds like it might be. If
Wow.
I'm not mistaken, if I heard that correctly. So looks like they'll be going to work on that defense and pairing up
Oh,
somebody
dude, Pollard.
with Montez Sweat. So
well, you know what? That was another one that I was okay with because of
we were lied to.
Yeah.
It is actually Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, is the pick they decided to make. So
Really?
they didn't even
Really?
They
I
decided
mean,
to
we're
take-
behind. So
Yeah,
no
this Colston
kidding.
Loveland is heading
You
to
love
the
it?
Bears. So all
Love
right,
it.
they're going playmakers. Zach, how are we feeling
Wow.
about that?
Well,
Loveland, I'll be honest with you, I like Loveland's playmaking ability over Warren, to be honest with you.
More complete, though. He has a lot
But,
of
you know, the thing is that Warren's more of, like, as my pal is saying over here, you know, the blocking ability is definitely what you lose there, is how I see it. So
And the
if you're going playmaker, absolutely with this pick, which I'm watching it for myself, right? Sorry. We're in a delay, so I'm watching Goodell kind of do his spiel because it's also Steve McMichael. You know, rest in peace to him. Mongo passing away yesterday.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Yeah, I'm surprised that as a Colston Loveland standing count, this hurts me because he was supposed to drop a few more spots, but it's a huge pickup for the Bears. I think it's a great one. So, Zach, scale of 1 to 10. Before I let you get back out of here, what do we rate this one? Scale of 1 to 10.
Yo.
You know, if I'm going to rate it 1 to 10, I'm going to go with a 7. I'll go with confident. I like Loveland's ability. I've always enjoyed what he's done in Michigan, so I think there's a ton of potential. My question is, are you picking him up to, you know, possibly do a better 1-2 punch at tight end, or are you trying to like do this to future-proof the position and maybe get better production than, say, what Cole Kmet's gotten in recent years? Which, I mean, that's up for debate. But I like the pick. Yeah, I mean, you can hear my buddy in the background here. He's great. He loves the draft. But no, I think it's a solid pick. And with Ben Johnson being at the helm, I think it adds a little bit more. There's more confidence that they'll use him in the right way. So crazy jump though. It feels like this is such a jump for him. Like it doesn't feel like he was in any realm on any of these drafts at that position for 10. So, but good for him. He's a talented athlete. He's been on the radar for years at Michigan. So great to see him get picked up. I think it's a good choice for this offense.
Absolutely. And Zach, we're going to let you get back to your party there, but thank you so much for joining us, giving us some insight. Check out Zach at everything you have
Addition to the whole lot.
as well too. So go check him out there for sure. We appreciate you for popping in with us and giving us a little Bears insight and sharing that OF moment, the first one of the entire draft.
I know, crazy stuff, guys. Catch you later. Keep doing some good work. Catch you on the flip.
Absolutely. Take it easy, boss man. Appreciate it. Well, the Bears shook things up for us out of the gate. And you know what? The 49ers, they promised to possibly be doing the same thing, as their pick was in very, very quickly. And you know what? We've had a lot go on in these first 10 picks, a little bit of chalk and a little bit of tomfoolery and some broken chalk and some paint thrown at the wall. I feel like we should bring in somebody with a little bit of a hometown feeling. By that, I mean his favorite team just happens to be where the draft is being held right now. So we're going to bring in our good friend Vince as well to just kind of go over what's been happening. So Vince, everything up until just the last 10 seconds kind of made sense. And now I'm kind of shaking my head like, what just happened?
Well, I was just typing into the YouTube chat that as a Packer fan, I love the selection for the Bears. I think Loveland is a good player, and I think he's going to be very good for the Bears. But he's not Ashton Genty. He's not Jalen Walker. He's not Michael Williams. You know, he's fine. He's a tight end. He's going to be a very good tight end. But as a Packer fan, I go, okay, I like that a lot because I think the Bears will get a running back in the second round or even trade into the back end of the first to go get a guy so that Ben Johnson can have that 1-2 punch. And there's going to be Travion Henderson down there, maybe even Omari Hampton. But I think Loveland's a great player, but as a fan of an opposing team, it doesn't scare me at all. So I like that. But to answer your question, yes, now we're getting to the fun part of the draft where it's not going as planned, where we're going. And I honestly, Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland, everybody had them very close together. They said they're the top two tight ends, no question. They're going to go in the top 14 is the guess. Most people thought, Warren, obviously I thought Warren would go first as well. He didn't. And you start looking at these teams now that are coming up over the next 5 to 7 picks. You're going, my goodness, there's some really good players falling. Kelcey, you talked about Will Johnson earlier. It seemed like with his speed issues, he was going to fall a little bit, but he's still sitting there. Jalen Walker, I'm telling you, he's an incredible ball player. And I think he has Micah Parsons' similarity to him. And for him to continue to fall, would be a great pick for San Francisco, would be a great pick for anyone at this point, a value pick, no doubt about it. Michael Williams, really good as well. I've got him after Walker, though, in my personal opinion. On my big board right now, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, and Tyler Warren are the three that are left in the top 10. And I think any three of these, and I've said that I think for the 49ers tight end makes some sense because of Kittle's age and where he's at. They've lost Deebo Samuel. They need some playmakers too. And I don't think there's any receiver worth this pick. I didn't think any receiver should have been taken yet. So with Ted McMillan going to the Panthers, I'm going, I don't know that I would have gone there, but hey, that's what they get paid to do. So I think there's so many options right now for San Francisco, and not only them, but you start looking at these teams, Dallas, Miami, Indianapolis, like gracious, they're going to get some really good football players.
I have one quick question before he goes. Do you think anyone's going to trade up in these next 4 picks? Because especially Tyler Warren, Jalen Walker, those guys trying to slip. Do we see somebody jump right here? Because, this is kind of a spot where someone in the 20s might be like, oh, I want Tyler Warren. I want Jalen Walker. I want Will Johnson. Do you think we see a trade in the next few picks after the 49ers, who have already sent theirs in quickly?
I think Indianapolis and Cincinnati are the teams to watch right now. I think Indianapolis for tight end, now that one's gone, now listen, Tyler Warren would be an amazing pick for Indianapolis, but they have other needs too. So we'll see. Cincinnati, even jumping up to get an edge rusher, going up to get a tight end, whatever it may be. I think those are the two teams. And then Denver's always a wild card. They love to come up in the draft. I don't know what they would be going for. They could go up for Tyler Warren, but I don't know that they should, but they might. And so I think those are the three teams that I'd watch for right now as far as trading up goes.
Yeah. Now Vince, before we go ahead and let you go, but before that goes, what's the more shocking pick? Tet McMillan or Colston Loveland? Let's throw Kelvin Banks in this so far. What's one of the three is the more shocking so far of the top 10?
I would say probably Loveland, only because Carolina can't surprise me.
Fair point.
So if it wasn't Carolina that picked, if it was the Jets that took Tet McMillan, I would say McMillan. But to me, it's Loveland was the safest of the picks. The other two guys have these high ceilings, and if they work out, it'll be a great pick. But they also have low floors that, you go, if that doesn't work out, those guys are getting fired very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's fair. I look at that Tet McMillan one that's still, like you said earlier, it just shocks me, but it doesn't because it feels like the most Panthers thing they could have done.
Yeah.
I want to say, though, for the Bears, I'm intrigued now. They can run a 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end set with a running back in there. And who's going to match up realistically with Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland, DJ Moore, and insert other receiver here with, I'm assuming, Roma Dunze? Who's going to match up with those 4 and then a running back out of the backfield? That's a tough matchup for anybody. And you specifically talk about the NFC North. Cornerbacks in that division, there's some question marks across the board for who can match up with that. So that's something maybe that Ben Johnson's looking at as like, potentially this is my solution.
Yeah, and let's see how the NFC North responds. Do we see Nick Emmanwori and Malachi Starks go to the NFC North now because they can cover tight ends as well as play run defense? Does that impact a little bit of the mindset now? Which team in the North is making all the other teams react to them? Is it Chicago? Is it Detroit? Let's see how that plays out a little bit too. Because you're right. Roma Dunze's great. And they're a good chance they could go running back or wide receiver in the second round and add to that offensive, firepower. So, and Kmet's really good too. So, and they just paid Kmet. So
if he shows
you got to
up,
expect they're going to use it.
If he shows up in the games against the NFC North, he's pretty good. That's always my question with Cole Kmet is this going to be the game he shows up, or is this going to be the game he's thrown at 3 times and drops all 3? Those are always my questions with him. So
I'm going to pop this post up really quickly because they were hoping and praying Michael Williams would fall to the Falcons at 15, but he is not going to fall past 11, as that is going to be the San Francisco 49ers pick, taking a Georgia edge rusher, but not the one that Vince was thinking of, is they will go with Michael Williams and his pterodactyl-like arms. So what are we thinking here, guys? Just real quickly, how do we feel about Michael Williams going at pick 11?
Listen, I like Michael Williams. I just feel like Walker gave you a little bit more versatility where he could jump inside and outside. But Michael Williams is a really good football player. He was number 8 on my big board. So I think they're getting a great value. I think he fits San Francisco. They can plop him right in on the edge and I think pick up production right where they left off.
Yeah. I think Michael fits their defensive formation better. I think with Jalen Walker, you have that. Does he really fit the edge role? Does he fit the outside down lineman role? You don't really know where he slides into there. With Michael Williams, he fits that outside role. He fits the opposite Nick Bosa role. Like, that is his role. That's his job. You go do this every single time. And you're going to get those opportunities now. You can bring him in a pass rush down, and you're just like, all right, just run upfield and keep the quarterback contained, and Nick Bosa is going to get the sack for you, or vice versa. Nick Bosa holds the edge, and on the back end, Michael Williams is able to get a sack for you. This is what the 49ers do. Clay Kubiak on the offensive side is going to figure it out, but Robert Saleh on the defensive side, let's not forget how crucial this decision to add him back to the staff is, because now we know how good he is as a DC. Now you give him this type of guy to mold. I love this opportunity for the Niners.
Well, Kelcey, where your Cowboys are on the clock and they have made their pick. Vince, thank you so much for joining us. We'll check back in with you in just a minute. Kelcey, we're a little bit late to get the Cowboys rushed in quickly, but they're not only they're taking an offensive lineman, but they're taking Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama. So how do we feel about it?
He wouldn't have been the pick for me out of Alabama here, personally. If you're going to go take with an offensive lineman, there were other opportunities that I think I liked more. But all that said, they're trying, I guess. It's not a Cole Strange pick. Let's go there. It's not Cole Strange being picked by a dog. It's It's also not a Tyler Still questionable, maybe a little too early pick. This, I'll say it makes sense where they're at. Like, if you don't get him now, you're not going to get him in the next round, and you're not going to get him even if you trade it into 25 to 32. So this is a situation for them. I think this just checks out. But there's questions whether he's going to be good. Like, guards out of Alabama are the one position out of Alabama's offensive line that I do worry about more than everything else. Give me a center and I will move him to guard and he'll be successful. Give me a tackle and I can move him to guard and he's going to be successful. Give me a guard. I don't know if he's going to hold every play or not. That's how that ends up working out. So I don't hate it. I really don't, but I don't love it. I'm just really glad right now I'm a free agent fan and I'm able to just kind of enjoy this, because this, if I'm like really digging down into my emotions with this one and how it would make me feel as a Cowboys fan, I think there was a better opportunity. Cough, cough, Tyler Warren. Cough, 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 cough. End of cough. Or Amari and Hampton.
Yeah, this would not have been the pick for me either. That's for sure. But
yeah,
you know what the good news is, as you said, you're
it.
a free agent, so this doesn't have to hurt you too bad. Anyone who wants to try and get Kelcey to join their fandom, be sure to message us at High Low Sports on everything and make your pitch. But the Miami Dolphins are on the clock at pick number 13. They have not rushed their pick in yet, so I have to imagine they're fielding trades or phone calls. So that's where we're going to go and bring in our good friend from the corner booth. Jared is going to join us, our draft expert. And Jared, this feels like a very prime spot for people to come make a trade, because we've seen a little bit of tomfoolery the last few picks compared to the chalk top 8.
So the Dolphins are a weird team. We'll just stay off the bat. We've talked about it. I believe Kelcey, you were on the show last week with us. We talked about their cap space is abysmal. That's why they're trying to move Jalen Ramsey. Now, could he be moved as part of this whole package? Maybe. The biggest thing is right now, they need offensive line, defensive line help. They need defensive backs. Heck, they need everything. For me, the smart move would be to trade back, obviously. Now, would it be a team like my Eagles moving up to go get a guy like Walter Nolan who's filled on some boards, or a kid like Jalen Walker, or one of these other guys? Very possible. Or you could see teams like the Giants move back in, like Nate talked about earlier, to go get a quarterback, or a team like Pittsburgh coming up to go get one of the guys. It's a very weird spot right now. And the fact that you said, DJ, the pick has not been made yet, there is a lot of possibilities here. This could also just be them going out and taking whatever the next tackle available is. So there's a weird kind of dynamic to this pick right here. And also, DJ, with your Colts with the following pick now, with a certain tight end out of Penn State sitting there prime for the taking.
I imagine that this is why they haven't made a pick yet. So someone's going to look to try and jump the Colts and take him here. Maybe someone who's back there. Maybe it's like the Broncos or something like that. It's like, we kind of want to go get him. We didn't expect him to be here, because they were talking about
maybe the Bengals.
Maybe the Bengals, who would literally neglect their defense to get another offensive player after signing Gesicki. So I think this is a very live option to trade.
And I just think the Bengals need to really focus on that defense and not go get a tight end here.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm sitting here
there's
like,
no question.
am I taking crazy pills? Like,
No,
what am I supposed to go?
10 out of 10, they should have been focusing on their defense like the last 2 years in the draft, and they refused to do that. So much so they're drafting players out of Alabama that weren't ready to go in the first round, in the second round, and you're like, what's going on here? No, that makes sense for them. But, I want to go to the Dolphins, back to the Dolphins for a second, actually, before I get there, because they do have an Alabama quarterback. I want to go to the comments for a second. I don't know if you guys saw these during the Cowboys pick, but obviously I mentioned that there would be a Bama pick for Dallas would have been my first pick. And Kev, obviously, the Bama fan. Jalen Milroe, it's not Jalen, but both him and Blaine, same commentary, followed by Blaine hitting me with the Dak should have been traded down. I do agree Dak traded would have been a smart idea. No, I would have looked at Jahad Campbell as my guy from Alabama. That's where I would have gone. But no, I think for the Dolphins, the reason I talk about Alabama quarterback, that's a big question mark going forward for Mike McDaniel, for this offense. They were ranked 18th last year, and that's with Tua only playing half the season, if that. Like, effectively less than half the season. And so if you can get a quarterback in there, this team is still prone to succeed. They are good offensively. They are talented offensively. Their defense has holes, can be fixed. But you look at this team and there's an opportunity, if you can figure out how either A, Tua getting healthy, or B, a solid backup ready to take over, you have an opportunity for the Dolphins. And God forbid, Matt, if you're listening, I'm sorry for saying this out loud. Patriots fans, I'm sorry for saying this out loud. Bills fans, I'm sorry for saying this out loud. You can win 14 games. You can take this division easily if you have a quarterback that can play, because you have weapons in Tyreek if he's still able to play. We'll see. But you still have Jalen Waddle. you still have a tight end that can play. That's why I don't think they go Tyler Warren here. Like there's opportunity left and right. It's just a matter of getting it figured out.
I will say too, Miami, the pick is in, so they are not trading out of it. So they will be sticking and picking. So it is not quite the trade opportunity here. So we're gonna go around the horn really quick. I'm gonna jump right back to you, Jared. Who do you think they take here? Who's your thought on your looking at your big board? Who's available? Who do you think is the guy they take here?
Either Gray Zabel or Josh Simmons. They're going offensive line.
Gray Zabel would be a perfect fit here. He mauls people. And you can play
wild card. Give me the kid out of Texas. The cornerback Barron as like a wild card.
I thought you were gonna say Matthew Golden, and they just went full on the 14 speed receivers.
You know what? They're saying screw it. We're going for it. We're trying to beat teams 70 to 65 every week.
We are playing straight man from now on. Kelcey, what are we thinking right now for the Dolphins?
Will Johnson seems like a safe pick for this team that needs a corner. I think that's where I'm going. But I think if you're not going to go there, I do think I agree with Jared and you go offensive line. And I actually like the second guy he said more than the first guy in Josh Simmons. I think Simmons is a much better opportunity here in Miami. Or if you want a really big reach, and this is a really big reach for where they're at, but Josh Connerly later in like most of you guys' big boards have him later. I think those two offensive linemen are a great position fit for the Dolphins and what they want to do. But I think realistically, Will Johnson would be my pick for this situation, but that's on me.
I'm going to shake it up between you guys. I'm going to say the safety. We're going to go with Malachi Starks out of Georgia. They need to replace Javon Holland. They need some. You want him to drop. That's why you shake your head. I really want him to drop. They could use a ball hawk safety back there. We don't know the future with Jalen Ramsey. You just need somebody to get the ball back to that offense. You need somebody to stop. I know their defense was 4th in yards, but they didn't take the ball away a lot, and they did let off points. So I think someone like Starks would be just a good game breaker back there. We saw what Jesse Bates did for the Bengals. I think Malachi Starks can play comparatively if he hits his peak, obviously. So I kind of like that pick.
I'm going to throw this idea out there. DJ, you and I have talked about this before. I haven't talked about this very often with Jared. I don't think seriously at all. Jalen, he's so good at reading the ball. He's so good at his zone defensive position as a corner. Move him to safety.
You brought this up on my show before.
Yeah, bring him to put him to safety. Draft Will Johnson. Push Jalen as a safety. See if he's willing to go as a safety. Draft Will Johnson if he is, and you keep Jalen in Miami where he enjoys his life, and you're going to have him for another 5 years, and you get a young rookie guy 4 or 5 years on a rookie contract that you can trust since you just shipped out Javon Holland and as your safety. You need to fill these holes, and so for me personally, like, please, dear God, think about it, Miami. Just consider the
deal, though. You got it because they're in cap hell right now.
Well, they listened to a little bit. We said they did stay with the University of Michigan, but they went with Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle, to fill in there. So you know what? That's a good pick too, because you need defensive linemen. And by the way, I want to point out how good that Michigan team was a few years ago. We already have 3 players from that team that won the Natty taken in the top 13 picks, and not one of them is named Will Johnson yet. That's how
none of them have lost to Ohio State at all in their playing career.
Which is
that on top of it too.
Just throwing that out there for Ohio State fans listening. We're living in the state of Ohio, and I do feel bad if one of my coworkers is listening because he did just send me a text about Ohio State needing to be like a Easter egg in my background. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there that none of these Michigan guys have lost to Ohio State at all, despite Ohio State being a national champion.
And now we got Kenneth Grant, the quote unquote the other defensive tackle from Michigan, who a lot of people actually had higher than Mason Graham, depending on who you talk to. But so I want to ask you guys, we'll start with Jared. What do we think of this pick? I like it a lot. I think it's a good fit. You need to replace Christian Wilkins, and Kenneth Grant's really good.
One of my favorite things about Kenneth Grant is I looked at him and Mason Graham kind of like how the Eagles view Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. One is the athletic freak, breaking up tackles, impossible to block one-on-one. And the other one is the run stopper, double team absorber, is just a wedge in the offensive line. And Kenneth Grant is perfect for that in Miami. You know, you have all these talented edge rushers with Jalen Phillips and Chop Robinson. Why not get a guy in the middle who's going to make it really hard to run the football on them? I was a bigger fan. I love Graham. The problem was I knew he was going to go so early that there was no chance any team outside the top 5 was going to get him. But with Kenneth Grant, you could see him fall as far as I had him at one point. I think one of my big boards, I had him dropping to 26 in my last mock draft because I just see teams sometimes overlook defensive tackle unless they're winning teams. And the Dolphins making a smart pick here, taking a guy who's going to absorb a lot of double teams and really just kind of solidify a run defense that was abysmal last year. So I love him.
Can we repeat this same commentary that I had for Mason earlier right here for Kenneth Grant when I talked about getting the defensive end and getting Myles Garrett open on the outside for Cleveland and letting him go one-on-one. Jalen Phillips is going to feast this year with this Kenneth Grant situation. This is an opportunity that they have to just destroy defense. I look at this. Their defense was good last year. Their defense was great last year. And if they can get a modicum of the same results from their DBs and your defensive line can step up, as DJ said, replace that Christian Wilkins hole, which this might be a body fit for replacing that Christian Wilkins hole. This is a great situation where you just are just making a smart play for the Dolphins. So I don't hate it at all. I do like Kenneth Grant. He was, for me, he was higher than Mason Graham initially, and then he was in my top 10 initially.
By the way, guys, the Colts pick is in, and they did not screw it up. They went with Tyler Warren. They took the best player on the board. He's staying in Big Ten country. So you know what? Kudos to the Colts. They didn't screw it up this year like they did last year. So I'm not going to short circuit on the show. So congratulations, Colts.
I was ready.
He could play quarterback for you now because you need somebody to take the snaps. But in all seriousness, it's a great pick. You needed a tight end. You haven't had a good tight end in 2 decades. And now you have one that can literally snap the ball, throw the ball. We've seen the movie Friday Night Lights, and he can pass. He's going to be Booby Miles for him. So
hopefully without the major knee injury.
This may be one of my favorite value picks of the draft right here. This is the opposite of what they did last year at 15. This is the exact opposite.
You get a blue chip, arguable top 7 guy at pick 13, 14. So that's a wonderful pick there. No complaints here, but we're going to scoot right past one. Jared, thank you so much for popping this. We will hear from you again here very, very shortly. The reason we're going to scoot past the Colts and not let me live in my joy is we have the Atlanta Falcons on the clock, and we have another member of the Belly Up Sports crew join us, and Stacey Morgan from Morgan Man Sports. How are we doing tonight, Stacey?
What's going on, guys? It is an honor to be a part of this live stream right here, and I'm super excited to see if the Falcons do Falcon it up this year, or we actually do draft an edge rusher that we desperately need.
Look, they haven't. You guys have. You guys have the perfect opportunity. Jared just left right there. His last line, one of his last lines was, "That's the best value pick so far in this draft." We might need to get that in a quote to repeat if Atlanta pulls off the right move here, because there's an edge rusher from that state, not too far away from Atlanta, that can easily make the drive down and start playing on Sundays. I think this is a great opportunity for your point there, Stacey. And looking at this team, obviously that's been a position struggle. They've tried to fill it a lot of years. Like, what do you look at beyond just defensive edge? Like, where else can this team go that would make sense to you right now?
I mean, honestly, outside of the entire defense, we let Grady Jarrett go to the Chicago Bears, so definitely a D lineman could be in the mix at this 15th overall position. Outside of the edge rusher, corner most definitely is another spot to go towards, but edge is definitely that one position that you just got to have, I believe, this year.
Yeah, I do have to go to the comment we just popped up for a second. I need to get your take on that. Could Atlanta take another rookie quarterback? If they do, how do you feel if that's the random shock pick that they end up making? Pulling both Sanders, by the way, father and son. Let's just not forget that tie into all that conversation.
Sell the team. Just sell the team right now.
I don't know if I would go that far. I do love your guys' concession stand pricing. If there's nobody knows, literally the best prices in all sports across the world. It's insane. So yeah, gotta say their pricing is like $2 for a dog, $3 for a drink that you can refill. What? I'm sorry, you get free refills at a stadium? Sign me up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Shoot, you get like chicken tenders, hot dogs, nachos. I mean, it's like a 5-course meal for under $20.
It's insane. If anything's going right for Atlanta, it's definitely that. Obviously, you guys have the talented receiving core, but like I'll put that aside. If we were talking about concessions here as a fan, I'm gonna enjoy my time. But you'd think they'd be able to entice a couple offensive linemen and defensive linemen with those type of prices, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, outside of UGA football, I really don't watch much other college teams unless it is Alabama or LSU or Florida. But outside of UGA, I mean, I'm not too fond of many players outside of the UGA atmosphere, but definitely having an O lineman could be a possibility this year, but maybe fourth round.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And I do want to note that. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, I was just saying 4th round for an offensive lineman in this draft is actually a pretty big steal if you can get a couple of these 4th rounders. There's a couple good ones buried down there.
Absolutely. I want to note too that we have about 3 minutes left on the clock, and Atlanta has not sprinted their pick in. So possibly they're fielding some calls. Maybe they're thinking about it. Maybe they're calling Shedeur like, look, I know this is out of left field, but we're going to do this. But I think I'm very curious because they are taking their time. Obviously, Jalen Walker, a lot of those guys make sense. I think this is the year they have to do defense, as you guys mentioned earlier too. Like you use your last 5 picks on offense. You built that offense very kindly to the point where Kirk Cousins is now sitting on the bench. So I think somewhere on defense, whether it's you don't really need safety, but I mean, you can't go wrong there. You can always add a corner, but I kind of agree. I think edge is the way to go. Offensive line, as you mentioned, but Stacey, I'm kind of curious if they do decide to trade back, how far would you want them to trade back where you feel comfortable?
I would say at least about mid-20s right in there, because you definitely don't want to miss out on a great opportunity for star-studded players like a Mike Green out of Marshall University, which I feel like that would be the pick if the Falcons do stay at the 15th overall position. But still, mid-20s, still a good position to really get someone of a value on the edge position.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
You just spoke my favorite draft darling of this year in Mike Green into existence. Mike Green is my favorite edge. That's going to be a sneaky pick here. That wasn't a top 5 guy. That's like he's where outside of Abdul Carter, Mike Green was my next best available. He's raw, but he's talented. He's going to be a guy that's impactful. And I think in the NFL, you need that combo guy as an edge, which is where he's raw. He's raw in the coverage aspect of being an edge, but letting him go pass rush, he does well. Letting him protect against the run, does a great job of holding the edge. If there's a defensive edge, a lineman, defensive edge rusher that you want to pick, you mentioned Mike Green. We obviously talked about Jalen a minute ago. Is there another guy you're looking at here as like, you know what? Maybe this is the guy that's our solution, whether it's a defensive tackle, any defensive side, because let's be honest, that's what they need. They have Leonard Floyd. They got Jordan Fuller. They still need more defense here. They had 2 great safeties last year, and somehow that defense still didn't look good. And so, like, this year, what is, like, outside of the top 2 guys that make sense that we just talked about, who else could you potentially see them going with?
Well, I could see potentially 1 or 2 people right here. Will Johnson from Michigan or Jahdae Barron, who I actually had picked in my podcast last week from Texas University. Definitely AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates, all of them. They're good, but they still need a little bit more help in that secondary. And I feel like Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron could be that solution.
Yeah, no, we all know Jahdae Barron knows how to play in Atlanta. So what they were able to do in Texas a couple years ago and last year, he knows how to play there. He succeeds well. And obviously we talked about Will Johnson with a couple picks here. I think he's still a smart pick for anybody who needs defensive help, especially corner help. But I agree with you on a lot of those.
Absolutely. And the pick is actually into, so Atlanta will be picking here. They took their sweet time. They definitely, I don't know if it was like the halftime break or what it was, but they looked through it. They combed through it. So we kind of talk a little bit about, so while we wait for the pick, we have a quick thing in the comments. We're in who are the Vikings drafting? So I figure we'll take a quick pivot here while we wait for him, because we know we got some guys curious. I'm gonna say Nick Emenwari, the safety. I think he's gonna fall to them, and Brian Flores is gonna have way too much fun with it.
Yeah. Can I be honest and say Will Johnson falls that far? Because at the rate we're going, it doesn't seem like the craziest thing that he falls that far. By the way, if he falls that far, any team who needs corner, please trade up before the Vikings get there. But they seem to have a terrible track record with first round draft picks as a corner. But Will Johnson seems like it's going to happen. And if it's not Will Johnson, I think you have an opportunity there with like Walter Nolan to get a guy.
By the way, so you mentioned Walter Nolan. I think he's a great pick here for Atlanta too. I think I know there were some questions with it, but a twitchy defensive tackle who could cause absolute chaos in the middle to replace Grady Jarrett, who had 3 sacks in a Super Bowl. That's some production you definitely want to bring back in there. Eddie Goldman's a different type of defensive tackle. He's the nose tackle. He takes up space, and good luck getting around him. You got to replace both of those. If you get somebody like Walter Nolan, we've seen defensive tackles. It's the best position group in the class, arguably the deepest, and they have not wasted any time taking them off the board. We already got 3 down, if my math is correct. So
can I go back to the earlier part of the draft where I'm like, please take more defensive tackles. Don't take as many quarterbacks. Thank you, guys.
I think we could possibly see the run getting underway. Like, it's a little bit spotty, and I think that's a great pick here. Walter Nolan would be a great one. We obviously mentioned Jalen Walker. there's a lot of just defensive line. They've ignored it for far too long. They can't keep getting away with it. Get that front seven built. Get somebody to get after those quarterbacks. The pick is in. They're going with Jalen Walker out of Georgia. So taking with number 4 on Vince's big board too. And Stacey staying home for you.
He's not take it away, Stacey, on that one. What's your feeling?
Okay. Wow. So I'm really shocked that we're taking a UGA player this year. We're breaking the curse, ladies and gentlemen. I love it. Honestly, I mean, definitely linebacker position wasn't really much of a need. I didn't feel like, but hey, you could always add to this defense and build upon it. And Jalen Walker coming out from that Kirby Smart defense definitely will be a huge benefit for Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbridge this year.
Yeah, this is one that when you came in and said, man, it'd be great to get an edge rusher, this was my first thought is, man, Walker is sitting right there and has a great opportunity to come in. And I know he's listed as a linebacker, but let's be honest, he is that linebacker edge hybrid. And in a lot of ways, he is a great opportunity to walk into Atlanta and help out that defense that could vitally use a pass rush.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, Jalen Walker, he's coming in with 60 tackles, six and a half sacks. Definitely, I mean, this is great for the Falcons right here. I feel like with just this pick and Jeff Ulbridge coming back, and see, that's what a lot of people, I feel like, is misinterpreting this Jeff Ulbridge pick. I was a fan of it, honestly, because Jeff Ulbridge, if people remember back in 2019 when Dan Quinn was sharing the defensive roles between Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbridge, that defense was unstoppable because Jeff Ulbridge, if I'm not mistaken, was responsible for first and second downs, and Raheem was responsible for third downs. So they split those defensive opportunities, and now these two back together, collaborating. This is going to be a great year, and Jalen Walker is definitely going to be that piece.
Absolutely. A match made in heaven. So real quickly before we let you get out of here, go and let everybody know where they could find you and where they could kind of hear your reaction once the Falcons draft concludes too.
Yes, so definitely Morgan Man Sports. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, on the Belly Up Sports YouTube page. Guys, I will be dropping tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. with more of my initial thoughts on this Jalen Walker pick and my honest reactions moving forward into training camp for the Falcons in this 2025 season.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us. It's a pleasure. And you know what? Good for your Falcons and good for your Bulldogs. Two birds, one stone for you. So thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
Later, buddy.
All right, take it easy. And moving on now to the Cardinals at pick number 16. We were at the halfway point. They're still on the clock. The pick has not been rushed in. So, you know, we're at the halfway point. I think it's time we bring in a little bit of help here. So we're going to visit back with our good friend Vince, one of our 2 draft experts, Vince, to talk a little bit about what we have seen so far, because last time we checked in with you, we're like, things could get a little bit weird. And you know what? They got a little bit weird. And now the Cardinals are on the clock after getting a blue chip player last year, Marvin Harrison Jr. A little bit of a down rookie year compared to when you look at Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. But they've managed to climb the way to 8-9. What are we thinking for the Cardinals here?
Well, I've been trying to will into existence Emeka Egbuka at this pick, to have him with Marvin Harrison, college teammates, now playing together in the pros, I think would be cool. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what I've been trying to will into existence. Will Johnson is the perfect fit for Arizona. It would be the ideal pick. I think they might be able to move down a few picks and possibly still get him to fit into this spot. It seems like now we're starting to slow down, and I think it's because teams are trying to move down. Atlanta doesn't have a ton of picks. They took a long time to get their pick in when it was the most obvious pick of the draft to go out and get Jalen Walker, which, by the way, I'm sitting here looking. It took 15 picks for my top 10 to go off. And I'm sitting here kind of keeping a grade because I'll do a show, for tomorrow morning with the grades and all that kind of good stuff. And really, there's a lot of really high grades so far in this draft because the way things have gone, it's been good fits for the teams or it's been great value for the team. And this pick by Atlanta, I love Stacey's reaction to it because who would have thought coming into the night that Jalen Walker would be available at 15 for Atlanta? That's a lot of fun, man. I like it.
Look,
You know what? You
15
mentioned
in
the grade.
Atlanta.
Okay.
I'll say 15 in Atlanta, 14 for Indianapolis. Those two
Yes.
draft picks. Who would have thought Tyler Warren and Jalen Walker are going to be the two guys that fall? Because we asked this. I mean, this was one of our poll questions from Belly Up's social medias going into this draft from this week. Who's going to be the guy that slides? You got the top 4 picks. Nobody picked Tyler Warren. It was Abdul Carter. It was Travis. It was Cam. Like, nobody picked Tyler Warren. Maybe 5% picked Tyler Warren. That's the crazy part of all this, that he's the guy that falls, as does Jalen Walker, who is an arguable top 4 pick or top 4 guy for most boards. I mean, two teams that needed an impact guy, they just stole the draft at this point in time, it feels like.
Yeah.
DJ, I'm curious. You're the Belly Up bets guy here for Belly Up, and I was looking at these odds for the Big Ten over under in the first round at 9.5, and you got a couple Penn State guys go. You got several Michigan players go. You're at 5 already, with 4 more to go to hit 9. You need 5 more to go on the over here. You haven't had the Ohio State guys go yet. So I'm curious, 15 picks in. How are we going to
start with, though, is the SEC number was 3.5, I believe, and they just added to that as Walter Nolan is heading to the Arizona Cardinals in a fit that I absolutely love. Jonathan Gannon gets a twitchy athletic D tackle who I've said everybody should take him at this point. I think he's awesome. And once again, the run on defensive tackles continues. The teams are just looking at like, that guy's awesome. We are taking him, and I love this. This is a great fit for him. And if I'm not mistaken, Calais Campbell is still there as well. So that's a heck of a player to get to learn from.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a great opportunity for Arizona, for Walter Nolan to have a great chance. By the way, before Vince, I get your reaction on this one. I need to get that clip from when I went off in that rant where we're talking about getting offensive linemen and defensive tackles more involved in the first round and not quarterbacks. Because I think that was a shot in the dark that I'm just hoping and praying for the last 4 years. And thankfully, the draft is listening for once. So yeah, I just got to throw that out there.
I think D tackles were 2.5, I think, coming into the day for the first round. You're already over that. SEC players was 14.5. So you got a little ways to go, but it's adding up pretty quickly now as well. This positional, everybody was saying you're going to have this massive run on offensive tackles. Well, we haven't, not yet. We really haven't had a run on edge rushers either. We thought that was going to go a little faster. And so again, last time I was up here a couple picks ago, we were talking about, man, there's some teams are going to get some great value. And we saw that in Indianapolis and Atlanta. Well, that's still the case for these teams coming up with Arizona, Cincinnati. Arizona got Walter Nolan, Cincinnati, Seattle, Tampa, Denver. Surely we're going to start seeing some movement with trades again here in the next pick or two, where people are going to start moving up to try to get the guy they want, I would assume, at least at this point.
I'm going to say I think that edge run is about to start right here with Cincinnati here very shortly. But to answer your question earlier, I think we do hit the over with the Big Ten players. I think we still got a couple Michigan guys. We still got the Ohio State guys. There's still some other guys I think sprinkle in there. So I think they will hit the over, but just barely. It'll be like pick 32. Somebody will climb back in and do something to just spike it. But Vince, we do appreciate you popping in here with us. We'll hear back with you very, very shortly. We appreciate you jumping in with your insights as well. And before I get you out of here, though, who has your best grade so far? You mentioned you're keeping grades. Who has the best grade at this point? Would you say?
So I've got several guys with A pluses, man. I mean, Indianapolis and Atlanta are phenomenal, awesome picks. I think the guys up top at 2 and 3, Jacksonville and New York, were good. I love the Patriots pick of Will Campbell. We got a guy that we have so much tape on. Like, he's clearly the best tackle in the draft. This Membo came up flying through because of all his numbers in the pre-draft workouts. Will Campbell was clearly the best. The Patriots did the right thing. Obviously, they worked him out. They said Vrabel did all the workouts with them, put the pads on, and went after it. He was the clear pick. I love that pick for New England, too. So, honestly, it's easier to say the bad picks, and I think that's Carolina and Miami. I don't like the Kenneth Grant. I think it was a reach. I think you could have got him later. Maybe not. I like Walter Nolan better than Grant. So, I like the pick for Arizona for sure.
Absolutely. You know what? Thank you so much for popping those. It's been a heck of a draft, and next time we see you, it's probably be just as much more chaos. But we'll definitely check in with you here in just a few moments as we continue on with the first round of the NFL draft live from Green Bay. And right now, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock. The pick is in. They're sticking and picking. Your boy Mike Green's the one that makes the most sense here. I mean, like, he is a Bengals player through and through, and it fits a need.
Look, please, somebody, please go and get Will Johnson. Please get this man off my board. I'm tired of seeing him on the board. He is so ready to play, and he's not far from Cincinnati. It's a 4-hour drive, so I guess it's like closer to 6-hour drive from Ann Arbor to Cincinnati. Go get this man off the board. Bring him to Cincinnati. You need an impact DB, and he's an impact DB. If you're not going to go pass rush, this is the next closest. And please, if you go pass rush, somebody take Mike Green. Like I'm praying for it right now. If Mike Green doesn't go in the first round, it's going to be a travesty. This is going to feel like the Kyle Hamilton situation where he didn't go as early as everybody expected. So please, let me get this man off the board, please. One of the two. That's all I need.
I'm not gonna lie, that was the best thing that I think could have happened to Kyle Hamilton because he got to go to the perfect situation to utilize his skill set to turn him into a multi-time All-Pro. So you know what? Maybe that's what happened with Walter Nolan here. Maybe Mike Green getting to play opposite of Trey Hendrickson here in Cincinnati. I'm gonna stick with him. I still love the Malachi Starks option. Somebody back there just take the ball away because at the end of the day, you don't really need to have a good defense. You just need to get the ball to Joe Burrow one way or the other, ideally without giving up touchdowns. And I think Malachi Starks could do that. A breakup here, an interception here or there. I think Mike Green, obviously, go chase down Lamar. Go chase down Joe Flacco. I can't believe I'm saying that in 2025. Go chase down whoever's playing for Steelers, whether it's Shador, Aaron Rodgers, whoever it might be. Which, speaking of which, you know what? Shador will keep an eye out. Still continuing the fall. So, you know what? New York Giants, possibly keep an eye out for him. But love Mike Green. I love the edge. Then again, like you mentioned, Will Johnson, a lot of us had as a top 15 caliber player, a top 2 to 3 corner. I know he's not the most athletically gifted, quote unquote. You put him in zone, let him see the quarterback and read the field. He had 2 touchdowns this year while he missed half the season. 2 touchdowns as a corner, and not a corner receiver, just a corner.
And that's what the Bengals run a lot of. Is they run a lot of zone defense, a lot of zone schemes, and that's something. And they've had to do that because they haven't had the same athleticism as the receivers they're trying to match up with on the other side. And they also have in their division 2 quarterbacks that can run at any given point in time in the last 2 seasons, whether it be Russell can run, Justin Fields from Pittsburgh, Lamar can run. I mean, Jameis not really running anywhere. When Deshaun was healthy, he would scramble around. But it's a situation where you have to match up if you're the Bengals with what's in your division first because you play them, a total of 6 times in the season. That's almost half of your games, and so you have to try to win those first and then get everything else after that. I have a hard time looking at this and not thinking they're going to go DB. I don't know. And then, I want to go back to that Kyle Hamilton comment a second ago. And you said that about him going to the Ravens, and that was great for him. Now I'm afraid that that's exactly what's going to happen to Mike Green. He's going to fall to 27, and everybody's going to hate it because the Ravens are going to dominate yet again. We'll wait for that. But just throwing that out there, if he slips and keeps slipping, God forbid we see the Ravens getting another great best available opportunity here. But no, for the Bengals, I mean, this just make a smart pick.
You know what? They took Shamar Stewart. They went with the athletic edge. So they did go edge, but you know what? I like the pick. I think I would have went Mike Green, but Shamar Stewart next to Trey Hendrickson, an ultimate athletic, like 9.9 RAS athletic freak, getting to learn from a Trey Hendrickson, who's the ultimate tenacious. He's a very much hard worker, first guy and last guy out. Yeah, he's sneaky athletic, if we want to use that terminology there. First guy in, last guy out, hard worker, but that's a great pick, honestly. It kind of shocked me that they went with that way because that ceiling's real high. Even if it's not met this year, moving forward, if you're not going to be able to pay Trey Hendrickson, I think this is a great pick, especially at 17.
Yeah, and Shamar Stewart is, for a lot of people, a guy that was a top 5 guy when the season started for college football, and then now here he is in the draft process. He fell down boards, but it's not like he fell down boards because he's not talented. He just fell down boards because of different pain points for some teams. If you're just looking for an athletic guy that you can build and structure how you want to, this makes so much sense. I don't hate it at all. I think it is an opportunity for him, but at the same time, we'll have to wait and see with the Bengals because we don't even know what's going to happen on the other end of this one. We don't know what they're going to do with re-signing and everything.
Absolutely. And he does hold his high school record for deadlift at over 600 pounds. Just throwing that out there because that is pretty cool. But we now have the Seattle Seahawks on the board, a team that we know a lot of people, having lived in the Pacific Northwest, who are fans of the Seattle Seahawks. And we got another one from the member of the Belly Up Sports Crew. We got Kevin Wilson from Belly Up Fantasy Baseball and adamant Seahawks fan. Kevin, how are we doing on this wonderful draft?
I'm doing great, guys. I sure appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to see what the Seahawks do here.
And you know what? They took their sweet time, as they have not rushed the card in the first 37 seconds, so it looks like they can give us a little bit of time. But a very interesting season. A 10-win team just missed the playoffs by a 5th-level tiebreaker. Just missed the playoffs, so they're obviously pretty well set, but they shook everything up. Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, the faces of the last 3 years all gone. Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, JSN. How are we feeling about the shakeup before we get into the draft?
Well, I was shocked first because I thought Smith played well enough to get another season, and then they traded him, and I was like, "Well, what are you doing?" And then they, they get rid of their wide receivers. They send Metcalf to Pittsburgh, and so I'm thinking, well, what are we rebuilding? And you don't rebuild a 10-win team, so I wasn't feeling that. And then they went and got Sam Darnold. I think that is an excellent signing by them. And Cooper Kupp, I know he's like 45 or something like that by now, but I think he's got some big season in him. MVS does not move the needle for me one iota. The guy has had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks and hasn't put anything together. So that's not doing it for me. So wide receiver is a need for them. Offensive tackle to me is at the very top of the board because Sam Darnold, you got to keep him upright. He can't throw a pass if he's sitting on the ground. And so I'm thinking that Bray Zabel out of North Dakota State goes right to he's been mocked to them several times, including by my good friend Vince, who was just on here. And so I would like to see them do that. And then you guys are talking about Will Johnson. If somebody wanted to make a trade and nope, their pick is in, so they're not making a trade. All right, so
sticking and picking this time. Don't worry.
Right. So I was kind of hoping Kelvin Banks would slide. I knew it wasn't going to happen. And then Tyler Booker came off the board to the Dallas Cowboys right down the street from me. So that I was not happy with. And so I'm hoping that I know North Dakota State, they're big in their, in the small world of, the football realm that they're in. But
it's a pretty big realm in that D1 AA. I'll be honest. You're talking to two guys
who
sure is. Spent
and
some
so
time in that FCS.
This guy can play tackle and he can play guard. So he's what the Seahawks need right here. So that's where I'm hoping that they're going to go. If they decide to go receiver, they've got a certain wide receiver coming out of Texas, Mr. Golden, that they could go that gives them some speed over there. But I'm hoping that they go ahead and address this offensive line. They've got 5 picks in the first 100, so they can make some moves and address these other needs that they have later on in the draft. So I'm hoping that they just get the offensive line, get that set, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do from here on out.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I do want to go to the receiver standpoint for a second because you have 2 technicians right now as far as talent, what they are as a receiver. I'll be honest, going back to DK and Tyler Lockett disappearing and no longer being a part of the team, I'm shocked it was both of them. I thought it would have been one of them. I did not think it was going to be both of them. But then, Cooper Kupp and JSN makes sense, but you still need that speed guy.
There it is, Bray Zabel.
So.
Bray Zabel is heading there. He is going to feed families, mauling people in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, so we'll see how they make their football players up there in North Dakota. They're a team that's all because I'm in the Dallas area, so they come down here to play in the FCS title game just about every single year. So they're a big time university, even though it's on a smaller scale. So I'm very happy right now that Gray Zabel is coming to the Seahawks, and they can address these other needs, like I said, later in the draft. But now they can at least say, Sam, you can stand on your feet and not worry about getting slammed 10 feet under the turf. So I'm very pleased with this pick.
And now you have 3 offensive linemen.
Charbonnet are too.
Yeah, you have 3 offensive linemen that are 2 to 3 years into their career. Now a rookie, 2 year, second year, and third year guy that are talented and they're a staple for you going forward. As DJ just mentioned, you have 2 running backs that are staples. Now you have a receiving core. So now you just need to get that team put together. And I think Seattle's well on their way. You said a 10-win team doesn't need to rebuild. Well, they rebuilt by accident. It seems like they're rebuilding on the right way here. If everything checks out, right?
I certainly think so. And like I said, because I'm a part of a Seahawks sessions, me and a couple other guys that are in Belly Up are Seahawk fans. And we were talking about this on air and we were just like, what is Seattle doing? And so they shut us all up. And I was quite pleased. Sam Darnold, I know he slid off the map the last 3 games of the season. but I still think he's talented. I think he's going to do it. And Cooper Kupp, I think he's going to come up there and show the Rams. I really think that's a good move on their part to bring him up there because he's going to face the Rams twice a year, and he's going to shove it right up their patootie. So I'm very pleased with that pick. And so I couldn't be more pleased with what Seattle's done in this offseason.
You know,
And
that's
back to
all you
his
can
home
ask
state
for.
too, by the way.
That's right. That's right. He Washington boys. So everything should be golden with him as long as he can stay healthy. I know that's a big ask, but I think he's going to do it at least for this year. And so I look for the Seahawks to really be a quality team going into next year.
Absolutely. And before we get you out of here, go and let everybody know where they could check you out and for fantasy baseball and everything, if they want to see your podcast as well.
Well, the fantasy baseball, Vince and I have a show, the Belly Up Live Fantasy Baseball Show, that comes out on Sunday evenings, sometimes on Mondays, but we're always here every single week. So check that out. You can find me on X at Kevin62 WILSEA. I'm on Facebook, on several groups on Facebook. I'm on Reddit all the time. So just check us out. Get over there to the YouTube page. We're there. So check us out. I put clips all over the place. So we're very excited. So come on, check us out. Join us. We're glad to have you.
Absolutely.
And
Thank
one
you
of
so
our
much
better
for that.
writers, by the way. One of my favorite writers on the network. No offense to our other writers.
That's right. And I just published
one
my
of my
first story
favorite writers.
today after quite an absence. I know, the website was having issues, but it's back.
Yep.
We're very excited about that. And my first story in about 3 weeks is on there right now. So get over there to the Belly Up website. Check it out. I'm right there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
bellyupsports.com, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I sure appreciate you guys.
100%. So we'll definitely check you in for sure. And next up, we're going to have Jared coming back to join us real quick, fast, and in a hurry, because the Buccaneers are not only on the clock, they've made their pick and they are running too. So before we get into the semantics, Jared, who are they taking here at pick number 19?
They got to go corner here. I would go either Jahdae Barron or obviously Will Johnson. We're trying to get him off the board for a hot minute now. Donovan Zaraku would be great too. The edge rusher out of Boston College. I'm a big fan of his. I watch his tape over and over again. It gets cooler every time I watch it. Great combo with speed and athleticism, and his hand fighting, surprisingly for a leaner guy, is honestly pretty impressive. He's not obviously as polished as like a Michael Williams, but I think honestly he's what you're going to get. I think he's a little more built than a James Pierce Jr., who I think is better served in like a Philadelphia or a Buffalo, where he doesn't have to come off as the primary starter. He can kind of work in last year like a Jalex Hunt did, or he can kind of work his way up to kind of getting in, or like even, I hate using the Philadelphia experience, but Nolan Smith to an even bigger extent because he was so explosive in the final stretch of the year last year. So especially with edge rushers, the biggest thing I've noticed, and maybe it's because I play the position, maybe it's because it's my favorite one to watch, I notice a lot of these edge rushers, they always overstretch their abilities and their capabilities when they're drafted. And then you have guys like Vic Beasley who are out of the league in 3 years because they're never like pushed, right? So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting move here, but it's the Bucs though, so this is honestly wild either way.
Look, the top five people on the board left for you, Jared, are all defensive positions that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at this, and it's like, take one, just do it. And
it's the Bucs. They're going to find something to go wrong.
We just popped up the comment from Blaine about, why is Will Johnson still on the board? It doesn't make sense. You're right. It doesn't make sense. What are they seeing? It's not his 40 time. There's no way that's his 40 time that's causing this.
Maybe it's his lack of ability in man coverage.
He's
average. He's a better zone corner.
He's a B in man coverage, and he's an A+ in zone. It's like, you look at this and you're like, okay, that's an A- on my board. Like, why am I sitting here letting an A- be?
Everyone should learn their lesson. Like Philadelphia last year, and I hate bringing my team up again, but they did it right. They went and stayed at home and they got their guy at, I believe, 22 with Mitchell. Then they got DeJean, two of the most impactful defensive rookies besides like Jared Verse in the entire NFL last year. I mean, guys, cornerbacks matter in this league, especially with how there's like 20 number one level receivers in this league right now.
Yeah. Look, give me the top corner for the last 20 years, and I guarantee you he was not the fastest cornerback in his draft.
No. You know who the
Unless
fastest
you're going to
quarterback
talk
gonna be?
Adoree Jackson, it might be the only exception to that entire rule, but I don't ever think he was a number one corner at any point in time in his career. Like,
Well,
there's
you know
no
what?
corner that's been the number one guy there yet.
The Bucks are going to ignore everything you just said. They're going to take Emeka Ibuka, the receiver out of Ohio State. So they're going to shake things up and go with a receiver under 6'3", which is not part of their norm. And B, they're going all in on offense. So the big show's cooking in Cleveland. I guess he's throwing for 500 touchdowns next year. Like, I don't get it, but you know what? You can't fault taking a good player, right? Like, I mean,
it kind of makes sense when you think about it because Mike Evans is 1,000, not his receiving yards, his age.
Well, he's getting 1,000 yards still.
That's what I was the joke there. And also, you know, I hope for a speedy recovery, but Godwin got demolished last year. So, and you can't rely on McMillan to be your one if either your two. Go get this kid who I compared to a quicker, like straight line speed. Amon-Ra St. Brown. That was my comp for him. He was my second favorite receiver in the draft. I think he's. I want him to fall to like C.J. Stroud in Houston because I think he'd be even better in that system with Tank Dell being gone for about 2 seasons. So, like, I know DJ shaking his head because he doesn't want any more firepower going to Houston. That's the same mentality with me with any teams going. Like, I mean, listen, the NFC East has kind of lived up to expectations of good but not great draft picks. So, I mean,
Meh is an okay answer for their draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I did like the Booker pick for your Cowboys, Kelcey. That was a smart pick. I think it was a safe pick. That was
not
the biggest thing.
Cowboys.
For my former Cowboys.
Former Cowboys. And for the Giants with Carter, I mean, you guys were on the air with, you guys saw my reaction in the green room. I was like, it's expected. But you know, he's got to go up against 2, 3, or 4 of the best offensive linemen in the entire league in the NFC East for tackles, guards, whatever. So he's going to be limited production wise. So I don't really care about it.
I'm going to ask this. Let me go ahead and ask this question real fast before we go any further, because I want to talk to this Emeka Ibuka for just a second.
Yeah.
Because I think this is important to mention. Ohio State in the last 3 years have turned out 3 first-round wide receivers.
More.
3. I'm just minimum. They've done 3.
Yeah.
Garrett, JSN, and Olave. Okay.
And Marvin.
Now you add in. Wait, who'd you say?
Marvin and Garrett Wilson.
Oh yeah, I was trying to leave Marvin out of this conversation, but
okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
So Garrett Wilson, JSN, Olave, Marvin Harrison. You have 4. Now you have 5 in Ibuka. You probably have 2 more years worth of first-round draft picks coming out of Columbus from Ohio State. At what point are we looking at these guys and being like, oh? And it's not like they're that way because they're fast. They are fast, but they're that way because they run routes and catch the ball with their hands. That's something. But that's something you look at and like, is Brian Hartline really doing this good of a job? Are we underselling how good Brian Hartline is? I think so at this point, because now you have a list of talent that is longer than he played in the NFL. So we got to be talking about this at some point in time, right?
Well, I think that's a really great point. The biggest thing, but like, I remember Brian Hartline for being a good route runner and having great hands. What are these guys good at? The exact same thing. So at the end of the day, I think you're totally on point here that like coaching at Ohio State for receivers is a cut above everything else. You know, the Ohio State guys are going before any of the Texas receivers. What does that say about Texas guys? I mean, DJ got a Donnie Mitchell last year. I mean, listen, that's more about the fact that his quarterback has the accuracy of a drunk cowboy. But
leave the drunk Cowboys out of this. They are much more accurate than that. They got 6 shots and they hit 2 or 3.
Yeah. But like, and then I can't remember who these other Texas receiver went out last year. Oh, Worthy. I mean, Worthy was just kind of a fast gadget player. I mean, he had a lot. I think he was second or first receiving.
He was the number 1 receiver for Kansas City last year.
Yeah, I know, but then that's not really saying much because it's
Super Bowl runners up.
I mean, no, I'm saying that their offense is such a like crapshoot. It's literally a new guy every week. He just had the best of the crap weeks, I guess. But my point is, the coaching at Ohio State is next level when it comes to running backs. I mean, receivers. Wow.
Absolutely. And by the way, too, the Broncos are on the clock. They're at about the 92nd mark as well. They still haven't put the pick in yet. So this would be a great place for O'Marion Hampton per se. But I want to I have one thing I want to look at really quickly too, because it's going to lead to something. We're going to go a little off kilter, but we're going to circle back while we wait for him too. Our good friend Ryan McCarthy is part of the Bellup Network. Shador is going to the Steelers, isn't he? But this is also followed by an earlier comment from our good friend Jared about Shador possibly dropping around 2. And report is the Giants are trying to get back into the first round. So you know what? Maybe if he continues to slide, maybe this Broncos spot, maybe it's taken a minute. They're fielding some calls. Maybe this is a chance that they don't go Hampton. Maybe it's a trade spot. I'm just throwing it out there, guys. Maybe.
We might need to get Brian and Nate back on the phone here in a second if this ends up happening, because I think they're ready for this to be back in the first round and snag themselves a little bit of a Sanders love. But yeah, this is. I mean, I thought Shedeur would slide because I didn't think necessarily a lot of teams needed him between New York and the end of the first round. There's not a lot of teams that need a quarterback in that stretch that are Shedeur level guys. And so that's like, I think he needs some work, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So shout out to our producer Nate, because on our show, he's also my producer there because the kid's amazing. He did say that they're split in the Giants quarterback room when it comes to a coaching room when it comes to quarterback. Dable prefers another quarterback of the Ole Miss variety, where Joe Shane prefers. I could not speak for a second. Shedeur Sanders.
Giants, you're okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, allegedly the pick's in, so
allegedly.
Allegedly.
I was gonna say, well, here's the thing: if they had traded this pick, I just want to throw a little history back to you guys. I believe Cleveland in 2010 or 2008, maybe they drafted at 2 after they traded up to 2, and then drafted or traded back into the first round to pick Brady Quinn at 22. So I was thinking we were borderline gonna get a New York Giants rehash of what Cleveland did previously, but thankfully we're not there. So it doesn't look like we're gonna have that.
Luckily, that first round pick was Joe Thomas, so the trade back in did not affect them.
Joe Thomas
it was kind of like they hit on the first and whiffed on the second.
Well, to be fair, they only had Joe Thomas as an offensive lineman at that time. It was Joe Thomas and 4 guys like me.
Literally the greatest offensive lineman in their team's history.
And literally, I probably could have walked onto that team as a high schooler and done just as much as the other offensive linemen that weren't Joe Thomas.
Didn't at one point that Seneca Wallace taking snaps behind Joe Thomas?
Yes.
It was a
I remember one time somebody tried to push it. Oh, hey, the Browns are on Monday Night Football. I'm like, yeah, I'm not standing up for that. I think I said as a middle schooler.
Absolutely. And by the way, the Broncos pick is in. They are up at the line, so we did not get a quit. We did not get a trade in this one. It sounds like Omari and Hampton's obviously a fit here. That makes a lot of sense. This isn't a Will Johnson spot, so I would be surprised to see that one. But I feel like Jahad Campbell would make a ton of sense here too. So I think they do have some options as well. Maybe if they wanted to reach on a tight end. Sean Payton is goofy. He might take TreVeyon Henderson too. He might get really greedy and try and take a versatile speedster like that. He's very interesting.
I think this is an interesting place for Kinshaw Junkins to end up at. I don't think it's the first round. I think he ends up in a second round. But I think you talk about what Sean Payton loves. I talked about it with Pete Carroll. He has a very stereotypical running back. Denver, Sean Payton has a very stereotypical running back style, which Kinshaw Junkins runs with, which is slightly undersized, powerful, and can scat a little bit. He's not going to break anybody's ankles for real, but he gets outside of the tackle and good luck trying to catch him at the end of the day. And that fits really what Sean Payton's always coached well with as a running back. And they're good out of the backfield, which he is. Also, TreVeyon Henderson fits all of those molds with a plus grade next to him.
You know, they're going to shake things up, and they're going to take Jedi Barron, the corner/safety/defensive back out of Texas. Elite player. Kind of a weird fit considering how their secondary was so strong last year.
Riley Moss, and you have TF2.
Maybe they want to roll him at safety and nickel to help out a little bit.
I was going to say he's an elite nickel player, so I like it. I mean, maybe they're worried about Moss's health on the other side of the ball. I'm not sure because he's great before he got hurt.
I'm going to throw in Jahdae Barron, do what he did at Texas, and he ends up in the box more times than not. I think that's what they're going to do. That rolled down safety, that extra safety in the box, the star position that they have in college. Wouldn't surprise me if you see that here. I mean, Vance Joseph, he's known for creative tactics. So Jahdae Barron could be the guy they slide in there. That's surprising, though. I'm not going to say it's as surprising as what we saw Carolina do, but I think this is, if Vince is giving out a board and Carolina is an F, this might be a D+ right now because this is a little bit surprising.
I'll give it a C- because
Jahdae Barron's a really good player.
I'm giving him the discount for fit. This is not a fit pick.
I love the talent.
Yeah, talent is an A+ talent.
The kid's a gremlin in the run game. He is mean and nasty, especially for a quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think he's the right fit though. I just don't think he's the right fit in Denver. Is my thing. That's where I'm like, it's for Denver. It's a D+. Jahdae Barron is an A+ every day.
Oh, I think what they're going to do is there's no good line. I don't know why they would go after Campbell because he's sitting right there. Linebackers are glaring need. Your best linebacker right now is Alex Singleton. As much as
No,
I have
there's
a
Dre-
soft spot
there's
for
Dre,
him.
there's Dre Greenlaw in there. Like there will be some respect on Dre Greenlaw.
All right. Dre Greenlaw. Okay.
But yes, Jihad Campbell and Dre Greenlaw, you had two dogs.
Yeah, I know. It's
Well,
I
depends
literally
on
saw the
depends
graphics
on Dre
pile
Greenlaw
just
and
now.
actually playing.
But you know what? Very interesting pick. But you know what? Sometimes in a draft like this one, you just take the best player regardless. And I guess that's what they did. But speaking of a very interesting spot in the draft, Jared, we're going to keep you around for one more pick here because this one looks like it could be a whole lot of fun. As the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock, should he stay or should he do? Is this where he's going to end? That's kind of interesting. The number one need on the team by far. You added everything else basically. What are we thinking? Is this the landing spot? Does the drop end here?
So I've heard every different opinion. Mike Tomlin loves this guy. Mike Tomlin loves that guy. And on the show, we had three different guys pick three different quarterbacks. I am staying on that they have Milrow. That is who they're going with. Matt had, I think, them taking Sanders, and Nate had them taking Dart or vice versa. So I'm not seeing right now, and I love how Gilly Lock is there with Shador. I thought you were an Eagles fan, Gilly. What the hell?
Well, who's gonna pay him?
Oh, facts. I think you know what? Give me Jalen Milrow. I think that is the move. I think they like the fact they can develop him. There's no ego issue, which a lot of scouts are complaining about Shador Sanders. Whether it's warranted or not, you've seen guys fall for that. It's not.
I'll say this much: he fits the Mike Tomlin mold of what he wants, but Shador is the guy that they need in that locker room with George Pickens and DK.
Yeah.
If Jalen's in that locker room, it's not going to work out. I love Jalen as a quarterback if he's at the right fit. I don't think the Steelers is the right fit because of their two receivers right now. I think there's too much ego that you need a guy with a bigger ego as a quarterback to be able to rein him in, which seems blasphemous to say, but I think that's the case if you're Pittsburgh.
Let's just say for like save scenario, let's say they don't take quarterback. Let's say they throw everything out the window. They say second round's a better value. Giants trade up with Minnesota because they only have 4 draft picks.
That'd be the smart thing. Or even Cleveland because you have all the extra picks, and they went Derek Harmon, so they are saying no quarterback.
31 on my draft board. Whew.
That's a good player. I think I like Derek Harmon. I like that he slimmed down a lot and became more athletic this year, and I think that's putting him next to Cameron Hayward and Benton. Steelers are going to steal her. We said Browns are going to Brown, Panthers and Panthers. Steelers are going to steal her. But I think this is a good pick.
I'll say this about. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go, Jared. Go ahead.
I was going to say no name players have been moved. No Kirk Cousins, no TJ Watt. There was another big name player they were talking about moving. No Dallas Goedert. Like nobody has been moved today. This is a very weird draft.
Yeah, look, Derek Harmon, DJ, you and I talked about him early season this year as a guy when you look towards the future of the draft as a guy that could potentially make an impact because he had the measurables that just made sense. He played well in Oregon, and again, I'm gonna keep harping on this. Some reason defensive tackles. This is the draft for defensive tackles, and I'm loving every moment of it.
I love it.
But Derek Harmon's. You got to give the guy credit because he's done all the right things at Oregon. He did all the right things to put him in position to get drafted in the first round. In a team, when you look at that defense for Oregon, was questionable at best because they didn't go up against great opposition. And when they did go up against great opposition, they got put to the board by Ohio State. And so that's you look at this team and you look at what Derek Harmon was able to do and get himself ready for this draft. He hit every measurable getting up to the draft to get himself in the position that the Steelers, and we talk about Mike Tomlin being a Joe's type of coach, that's what you need for a Derek Harmon to succeed is he's going to succeed with that. But he walks into a defense now that defense, TJ Watt, Darius Slay, Juan Thornhill. Now you had Derek Harmon in the middle of that. Oh, by the way, Cam Hayward just so happens to still be there punching people in the gut. And this team just continues to be interesting with Pittsburgh. You'd think Mike Tomlin is going to continue to have that plus 500 at this point in time. Can we keep this going if they get a quarterback in the second round? I feel like that's the only thing they're missing now.
Absolutely.
And I think it'd be
good.
I think Jackson Dart, honestly, you make a point about Milrow. He's still my favorite quarterback left on this board, at least for combo of ability and top end talent going forward, because you're not drafting a guy now or any later to be your day one starter unless your quarterback room is desperate. So I think the Steelers are going to end up getting Rodgers at least for a season. So I think right now it's, do you want Dart or do you want Milrow or do you want Sanders? But if I am the New York Football Giants, I am trying to break down the door of the Minnesota Vikings to go get that pick and go grab whoever I want. So, but
I'm
we
calling
have
my old buddy Jim Harbaugh right now, and I'm getting him on the phone as well.
They're going wide receiver. I will put money on this.
Look, the Chargers owe the Giants, or I guess the Giants owe the Chargers. So I think this is a chance. Maybe you owe them a little more, but you just go get that man right here and right now.
Last thing to say before we let you jump out of here, Jared, too. Does Shedeur get out of the first round, or does somebody come back to get him?
I think he gets out of the first round. I have a weird feeling that because right now there's no team in the back end of this first round that wants a quarterback, and the next two teams in the second round tomorrow need quarterbacks. It goes Cleveland and New York to start the second round. I think it's really going to come down to the only way it happens if New York feels that Shedeur is worth trading up into. If Shedeur's not their guy and they prefer Dart or they prefer Milrow, then we're going to see them just sit and wait, and Cleveland's just going to just take him first pick of the second round. Bold prediction: I think Luther Burden is going to L.A. Chargers.
That'd be a fun pick for sure. I'm intrigued by that. I think I agree with you, receiver. I like Matthew Golden here too. I let Justin Herbert unleash the cannon on occasion. But Jared, we greatly appreciate you for popping this. We'll see you again here in T-minus not that very long. We'll have you and Vince back to join us real quick, fast, and in a hurry. So we'll see if anything explodes between it now and then as well. We'll see.
I'll be here.
All right, Kelcey. The Chargers are on the clock now. The pick is in. Well, never mind. The pick is not in. So they're still waiting it down a little bit. I just mentioned Matthew Golden. Talked about it a little bit in our mock draft yesterday. How do we feel about the Chargers? They can go a lot of different directions, and we know Harbaugh's not exactly someone to confirm to the norm.
Yeah, look. Part of me thinks Harbaugh looks at Omarion Hampton right here and just like, why not? I'm going to run 9 down linemen, a quarterback, and my running back. Like, that seems like the most Jim Harbaugh thing to do, and 8 down linemen and a fullback maybe, because that would be
him and Najee
even
Harris
more
in the backfield.
Yeah, I just at this point in time, Jim Harbaugh, khakis and cleats, man. I don't know if I trust him to pull the normal pick here. I still stand by what I was saying. I think the Giants give the Chargers a call here. I think they see what they can do, what Joe Shaq can pull off, because this is an opportunity to just sneak in there and steal it before any one of these teams afterwards gives a absolute sniff of a chance to go and trade with anybody else. And if you're the Giants, you need this pick more than you need to breathe at this point in time. If you're Joe Shad, you need Shedeur. You need a quarterback in this first round to make sense and to make up for everything last year, starting with Saquon and going from there. Like, this needs to be fixed. And so the Chargers, I don't know if they pick this one, honestly. I don't think this is the stick and pick this time. I think this is we'll trade and we'll take your next couple draft picks at this point in time.
Right now, they're still on the clock waiting. The pick is not in yet, so I think they are fielding those calls. Maybe it's Cleveland, maybe it's New York. But hear me out if they do stick and pick. Will Johnson. They need corner help. Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, the former defensive coordinator of Michigan. So he already knows what he's capable of there. He's like, okay, I know exactly what I can do with him. Asante Samuel Jr. is still a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. They're thin at corner. At pass rush, they're thin too, with Joey Bosa leaving and Khalil Mack. While he's still awesome, he can't be awesome forever. He can't keep getting away with it into his 60s. So they could go edge rusher, maybe your boy Mike Green here. But I think Will Johnson's an outstanding fit here. Receiver, we obviously mentioned with Matthew Golden. There's plenty of other options as well. So I'm jumping on the Will Johnson train here now. Granted, we were always on the Will Johnson train. But I think right here this is a really good spot for him. I think it makes a ton of sense. If the Chargers do pick, they're at 100 seconds left, and the pick isn't made yet. So I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
Like, if you're not going to go there, what do you do here? Obviously the obvious pick would be go pick a receiver. But do you want to reach for a receiver here? Historically, Jim has never reached for receivers. He will happily take a second, third, fourth round guy, and he'll get them at a third round price. And so first round for a receiver doesn't make sense for him. D-line, maybe you go get James Pierce. Maybe they like James Pierce. I don't know if that's still the pick. I honestly don't know where they're thinking here, but it just doesn't make sense that they're still waiting unless they're trading this pick. Like, this has to be a trade at this point in time. It doesn't make any sense any other way.
I'm trying to think too, because like Mason Graham's gone, Kenneth Grant is gone, Colston Loveland's gone. So making those weird little ties like that, it's kind of hard outside of Will Johnson. Tight end, there's not really maybe Arroyo, but you'd be reaching a little bit here.
And they have one of the best
defensive-
defensive tackles in Day Joseph. Do you really get rid of him and
Exactly.
not like get an edge if you're going to do anything? If you're not going to go and trade this pick, I don't know what else they're thinking.
Well, they're at the 30-second mark now, so they might be trying, or they might just let their pick pass up. They might pull a Vikings from a few years ago and just wait it out. Who knows at this point? But I feel like if you're going to stick, you have to get something to help Justin Herbert at this point. I feel like Ladd McConkey is really awesome, but that's just about all that's really out there right now. I mean, Will Dissly is fun for moments, but like you need something else. I know they brought back Mike Williams to dunk on people 70 yards down the field, but we're under 10 seconds left to go, and the pick is not quite in yet. So I'm very curious if maybe there's a delay. They're getting the pick in, or they're just going to let it pass at this point.
I don't know, because if it's correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's mistaken, the team up next up steals it, right?
It's
that how
Green
that
Bay
works?
next, but they did get the pick in at 1 second to go. So they waited. So they were fielding the calls, I'd imagine. But I mean, I guess it takes two to tango. So maybe they tried. I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of Michigan hate in there. I don't know. But so they're staying here. How we feeling? Who we already talked about. We kind of went through the four options that make sense. So let's think of something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, let's go crazy here, right? You're gonna go crazy. You're gonna take a draft pick on a guy. Let's go with, I don't know, a guy out of Arkansas, defensive end.
Landon Jackson. Okay.
Why not? Like at this point, I'm trying to think of what else Jim Harbaugh's trying to convince Jesse Minter and Greg Roman about going into this draft. Like there's nothing else you can think about. If you're not going to take a corner, that's Will Johnson, or you're not going to take one of these running backs, or you're not going to take a receiver, where else do you go that makes sense for your team? An 11-6 team who you really just need offensive weapons for. Like, I don't know what else you're thinking other than trade or take an offensive weapon.
I feel like you mentioned, this was a war between like Harbaugh, Roman, Minter, and everyone else of trying to get what they wanted. Somehow they're going to compromise and find something in the middle. We're going to go with like Donovan Ezerenko. That's what I'm going to go with. I think they're going to go with edge. Just you got to replace Joey Bosa. Khalil Mack's 1,000 years old. They're just like, somebody go hit Patrick Mahomes. That's my guess. Or Jim Harbaugh spent that entire time saying, take Will Johnson. Jesse Minter kept saying, take Will Johnson. Greg Roman kept saying more fullbacks. So I don't know at this point. Like this is a very interesting pick compared to some of the other ones because they could go in so many directions.
Yeah, honestly, man, I'm shocked. And with how long this is taking, part of me thinks this was a trade and the NFL was just taking a sweet time to approve it. And that's what this is. I know they would announce it, but usually it comes in as a pick is in and then the pick has been traded. So it's probably commercial break and then all that stuff afterwards. I'm just, again, across the board here. I mean, unless they're thinking about it like a Siobhan Ravel or anything like that, where they're going to a guy that is deeper on boards, that they're looking at their board and they're like, man, these guys, we don't really love them, but you know who we love with a second round grade on them is this guy. And maybe that's what they were arguing is like, would it be worth taking this guy at 22 early so we don't have to worry about getting him in the second round? That's what I'm thinking.
And not too shocking after all. The Chargers will go with Omarion Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina. So they took the long way there, but Jim Harbaugh's got another workhorse in the backfield. Big, strong, athletic, patient, really good receiver. You know, that's not, who I just talked about? Najee Harris, but that also works exactly well for Omarion Hampton. So this is
exactly what I said.
Chargers to lead the league in rushing is very much live and in play right now.
Yeah, I don't know what the future bet is on the Chargers to lead the league in rushing and to have two guys over 1,000 yards, but after this draft is done, I'm placing a bet. I'm placing $1, and I probably win close to $100,000 if they do it, because I feel like my odds are in my favor on this one, but they're going to be long shots for now. Like this is Jim Harbaugh to a T. This is Greg Roman to a T. So this doesn't shock me. And you already look at that defense, you need holes. Maybe they're looking at free agency to fill those holes, or second, third. Again, they maybe have higher grade second, third, fourth round guys that they want to take for sure, and it fills those defensive needs. And their offense are just like, all right, let's just keep running the ball. let's keep Justin healthy. Let's just run the ball. RTDB day in and day out. Like that's just what this feels like.
You have a Ferrari and Justin Herbert. It feels like you're forcing yourself to stay in the slow lane with the e-brake on with the passenger, like you're learning how to drive in there right now. Like just learning driver, pass slowly like that. Let him unleash the cannon at this point. I want this makes sense, but I'm selfishly wanting Matthew Golden or someone to run a 4-2 down the field. So maybe they do that later in the draft. Like we said, Harbaugh's never going to go receiver this early, most likely. But Marion Hampton's a really fun pick. But that now takes us from a not so shocking pick to the Green Bay Packers, the hometown team, now on the clock. And I'm very curious of what we're going to see with this one. And I see how we move the box, so we're going to call an audible. And you know what? We're bringing the hometown kid. Vince, your Packers are on the clock. How are we feeling?
Hey, listen, the way the board has fallen, this is lining up pretty nicely. I love James Pierce. He's the best available on my board. The pass rush is needed because Lucas Van Ness has not produced. Will Johnson is standing there. I put it in the YouTube chat earlier. He puts off these Charles Woodson vibes more so in his football IQ. He knows how to play football. And I tell you, man, Green Bay, they don't have a glaring need. They don't have someone they have to have. But that being said, if we draft Will Johnson here, I will be ecstatic. If we go James Pierce here, ecstatic. Mike Green here, ecstatic. But more than likely they'll go like Ariante Airsuri or something like that on the O-line. Like last year they did with Morgan from Arizona. I was like, wait, what? So hopefully
maybe at this point
they don't do that. Listen, they're hosting it in Green Bay. They have to make a splash. So let's see. They didn't trade up, but is it time to restock the quarterback room? No, just kidding. Let's sit here and let's go Will Johnson or let's go edge rusher and let's make a splash here for the hometown crowd. I know they're going to be ecstatic if it's somebody that's, okay, Josh Simmons, offensive lineman, would be great. He'd be a good fit. He would play well. He can play it at guard or tackle. It'd be a good pick, but it wouldn't be sexy. Will Johnson, James Pierce, Mike Green, those are sexy picks. Listen, if they go receiver, I will be absolutely shocked. My dad and I have argued about this. He says, well, what happens if Ted McMillan falls? I said, Dad, they're not taking a receiver. What happens if Matthew Golden's there? Dad, they're not taking a receiver. Well, Matthew Golden's there. So now it's me versus Dad. Who's going to win out on this one? I still think they go Will Johnson or one of the edge guys that's available.
Hear me out. You said we want to stick with a splash and we want to follow tradition. One thing the Packers traditionally do is draft their quarterback 1,000 years early and let him sit. It is Jalen Milroe season, who was invited to the draft with no first-round grade. Packers take Jalen Milroe here to sit behind Jordan Love for the next 16 years and then be the guy.
Listen, if Milroe gets drafted here, he's going to need, probably 8 years to get ready to play at the NFL level. So
he's going to start at receiver, then move to quarterback. They're going to utilize that 4-3 speed out of the gate.
That's right. Yeah. No, but listen, the Packers love to trade back too. And again, they're hosting, so if they move out of the first round, all the fans are going to be ticked. And not that Goody cares about what the fans think, but I just think this is a spot for them with the way the board is. They can make a draft pick that actually helps them, someone that can fill in immediately, and then also something that the fans will be pretty happy with too.
Well, they're under 3 minutes and the pick is not in yet. So maybe they're thinking about trading back. You never know, but maybe they're pondering. There's something cheesy going on in that world.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said cheesy because I have the cheesiest of jokes right here for you.
Oh, boy.
Because Vince said it's not going to be the sexy pick, whatever they take. It's okay, Vince, because they already made the sexy pick and the guy that's not working out, and that's Lucas Van Ness. I mean, look at this man. He's giving off pure Adonis vibes. I'm not jealous at all, I promise. I wish I was born with those type of genes. But look, I think you're right, though. I think you look at this Green Bay team. Like, do you need a sexy pick to make this work? No. Do you need a pick that's going to make a lot of sense and make you succeed? And, receivers, I don't think this is a receiver team, a team that needs receivers when you have 3 guys that you can rotate in and out, 4 guys, really, if healthy. Whoever's the healthiest, whoever's rolling well, roll them in and out, and you're pretty good. I mean, you're above average in most cases. If they go with a quarterback, which I jokingly talked about, we just talked about, unfortunately for that quarterback, they're going to have to go through the same trend that every other quarterback for Green Bay goes through, which is come in, fill in for a game, break your leg or get injured, and then go sit down for a year and 2 years, and then come back and start again, and maybe you succeed. So that's a 3-year process plus an injury. Do you really want that for Jalen Milroe? Probably not, but
yeah.
I don't know what the Packers else are thinking.
Yeah, with the receiver thing, I agree with you. I love their top 3 receivers, and Dobbs, Watson, and Reed. I think they're very interchangeable. There's a little bit of different skill sets there, but they're solid. Wicks is decent as the 4 as well. None of those guys are a true number 1, and I don't think Matthew Golden is a true number 1 either, which is why I wouldn't draft him here. He would play well. They'd find a way to make it work. But if they're going to get a receiver, they need a true number 1, which would have been wise to go out and get him like a DK Metcalf. Or even a Tyler Lockett who's older in years and just signed with the Titans. So that's the direction they could have gone. There was nobody in this draft that's a true number 1 receiver. So again, I mean, I would lose my house.
Ibuka might have something to say about that.
I love Emeka Ibuka, but the Packers aren't going to draft a receiver in round 1.
You know what they might not be doing this. They might not be taking Will Johnson either. The reason he's falling is because of a knee issue, it turns out. So there's a lingering injury concern. That is why he's starting to fall in his knee. So you know what? Maybe that's why we see him down so far. Maybe the Packers say, screw it, he's still a top 15 player and we take him here. But it looks like that an injury concern is coming to bite him in the butt right now. So is it a reasonable consideration that Will Johnson falls out of the first round? Is the Packers the pick just finally get in? So answer this question, you guys. I'll start with you, Vince. Could Will Johnson fall out of the first round with this knee concern?
It's possible, but again, these teams here in the latter half are the teams that can draft them. They don't have to play him right away, so they can give him some time. When he chose not to run on his pro day, I knew that was going to be an issue, but I still thought he would be drafted by now. So, Packers are in a place where they have cornerbacks. They need them for the future. They need them for depth even, but they could draft him and be patient with them too.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. At this guy, I think at this point, Will Johnson makes the most sense long term. Now, I will say, as a guy with plenty of knee injuries, yeah, you fall a lot. I didn't expect it to be in the draft. Again, sorry, cue the corny music. I don't think we got a graphic for that, so maybe next year. But it's a situation where Will Johnson just makes sense from every point of view. And I love the Charles Woodson comparison earlier from that IQ perspective. Ironically, looking at the Packers here, who have historically loved some Michigan DBs, specifically Charles Woodson. It's a situation where the fit is so prevalent. Maybe it's just so easy they overthink it. But I don't think anything the Packers need is like a right now type of need at this point for them, unless you go with like a Jahad Campbell to rotate with Quay Walker type of thing. Like I think that's the like most, which is not one of our position needs, but it's a situation where he's a rotational guy, so he'll play 50% of the downs in a game. I don't think there's a guy that you put in here, if it's not a corner, that's going to start day one and be ready to go for the Packers. Because the Packers are pretty well set to figure out this NFC North. Their offense is as long as it's Toyotathon, is great. If it's not Toyotathon, maybe not so great. But their defense, I mean, they have holes in their game occasionally, but they're solid across the board.
Mark Murphy is up and he's getting ready to announce the pick, so we won't have to wait too much longer for you. But go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, the D tackles are already off the board, right? Nolan's gone, Grant's gone, Harmon's gone, so that doesn't make sense for him now. But Jihad Campbell is the third best available player on my list. They got Edgerrin Cooper last year, played really well. I like Quay Walker, but not everybody does. So, I mean, that'd be a possibility. I still James Pierce. I'm a Tennessee guy. James Pierce, but he's got these off the field issues. Well, in Green Bay, it's hard to get in trouble off the field because there ain't nothing to do in Green Bay.
You know what Travis Hunter said? He loved it, and he just likes to fish and play football. So you know what? Maybe it's just what someone needs. But right now, Mark Murphy's up. He's taking his time to pick. So I feel like I think Will Johnson is alive here, but I think with that knee issue, they're going to pass him. I think Donovan's I think Landon Jackson, I think both of them are good picks here. I don't know why. For some reason, Packers and edge rusher just makes sense here, or offensive lineman none of us have absolutely heard of, or someone who's supposed to go late in the third round. They always go a little bit off kilter. I do agree, though. I think Jahad Campbell or James Pierce would be ideal picks here. And Matthew Golden. So, Vince, you owe your dad a soda pop. So, it looks like Matthew Golden is heading to Green Bay.
I'm shocked. I am. I'm speechless. Listen, he's dynamic, right? We said, hey, make a splash, make a sexy pick. You're in Green Bay. Let the crowd go nuts. I'm looking to see real quick. I had him. I think he was my first. Yeah, my top receiver on my power rankings, ahead of Ted McMillan, ahead of Emeka Egbuka. I've lost a lot of bets. I am so thankful that I did not bet the house that the Packers would not select a receiver. I have stood firm on that. I have called people out on social media. Like, come on, you're smarter than that. Nope, you guys got it. And I was wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. Another weapon on the offense. Listen, two great young tight ends, a solid core of receivers. Again, I still don't think they have a true number one, but when you have four number twos, that adds up, and you can do a lot. You can do a lot with that, and that offense that comes from the Shanahan tree, they know how to work in these athletes. And Golden, my goodness, he's definitely an athlete.
Absolutely, a bit of a shocking pick. He does have a very, very clean and shiny suit with a bow tie, so he makes a splash with his wardrobe. But he's in the draft room heading to Green Bay. He's already home, so he doesn't have to travel very far to his next place. But
that's right.
Let's stick in the NFC North with this next one because we're heading over to the Minnesota Vikings, who only have 4 picks in the draft. They made some splashes in free agency. They made some moves. But for this next one, we're going to have both of our NFL draft analysts join us. We have Vince, and we will have Jared joining us here in just a moment, too. We're going to have both of them here. So what I want to jump in with you really quick, Vince, is looking at the remainder of your big board. Who do you think is the guy? Who's the one that you're kind of shocked as to? Like, why is he still here? What's going on here?
We talked about the injury for Will Johnson. He would be the obvious one. Mike Green, though, is the other one I'll throw in there. Edge rusher. He's just the way that he came out in this process, the Senior Bowl, and just stood out in the Senior Bowl. He addressed the off the field issues head on, which I thought was so smart for him to do. He's been so open in this process as well. The talent is obviously there. James Pierce, Mike Green both have the off the field issues. Jihad Campbell, Will Johnson both have the injury questions. So we understand why they're here, but I think those 4, it wouldn't have surprised me if they were all off the board by pick 19, and here they still sit.
Absolutely. We're going to bring in our other draft expert here, Jared, to join us to talk a little bit about it as well. So, Jared, what are your thoughts looking at your big board too? Some of the best players you're surprised to see are still around.
Well, you know what's crazy to me right now is that we have no safeties getting taken. I cannot pronounce the kid's name. Amawari out of Amawari out of South Carolina, who I love, one of my favorite players in the draft. Obviously, Malachi Starks, I'm high on as well. But you start seeing guys like this is only the second wide receiver taking off the board. Vince, by the way, congrats to you and your dad. It's going to be a very fun. I like him. I guess more of a shifty after catch guy. I mean, he'll obviously develop more as a ball tracking deep guy as he gets more in the league. But he's a fun player to have. So congratulations there. Like you said, Mike Green's falling down the list. So James Pierce Jr. I have James Pierce Jr. at my 11 on my draft board. I think he's the best pure athlete freak pass rusher. I mean, I don't hate that he's falling because there's a certain team at 32 who could use a James Pierce Jr. or a Malachi Starks or an Emma Morey. So I'm not complaining about this. Keep taking all your guys that we don't need. It's fine. I'll just get another one of these shirts next February. It's fine. I don't care. But it's a weird. The Chargers with Amari and Hampton. I'm still scratching my head. I know this is a total Jim Harbaugh pick, but I figured like they have a AARP room for receivers besides Lab McConkey. Why not go get an actual receiver with some wheels? But you know what? It's a weird draft. I think my old man's team's up next, the Vikings, and I see they're taking one of 3 guys: Josh Simmons, Will Johnson, or Trevion Henderson, or Junkins. They're basically 2 sides of the same coin. But those are 3 things I think they're going with here. I don't think they're going to really go off script here. I think Simmons is my winning favorite here.
I have mocked Nick Emenwari here the last 3 mock drafts. And listen, as a Packer fan, I do not want Nick Emenwari to go to Minnesota. That being said, him or Starks would be great fits in Minnesota. I just have Emenwari rated higher, so that's why I went with him. The Vikings here, they could use wide receiver help, but that wouldn't be a smart pick here. They could use some running back help, which I don't think that would be a smart pick here either. But you're looking at DBs and O-line. I think Simmons is a good call there as well, as you mentioned, Jared. But to me, Starks or Emenwari is just a smart pick here. But James Pierce, Mike Green, we're going to keep saying those names until they get taken off the board.
I guarantee one of them's falling out of the first round now. I think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see Ezraku over one of them as well. I think that Mike Green's biggest problem is his upper body strength is really lacking. And
the off the field stuff on top of it too, a little bit.
Exactly. But also my dad said, he goes, who do I need? I said O-line. We're going to see what happens.
Hey, you know what? They brought in some good offensive linemen. The pick is on the board. I like Donovan Jackson. So they go offensive line. They're bringing in a guard.
The other OSU guy.
Will Fries, Brian Kelly, and Donovan Jackson all in the center. Like that interior offensive line, JJ McCarthy is going to love that despite the Ohio State-ness, but they're going to keep him fortified. That's for sure. They're going to keep him upright and let him throw bombs to Jay Jetta. So I like the pick a little bit off script. I would have liked Nick Emenwari, but oh boy, it looks like we have the Texans coming up on the clock here as well. And real quickly, what I want. Oh, go ahead. Never mind. We got the New York Football Giants trading with the.
Here we go.
Yep. All right. I can see Nate in the back room in pure disbelief.
All right, so Jared, Vince, we are kicking you guys out here really quick. So we got some chaos ensuing. We are bringing in our resident Giants guys. Jared, Vince, thank you so much. We'll hear from you guys very shortly, but chaos has ensued. It is now time. Our good friend Nate, the producer, designated New York Giants fan, and Brian will be joining us here momentarily as well.
I'll
Your
fill
New
in
York
for
Football
Brian
Giants
until
are
he's
back in the
ready.
first round.
We did it.
Well, hold on. You haven't done it yet.
I don't care.
Okay,
We actually did something.
Let me-
Okay,
That trade graphic
but
looks a lot
seriously.
better right now after Nate's reaction. I gotta say.
I'm texting Brian as we speak.
He's
I'm like-
he's popping in right now too. So he might just need to run this one off as well. So
Oh, good. Good.
Brian, welcome in, sir. You guys are back on the clock trading with the Texans. It might be quarterback time. You are muted. So how are we feeling now? You guys are back in the first round. Nate got short-circuited. Brian, how we feeling?
I left for 2 seconds to get a cookie.
Well,
Bro,
you
I was
got
hitting on my
some
dinner
in the
too.
draft, too.
I'm hyped up. I'm excited to see what we do here.
I know.
So
me
we
too.
obviously
I'm
are leaning towards quarterback here. I feel
This
like
is
that's what
100% a
we're-
quarterback.
Otherwise, it's a very questionable move that should get a lot of people fired. But
Yeah,
Jackson Dart-
if this isn't quarterback, people are getting fired.
Jackson Dart,
Yeah,
Shedeur
absolutely.
Sanders, where are we leaning here? Is it the Shedeur
Shedeur.
trade or do
My
we see-
dream's alive.
His dream's alive. He wants Shedeur. I think we're going Dart. From what I've heard, the interview with Dable didn't go well. I could be dead wrong. Could all be smoke, but I just have not heard good things. I think it's Dart.
They also said they said CJ Stroud was dumb when he's coming out, and he looks awfully smart right now. So you never know. It might
Never
be a
know
fluky-
exactly.
You never know. Nate, now that you got a chance to pull yourself together,
Yes.
your dream has been Shedeur.
My
If it
dream has been
happens,
Shedeur.
You get the Shedeur jersey. Dual
Yes,
Carter
I am.
Shedeur. Which jersey's coming first? You got to replace
And
the
Shadeur's coming first. I'm not the richest. I'm not the richest person in the world, but I tell you what, if we get Shadur right now, I'm buying his jersey tonight because I swear I believe I prayed to the heavens every single day that we could possibly get Shadur, and now my dreams could possibly come true. I swear I might cry tonight if we get Shadur. I love him. We met with him 3 times for a reason. We need to meet with Dart. We met with him once. And we didn't have like a private workout with him. We met with Shadur 3 times. So all signs point to that. And I'm super excited. Like I told Jared, man,
Picks in.
if we get Dart, then like I'm okay with it. But if we get Shadur, expect a lot of craziness on my end the next time me and Brian
He's
have
gonna be
a show.
going nuts. He's been talking about Shadur
Yeah.
forever.
Forever.
I just want to know.
Forever.
My more interested to see right now is were other teams trying to trade up for this pick, or did we just bet against ourselves?
Good question.
I am
Because
curious
Cleveland,
to
right?
get-
And,
Yeah, it's like
It was
was-
Cleveland or it was New Orleans. Did they try to get back up? Because if they didn't, then this is kind of, I want to say stupid because like it's not stupid to go and get your guy, but you could have picked him at 34.
Absolutely. By the way, the unnecessary attacks on Nate's sanity right now too.
no.
But I will say,
Someone's calling.
I'm curious what the compensation was too. Like if they did have to trade up, because if it was obviously a war, Cleveland's going to win that. They had just took all of Jackson.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
theory, they should win that war. So was it a low war? Did they just say like, "Hey, Houston, what's good"? Did they talk about this beforehand? But I want to talk about the Shedeur fit because the pick is in. We're going to operate under that, and if it's not, I'm sorry in advance, everybody. But let's say it is Shedeur. What I like about his fit is they don't have to play him right away. They could give him a moment. They could let Russ and Jameis go flounder till October or late October. Then you could plug him in later. He's very accurate. He's going to give Malik Neighbors chances to run with the ball in his hands, which is what's going to be great. Throw it to him underneath, let him just take off. Shades of young Odell catching slants and running 60. You had Darius Slayton. Obviously, you have to keep him upright, which is my biggest concern. He's going to hold the ball. He's going to meander, and Nolan Smith's going to chase him down. That's going to worry me. But I like what he brings from the ability.
I had the Giants. The Giants traded a second, a third, and a third next year.
So my question to you, so let's see it. That's that's actually not a terrible trade, honestly. That's not too bad, especially if you were up here to get your quarterback. So how do we feel about that trade compensation out there? How do we feel about it?
I'm fine with it. I mean, depends on what third it was. If it was our second third, which was pick 99, I'm fine with it. If it was pick 64, I would feel kind of upset. But like I said, if the pick is who if the pick is who I want, which is Sanders, I'm fine with whatever we trade away. Because whatever it takes, right? So I'm nervous. Like I'm super nervous. Because I'm not on Twitter. I'm not anything. I'm literally just waiting to hear from you, DJ, who the pick is, and because my TV has been behind the whole night. So literally,
Same.
whoever it is, I'm gonna hear from you. So I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous for sure because I haven't been this excited for a draft since Saquon, and that's been 6-7 years ago. So I'm nervous, man.
What I do want to say about this one too is everyone talks about the New York media market, all that stuff. I don't really care about that. One thing I like about Shedeur is if he fails with New York, it's going to be just because he wasn't good enough. I don't think he's going to flame out necessarily. It's going to be because he has a weenie arm and he can't run necessarily. So I think that'll be what gets him. He's not going to the moment's not going to get him. When you're Deion Sanders' son and you have a rap album before you graduate college or a rap song, you're not going to be too worried about those small things. So there's Shedeur, there's Jackson Dart, there's Jalen Milroe, there's Tyler Shuck and Will Howard if they want to send Nate into cardiac arrest. So there are options out there. We're still waiting. The pick has been in for a minute, so this makes me think that it's going to be. They're just building it up a little bit. But right now, I kind of want to ask you, Brian, because I got Nate's immediate reaction earlier as well. If it is Jackson Dart, how are we feeling about this one? I'll get your reaction quickly as they're walking out.
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm definitely nervous because the offense at Ole Miss was not great. It doesn't translate well to the NFL. But like I said earlier, Daboll knows his guys. I think he come up with something that would at least work on his strength and kind of mask some of his faults.
Absolutely. And Shedeur, the pick is in. Roger Goodell's getting ready to make it as well. We'll see. We'll wait to see who the Giants crowd's going wild, and they took Jackson Dart. Out of Ole Miss.
Why?
No.
Let's take a moment. Let's take a moment for Nate. Everybody.
Nate! It's his worst nightmare.
Damn.
Huh.
Damn.
We're gonna put that jersey on hold. We're gonna go back to that Abdul Carter chain instead.
Yeah, they're probably gonna spend money towards that. Damn.
You know what? At least it's a talented quarterback that if it works out, you got something there. At least it wasn't 75-year-old Tyler Shuck. So we'll silver lining this. And like we said, Jackson does not have to play right away. So hopefully it lets him learn a little bit of the offense and he could take. Honestly, it's not going to be Ryan Daboll's fault because they're going to go 5-12 and it's going to be a new head coach next year. It's their problem next year. But I think the good news is you can send out Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston to go get destroyed first. And they're showing him compared to Anakin Skywalker. So I already like him just for that.
By the way,
the Falcons are now back on the clock as Los Angeles is traded back and Atlanta has climbed back into the first round. So I'm going to get Kelcey back in here in just a moment. But before I get you guys out of here, one more time, let them know where they can find your guys in. Let us know how you feel. Let us know in one word really quick how we feel about the pick and where they could catch your guys' show.
Yeah, man. You can find us on the 3010 podcast on all social media platforms and episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. So yeah, and one word. I got nothing. I can't.
Nate's broken.
I need some time for sure. So
wait, DJ, did I hear that right? You said they compared Dart to Anakin Skywalker.
They put him side by side to see how they look exactly like throughout the hairstyle. So the
Giants had drafted Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader tonight. Okay, I can live with this. I'm good now.
I say they got the light and the dark side. So the force is going well. They might force themselves towards the top of the NFC East. But thank you guys so much for joining us here for a second time in a much more chaotic stint. We appreciate having you guys on. Be sure to check out the 3rd and 10 podcast. And now I'm going to bring back in my co-host Kelcey and hello, chaos. Well, you leave for 2 seconds and the whole world goes ballistic as now the Atlanta Falcons are back on the clock. Hopefully not to take Shedeur Sanders because we were joking about that earlier, but I rule nothing out now.
Look, let me start this off by saying, Nate, I'm sorry for speaking this into existence 6 months ago when I jokingly said it 1,001 times. Love you, buddy. I'm sorry that you have to deal with that. This is why I became a free agent fan. This is exactly why, because that's heartbreaking. You had every opportunity to make the right pick. GM wins out over head coach and coaching staff is what this looks like. And unfortunately, it's a GM situation where you're going to have to look towards the future for another GM next year is kind of where they're going at the rate it's going to go. And you're going to be looking for a new head coach. And that's unfortunate, especially for a franchise that historically doesn't change over coaches that often. So that's a tough break for the Giants. It's more so for Giants fans. Worst thing to happen to Giants fans since they were given a free medium drink as their season ticket reward. So, this was rough. But for the Falcons, look, I don't think you're stupid enough to go pick another quarterback. But if you are, it's written in the stars that a Sanders ends up in Atlanta in this draft. It was written 20 years ago.
We're gonna cross off fate with that one, and we're gonna rule that one out for now. What do we think? Because it is so the Falcons got picked 26 and a third. The Rams received next year's first, this year's second, and a 7th round pick. So the Rams are going to be double dipping next year in round 1. I want to start with you. Who do you think is the pick here? So, you know what? Actually, I'm going to cut you off there. We got our good friend Stacy from Morgan Man Podcast jumping in to join us. Well, you're back and not in the way we expected it. What are we feeling right now?
Oh man, I kind of predicted that the Falcons was going to do something like this, but it was going to be way earlier in the draft, like round 10 with the our pick 10 with the Chicago Bears in last week's episode, but not pick 26 right here. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen here.
I'm going to throw a name at you here. Will Johnson. We've been saying it all day. Get a second corner to play opposite AJ Terrell. I'm just throwing it out there. Roger Goodell's up there, so we're going to wait and see who they pick. I can only imagine what drew them back into the first round. Maybe Jahad Campbell, I guess, but we're going to wait and see. But something drew them to get back up and give up next year's first round pick. That's a huge trade for Atlanta. And James Pierce, the edge out of Tennessee. So you know what? They're not only going to ignore edge for the last 4 years, they're going to double dip this year and make up for it. So you know what? Great pick. Worth trading up for, honestly.
You need 2 of them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off, Kelcey.
No, that was all I had was you need 2 of them. That's all.
Yeah. Wow. So definitely going double SEC right here. I really like this. Tennessee definitely had a strong defense. Of course, they didn't hold up well against Georgia, but that's another story for another video. But Tennessee really does have a good defense. I will give them credit right there. And this right here is definitely, I think, a solid pick. I would give it like at least A- for the Falcons going edge in the first round.
Absolutely. I'm going to say that I believe it was Vince and Jared both had him in their top 20s. I know Vince had him pretty close to the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, probably around 11 or 12. So a very, very good player, but nonetheless. So doubling down on the edges, Atlanta making a push for the very up in the air NFC South. So give it real quickly before we let you get out of here. Grade the Atlanta Falcons first round so far today with the 2 picks, and knowing you're giving up a first next year. So what grade are we giving it all together so far?
Honestly, with the way things are going, picking Jalen Walker and now right here, definitely I give this overall first round for the Falcons at least a solid B+, maybe leaning more towards an A-. You definitely got a lot of needs in this first round, and I'm just interested to see what round 4 and the 2 round 7 picks are going to hold for the Falcons. But definitely getting star-studded players like this right here is a must right now for the Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks for jumping back in with us. Didn't expect to see you here twice tonight, but glad to have you in there as well. And, glad that your Falcons not only didn't disappoint you once, but they didn't disappoint you twice. So thank you so much for joining us once again. Check out Morgan Man Sports on all social medias and on your favorite place to catch podcasts. Thank you so much for jumping in with us again, Stacey.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
See you, buddy.
Take it easy. Have a good one. And you know what, Kelcey? Your favorite, not favorite, sometimes favorite, a team that you just weirdly like, but you hate during draft season. The Baltimore Ravens are on the clock, and Will Johnson, Jahad Campbell, Nick Emenwari, Malachi Starks, your boy Mike Green. They can't keep getting away with it.
I'm going to throw another name because they got Derrick Henry, but for how much longer? Travion Henderson.
What you're telling me is they're going to get a blue chip player again at pick 27, and it doesn't even matter.
Okay. So the Ravens have a game plan every single first round, and their game plan is the simplest of all the simples in the world. What's the best available position that's available that's defensive or a running back? All right, we're taking that guy. It's worked 10 out of 10 times. I have yet to see them miss on this plan where they're just like, you know what? Let's just take the best available guy. And 9 times out of 10, it's defensive. Occasionally, it's an offensive lineman and a guy I'm clamoring for them to get 10 picks earlier. It's a situation where they somehow luck into this. And if it's Will Johnson, I'm not shocked. At this point in time, I'm not shocked. If it's Jahad Campbell, I'm a little more shocked, but not as much. This just feels, and you talk about a situation, a position that they need is defensive back. And Will Johnson doesn't have to start day one. He can get healthy. He can get his knee right. He's still going to come in and be faster than their current defensive backs. He can't run any slower than Marlon Humphrey can right now. So at this point in time, give him a chance. Let Will Johnson go here. Mike Greens can go here. I mean, honestly, look at our best available for Jared and Vince's board right now. It's like the top 10 on each board. Half of that can go to Baltimore, and Baltimore gets better. And it's insane to think that every year they have this opportunity to get somebody that is just going to hands down make them a bit better. It doesn't have to make them a lot better, but every day in and day out, they're going to get a bit better, and that player is going to continue to grow because they're not under the same pressure as a top 10, top 15 pick who has to perform now. And yet again, we see it with the Ravens. I made the Kyle Hamilton comment earlier, and that one still bothers me. There's several over the last 10 years that I'm just like, how do you guys keep lucking into these picks? And I shouldn't say lucking into them because, I mean, you win, so you get late picks, and then people do crazy things in drafts, as we just saw. So the Ravens, they have their feast here. It's a buffet of picks, and they're all really good players. And you don't have to really worry about a low floor for any of them. They all have a pretty high floor. Their ceiling might not be as high, but their floor is a pretty good pro for 5 to 7 years. So I think there's a great opportunities.
And the pick is in too, so they are going to be making a pick here. There will be no more tomfoolery trading. Let me throw a name at you that I've thrown around a lot today, but this would just be absolute chaos, and I'd be all for it. Nick Emmanwori.
Yeah.
Pair him with Kyle Hamilton. Just two absolute freaks. Your average starting safety height is like 6'2.5". You can move him all over the place, and he's athletic. He could play deep center.
And either one can match up with these two tight end sets. This one tight end, athletic tight end set that you see across the NFL, where you have basically a receiver that's just bigger bodied playing tight end, and you have to worry about trying to match up with that. Kyle Hamilton can, Emmanwori could. You can go further down that line, and there's guys from all over that can fill that role, that can be that safety hybrid situation if you really want it to be. And that's what the Ravens do. That 3 deep shell they love to run with Kyle Hamilton stepping into the zone, stepping up into the zone, and then letting the two corners drop deep. Like, that's what they love. you got your opportunity with Starks, Emmanwori, with Will Johnson. One of those 3 guys can fill one of those roles across that 3 deep shell. So take your pick. You have a great opportunity.
Absolutely. Before the Ravens take an undoubtedly outstanding player like they always do, we're going to check back in a little bit with the chaos here. Looks like the Giants reached out to Ole Miss about Jackson Dart last week, and that it was Shane's son posted about Jackson Dart last night. So now it all kind of adds up. Like, this was more or less the plan all along. So you know what? It turns out Lane Kiffin gives one heck of a recommendation.
Oh yeah, he does. Look, Lane Kiffin is a guy. Let's be honest. He has a history in the NFL. It's not a great history, but he has a family history in the NFL to a very influential team in the NFL. He has a coaching pedigree that rivals a lot of other major head coaches across the college landscape and across the pro landscape. Like, he knows how to coach players to get into the NFL. Can they succeed in the NFL is a different story, because he does let them have a lot of freedom that you don't see in a lot of different high-performing teams. So it's always a conversion. Do they work out well? We'll see. At the end of the day, Shedeur Sanders is a professional. He's born to be a professional player. That's what shocks me about this pick, is he's literally from the womb, born and bred to be a professional NFL player, because just given his lineage, he's born to do it. And to go from that to Jackson Dart, who at times has shown his naivety on the field, it's always a question.
By the way, the Ravens, they did it again. They took a safety, but they took Malachi Starks, the rangy free safety, who's now going to fill in next to Kyle Hamilton, who they keep getting away with it, and now they got their deep center fielder to let Kyle Hamilton do whatever the heck they want. So they did it again. They did it again. A top 15 caliber player.
Yeah, look, I mentioned them as pick one of the 3. You're good. They picked the one that they like the best, which is Malachi Starks. It checks out. I don't hate it at all. And for the Ravens, it just continues to work. And we'll never figure out why it always continues to work.
Absolutely. And well, now that the Ravens are off the clock, the standout Detroit Lions are now on the clock. And you know what? There's a lot of different ways they could go. Their biggest shakeup was in the coaching staff. But joining us for the Lions pick is Belly Up's co-owner, co-commissioner, Blaine Napier is joining us to talk about all things Lions. Welcome aboard, good sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's way past my bedtime, but I'm excited for the Detroit Lions and excited to be here.
Hey, we love it. Now, Blaine, it's going to be you and me. I'm kicking DJ out. He's taking a break.
Oh, that's perfect. Perfect.
We get to talk about the Lions, which, if you notice over this shoulder, also have one. It just doesn't fit me. I'm sorry. Amon-Ra doesn't wear the same size as me, so it didn't work out too well. But no, look, the Lions, they love to bite kneecaps. They love to impress teams defensively and offensively. That offense, second to none under what was then Ben Johnson, now Ben Johnson gone, What are you looking at with the Lions this year offensively? They have still the weapons to be there. They have the running back core. They're healthy again this year. That was a big deficit for them at the very end of the season last year. Do you think that offense can continue what they're doing? And what about the defense that was decimated, literally third, fourth, fifth stringers playing in the playoffs? Do you think they can figure this out going forward? Because they lost both OC and DC in the offseason.
Yeah, and that's when you lose both coaches, it's kind of a shock value because you're bringing in a whole new system for both sides of the ball. But when you look at it, we still have the playmakers. They still know what their job is. Dan Campbell does a good job that basically says it's the next person up. Yeah. The only thing that they struggle with is offensive line. They need depth. The only thing that really hurt them in the season was the late run into the playoffs. We just didn't have the depth to keep it up. So I mean, for me, I'm looking at the depth of the offensive line for a pick here. And yeah, defense we need. We need somebody to complement Aiden Hutchinson, who I'm wearing today. So like it could go both ways. And Brad Holmes he's a guy that makes best decisions. He's a 2-time GM of the year. So let's see what he does.
Yeah, and let's play on that for a second, because obviously if you look at our position needs that we have listed, offensive line isn't necessarily one of them, and that's mostly down to their first 5 are good. But you're right. I think that second 5 is where there's a gap. So let's play on that for a second. If you're looking at this for the Lions, you're picking at 28. You have an opportunity, which by the way, the pick is in, so we'll see that in a second. But you have an opportunity to fill in maybe a 6-man, which they love to throw in 6, like the Decker always, or not Decker, but there's always they bring in somebody off the bench to play that 6 offensive line and let them run out as like a quote unquote tight end. They love that with Ben Johnson. Is that something you see this going? And if so, who do you think they're going to draft at 28? If it's offense?
I think it's a good play personally. And like I said, this is the way I was headed when I was looking at everything. I'm an Ohio State homer when it comes to that. So Josh Simmons looks like the next available O-lineman on the big draft board. But I also like Donovan Jackson, who filled in for him for majority of the season because he was injured. And he did an excellent job playing both 2 positions. I think I'd see him there as a surprise pick.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Obviously, I am a Josh Simmons guy. I do think talent-wise, he's ready. I don't, and this is where I run into the problem with going O-line with Detroit, is that talented of a player. Are you comfortable enough sitting him for a year or maybe longer? Like, I don't know if I'm there yet with him because I think he's so talented. I think I would waste a pick there when I do need defense. And right now I'm looking at Jahad Campbell and Mike Green as guys that I'm like, man, these guys could fill in. They could start today. They can go opposite Aiden and until Aiden. I mean, let's be honest. Aiden might not start the season healthy, 100% healthy. Like, he might need some time. So you're playing with that. Is that something you'd consider? Or even maybe Josh Connerly, if you talk offensive line potentially, who is kind of a raw prospect at tackle. Could work, could not. I don't know. But what's your thoughts? Like, if you go defense, where are you going defensively?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I love to do an edge rusher. So for me, I mean, that's the power of football. It's in the trenches. So get those guys to complement, like I said before, complement Aiden Hutchinson. He needs to have somebody that attacks on the opposite side of the field. That way he's not double teamed. And that way he can get to the quarterback a little bit quicker. So I want to see that. But from a linebacker's perspective, Jahad Campbell, selfishly, go that route too.
He's a guy you always wonder, can he slide down and play as an edge rusher at times? You've seen it before. There's been a lot of middle linebackers that, as they get older in their career, they slide down and play that edge rusher. Darius Leonard, before, after his back got really torn up, yeah, he was technically a left outside linebacker, but he played middle for most of his career. They slid him down to play more edge rush at the end of it, with his time at Indy. So that might always be a possibility. Looking towards this going forward, I mean, this is something with the draft, which is in. So before I get to it, I got to say it's an Ohio State guy, but it's not the Ohio State. Are you prepared for this, Blaine?
I just came up on my screen.
Tyleik Williams, the defensive tackle from Ohio State, and I wanted to make this point because you mentioned offensive linemen in trenches. Talked about this 1,001 times already in this draft, and if anybody's heard me talk about offensive line in the past, the credentials are in the waistline, and this first round is proving that the credentials are in the waistline for improving your team. You're going offensive line, defensive line. And here we go again, defensive tackle. Going next to DJ Reed here is what it looks like.
And to be honest with you, that's a surprise reaction for me. I wasn't expecting that pick, but he did well. So I imagine he can plug the holes just like anybody else, and make an impact, be an impact player immediately.
Yeah. Defensive tackle. Obviously, that's not the Ohio State guy you think of
No.
right now. That's for sure. Look, I think Detroit. He's not far from home. He's driving an extra 2 hours, as if he was driving to Cleveland. So 4-hour drive for him, 4.5-hour drive, whatever. He'll get there tomorrow. He'll have a great celebration. First pick. He's getting ready to go to another NFC North title game. Sorry, Vince. It's not going to be. It's not going to be the Packers. It might be the Lions yet again as Kings of the North. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe that's the team I'm going to end up being a fan of. We'll have to wait and see. Blaine, if you need to make a pitch for me to go become a Lions fan, though, what's your pitch?
I mean, we've lived a life of misery for a little bit. So we are on the up and up. And here's the thing: is I have a jersey for you, so that's a pitch.
Well, I mean, I got one. I think I need a second one to replace this Joe Burrow jersey. Then, is what I'm hearing. All right, looks like Detroit Lions are back to number 2B at this point in time, as in to be or not to be. We'll see. But guys, Blaine, I appreciate it. DJ, I'm going to bring you back in, and then Blaine, before you head off into the grand ether. Real quick, obviously, Belly Up, we got a lot of things coming up this summer. A lot of big super shows coming up. Which one for you? What's one event coming up for you this year that you're excited to see what Belly Up can do with?
I mean, I'm excited for every single super show, to be honest with you, because I oversee everything. So for me, the super shows are where everything is at. You get to see our expert analyst. You get to see in-depth discussion. You get to see some hot takes. You get to see some heavy opinions, but overall, it's what you want to hear. And the interaction from today has been great. We've been on fire today. I love it. And it just go to show like we're up and coming, and these super shows aren't going away.
Yeah, for sure, man. Look, we appreciate you jumping in, Blaine. DJ, I'm going to let you take the reins back over because I definitely feel better in the passenger seat as the comedian and not as the leading man, I will say. Comedic relief, I think, is where I live at.
It's like you're trying to say I'm not funny, but you know what, Blaine? Thank you so much. We appreciate you for joining us in as well. It was a pleasure. So next up, we got the Commanders on the clock. They have not making a pick yet, which means it's a great opportunity to bring back in Vince as well to join us. And you know what, Vince? There's some really good players on the board for the Commanders, and the one that sticks out to me is Jahad Campbell and Dan Quinn. Look like that could be a very unnecessary duo for the rest of the NFL.
Yes, there are options for Washington. I still think Travion Henderson is the sneaky pick here, but Jihad Campbell, incredible value. You look at that. I love what Dan Quinn did last year. I love what the Commanders did last year. Everything was wonderful. So you go into this. I think they need some edge rushers personally, and so you still have Mike Green on the board. Ezeraku, I've mocked him here to them before as well. But I mean, you look at just the value picks right now where you got Jihad Campbell, Will Johnson, Nick Emenwari. All three of these guys are the three guys top of my big board right now. Any three of them would be a win for Washington, and any three of them would be a better pick than what we just saw with Detroit. So it would be a great value there. And by the way, Kelcey, you can stick with the same colors, right? Going from Cowboys to the Lions, you barely have to change anything.
It's
slightly different blue.
Honolulu blue. We got to be honest about it. It's Honolulu blue and real silver, not that weird turquoise teal Cowboys. Still irritates me that that's a color scheme.
What we're seeing here with Washington is the complete turnaround in their organization, right? Last year, they go Jaden Daniels. They just take off. This year in the offseason, they go out and they get Samuel. I mean, that's incredible. Debo. And now what you're seeing is there's competent people in the organization. And with competence comes success. And right now, with the picks, the players that are on the board right now, you're seeing what you guys talked about with Baltimore. It just seems like something always falls to them, and they always get this great pick. Now you're seeing Washington have the same opportunity. Now, will they take the opportunity and make the right pick, or will they take a swing on somebody that they could have just waited for? Because I really think what we just saw in Detroit was a guy they could have waited for, and I could be wrong, but that feels like a reach at that point in the draft. Tyleek Fitz fits what they're doing. There's no doubt about that. But value-wise, it was such a bad value, I think.
I've always had this question in my head whenever I look at drafts, and I always wonder, especially this area of the draft in the first round, you don't want to miss necessarily. You have the availability to take a shot if you want to, but you don't really want to miss, especially for somebody like the Lions, who they don't have a lot of historical winning times, if you will, if Blaine nicely put it. They know misery well. So it's a thing that maybe I wonder if this goes back to the conversation about grades, where their grade was on him was just like, yeah, he's not necessarily a 1, but we don't have anybody else at a 1 that we like here. And I think maybe that's the case. Like, do you think that could be the situation potentially, that why Detroit goes that route?
Before I think so. I'm going to jump in because the Commanders made their pick and they ignored defense. They're going all in on Jay Daniels. Josh Connerly from Oregon is heading to the Commanders. So him, Laramie Tunsil, you know what, Jay Daniels, you won't be getting touched next year unless you decide to skank him.
Do you guys like Connerly more than Simmons?
The health thing is, I think, why, especially with Simmons. Still, like I know Simmons is probably better on paper, or at least they're close. I think the foot injury is maybe the different factor. I think they're relatively similar, in my opinion.
For pre-draft combine situations, this last 3 months, I actually had Connerly as a top 10 guy ahead of Simmons. Now it was 10, it was like 7 to 9, I think, on my board originally. And then as the draft process continued, Simmons continued to pop up a little bit higher and Connerly slid a little bit more. Truthfully, if we're just looking at on-field performance, it feels like they're 1A, 1B for that position. For this realm in the draft, feels like they can go either way. I don't hate this one as much as like the Tyreek Williams pick in comparison. Like, I think this is a good pick for what Washington wants to do. And I think specifically he fits the need to be mobile with Jaden Daniels, whereas Josh Simmons is a little bit more of a feeder bricks type of not saying he's not athletic. He is an athletic guy when healthy, but he's also not healthy. And I think that outweighs the two.
And Vince, real quickly, give us your grade on this one too. What do you think on this one so far?
This is probably a B. My first initial thought. I've got 3 offensive linemen right there at the same area, Simmons and Connerly, and I love Ursery from Minnesota as well. I think he's a little bit more of a dog than these guys. And so they're all 3 in the same area. I think they're all 3 good picks. I don't know that any of them are splashy picks, that move the needle a ton. But again, when you did what Washington did the offseason, you're allowed to take a guy that you have some time to work with and develop and prepare. And I like it. I mean, I think to me, B's not a bad grade, right? B's, I didn't get a lot of B's in high school. So I think B's a good grade at the end of the day.
Absolutely, especially at pick number 29. So, Vince, we appreciate you popping in with us, the best dressed man on the show by far. We're going to hear from you here in just a moment. But right now, we got the Buffalo Bills on the clock, and it's a great time to bring in who was once dreaming to one day be Mr. Haley Steinfeld, but instead he will just be known as Jared from the corner booth to join us for the Buffalo Bills pick. And you know what, Jared? The Bills are kind of in another position.
You gotta kick me while I'm down, man. Damn.
I'm not done yet, because I would say the real Mr. Haley Steinfeld is the reigning MVP for the Buffalo Bills. So he gives them the opportunity to go in a bunch of different directions here. What are we feeling? Their big offseason edition, basically Joey Bosa for the 7 quarters he's healthy. So what do you think they do?
Go get a corner, Will Johnson. Why not? I mean, it's at this, or maybe Amos out of Ole Miss. I love too.
Yes.
I love Amos a lot. I think he's one of the most slept on corners in this draft. I love his ball skills and his ability to attack on the on routes. I think honestly they shouldn't overthink this. Just go draft a corner. Go get an edge rusher in the 2nd or 3rd round. Maybe go get Campbell. There's a lot of, they can't keep Matt Milano healthy. So why not go? There's so many different things they can do here. Just don't draft an offensive player. Because as much as Mr. Haley Steinfeld's going to try, he ain't going to win a Super Bowl. It's that defense with him is going to win a Super Bowl.
Throwing this one out there, we're gonna go out of left field. There's James Cook issues with the contract. Maybe Quinshon Judkins, or maybe they bring in another running back. And if they do work out James Cook, now you got 2 of them.
Travion Henderson.
Yes, I was going to say
Henderson.
For them, they're going to want the speed guy. They don't want Henderson.
Well, you know what the pick is in. No time.
Their speed is 87 and 86 is their speed difference. We're not talking these guys are burners.
I was going to say it's like 94 and 93, but I get you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking Madden rankings, not college football rankings.
Oh no, they're both over 90. Come on, let's not doubt them that much.
No, I know, but they are plus in the speed territory. They're not different very often there. But
this isn't like
I
the
think
kid out of Iowa who I think literally runs with bricks on his feet.
Colby Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this guy.
Yeah, Kobe's he's a pure power back. This is one with the Bills that I think that Trayvon's better out of the backfield, and he matches up a lot better in this situation. So that's why I say Trayvon over Kinshawn Junkins. But honestly, running back wouldn't surprise me. At this point in time, nothing's surprising me anymore. I've seen what Carolina did just offset my whole entire draft preparation and thoughts.
I'd say there's a lot. Jahad Campbell, there's a lot of very good players. I mean, there is three guys from Jared's top 20 still hanging out. What was that?
They got to go Campbell, right? He's like the top player on the board.
I'd say they got Nick Emenwari just to have a freaking safety. Even like 3 of your top 20 players are still sitting there. They want to get freaky. Luther Burden's still sitting there. Donovan Ezerico is still there. Trey Amos, if they want to go corner. They got options. The pick is in, so they are going to stay and pick. We're not going to see a random Browns appearance from the depths just to pop in. So I'm very curious, and we know they like to run the ball under Joe Brady, so I wouldn't rule out offensive line either, just to fortify the front line, even though they had a elite offensive line last year. But we learned anything from Howie.
You never have that point for offensive line.
Never heard of that ends up being really, really good.
Yeah, this is one where you end up with Ursher, maybe potentially ending up in Buffalo.
I was trying to think. I'm like,
weather-wise,
they don't risk it on Simmons, especially with that foot. No.
Yeah, I think weather-wise, he matches up well with the Bills. Obviously, Minnesota and Buffalo, but I don't know if there's a
Vince
lot of.
said it perfectly eloquently. He is a dog.
Yeah.
What about like a guy like Nick Scroton?
That'd be a good one. He's a pure power rusher. Like I think that'd be a good fit, but I don't know about here. I feel like they could trade back a little bit.
I feel like that's
he's falling out of the first round. I had that as a toss-away pick on the Bears at like 32 when they made my alleged trade with Philadelphia. Apparently, the word is on the street. Nobody wants to trade with Howie Roseman this year. I'm like, what a bunch of babies.
Why would you? Hold on. Why would you trade with Howie Roseman?
Make
given
better
his success
decisions.
when people
It's not
trade
his
with
fault.
him?
You're all morons.
I know, but that's my thing. Is like you've learned. Like, okay, finally the NFL has learned after the 7th time of doing it that like, hey, maybe we don't trade with this guy in the first round. Maybe that's not the smartest move we have.
Well, you know what? They're going to go corner. They're going to go Maxwell Harrison, the fastest guy at the combine this year. So you know what? They're going to add a nice little burst to that secondary. And
I like that pick.
His suit's almost Buffalo Bills blue color, by the way. So you know what? This was planned. A conspiracy theory. I'm calling shenanigans, but I like this pick too. He's arguably the best corner not named Will Johnson on the board.
So I prematurely chucked my phone because I thought I just read incorrectly that the Eagles traded away the 32nd pick to the Chiefs. And I was like, did we not learn from Buffalo? And no, we swapped picks for pick 164, which means either we're going with Campbell. It's Eagles are up. Campbell, I'd say maybe Azaraku or Emenwari. One of those three. I love your position needs depth. It's basically it.
Hey, you know, they're pretty much good. But before we let the pick goes, we do have our good friend Antonio from the Sideline Summit podcast too, who he's an Eagles fan as well, and he's prepared to tell us a little bit about what he wants to see.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Antonio Perez, host of the Sideline Summit podcast. I want to give a quick thanks to DJ for inviting me onto the show to pick for the Philadelphia Eagles or discuss what at least I think they should do with their pick. What I find really interesting about their pick is it could be for sale. A lot of people might want to jump into the first round, get that fifth-year option on the potential quarterback that they might want or whatever it may be. But let's say the Eagles keep the pick, which I anticipate on happening. Walter Nolan has been tied to this pick very heavily. The Eagles could use some defensive tackle depth with Milton Williams going out the door, but I think when you have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter there, I think you're a little bit more secure. Now with Bryce Huff not necessarily panning out the way a lot of Eagles fans hoped, I really think they're going to go edge here. And the two names that I think really could be there will be Nick Scorian out of Texas A&M, a really young pass rusher. I think he has all the tools. I think he could be effective day one in the pass. The run game could use some work. And then you have Donovan Ezerico from Boston College, who is an absolute animal, had the production, a great Senior Bowl week as well. So between those two, I think I would probably lean Donovan Ezerico as my pick for the Eagles at number 32. But I think Scorian is another name to keep their eye on. And Nolan isn't all the way out, as the Eagles love their big fellas. They love to have depth. That's how they win the Super Bowl. So that would be my pick, Donovan Ezerico out of Boston College. Again, thank you, DJ, for letting me on. You guys can find Sideline Summit, literally just Sideline Summit on all social medias, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever it may be. Thank you.
All right, Donovan Ezeraku. And by the way, as you guys, in case you couldn't tell, he recorded this ahead of time, and the two players he pointed out, they're still on the board. So, a good intuition on that part. But I like Donovan Ezeraku here. You can never have too many defensive linemen.
Yeah, and Jared, by the way, you just talked about Nick, the pick before, as potential target. So this, I mean, it fits. I mean, I think this is
we're two birds of the same feather, man. Me and his brains work a lot alike when it comes to the Eagles. I like both players. If you want who I want, my dream scenario, I want Emma Worry. I like fast, athletic freak safeties who can lay a stick and can play center field. Maybe it's because I grew up watching Sean Taylor, rest in peace, Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins, like guys who literally strike fear into the offense. I would love that, but at the same time, I know Howie's not going to burn a first rounder on a safety. It's never been his MO. So if I'm a gambling man, it's probably Ezeraku.
I don't mind the idea of Jihad Campbell too. I mean, I know Zach Bonzer and Nakobe Dean, but Nakobe Dean's been banged up a lot too. Jihad Campbell can rush the passer a little bit, just taking best player available. We say why, and then in roughly 18 months, we're like, oh, great, they got a multi-time Pro Bowler. That could just be one of those head-scratching ones. Maybe I would say Will Johnson. They don't really need corner, but you can always add depth to corner. It's better to have too much. It's another value pick.
That's really how much you feel about if you think Keely Ringo is a quality starter or not.
No,
and that is the question they will have for sure. But I think Donovan Ezeraku is a good one there. They could do a lot. I mean, like we said, depth. They don't really need anything. It's what do you want? And they felt the need to trade up one spot. So I'm curious what enticed that for him, or if it was just flexing.
I'll throw this out here as a potential pick that we've heard this guy's name batted about in trade rumors at tight end, with Dallas Goedert potentially being on the move. Well, you have Elijah Arroyo, who in everybody's board is a top 50 pick. He won't sit around until 60, 64, or 63,
Don't
I guess it is.
break my heart like that,
But
Kelcey.
look, I'm just like, if you need depth, like Harrison Bryant is, if Dallas Goedert goes, Harrison Bryant's your number 2. He'll step into the 1 role. You need a number 2 behind him, and Elijah Arroyo would fit that number 2 role, and he's that tight end that's potentially there. And if you're the Eagles and you're looking for a potential fill-in for depth, specifically, Elijah Arroyo checks off every box you need for depth, which you love to run the tush push. Well, you can have 3 tight ends out there instead of 2 tight ends and your receivers. You don't need to have Devontae out there at any point in time on the tush push anymore.
Or AJ Brown doing his little lean back and
you can keep AJ on there. That's fine. He's big enough body. Like that's cool.
It's
but
also a comedy skit when he's out there. So,
but like you look at the depth places here. You don't need offensive line right now. Like you don't even need a backup offensive line. You have 7 deep on offense that can roll in and roll out as you need to, and that's not including free agent pickups that they'll always do because Howie Roseman does that. And then I think also you look at the defensive line. You're good there for now. Obviously, there's young pieces that need to develop, but they're there and they're talented. Linebackers, you just need them healthy. I think maybe safety. You look at safety as a potential need to fill. It's not a huge need to fill because you have a lot of talented guys that can slide back to that safety role, but there's not a pure safety, and that's like part of this as well. But honestly, I do love Anthony's take on Ezeraku. I do think that's a great opportunity as well. If you don't go something like a tight end, I think Ezeraku just makes sense for what you're going to try to do. It's too easy not to. And if you want to just pick depth and just go have fun, go get another SEC guy in Jihad Campbell. Like forget it.
So the Campbell thing, you could easily move him in and out as kind of like a blitzing. They like to blitz with the linebackers. It's something they do. And Nakobe Dean's an excellent blitzer and excellent to run. And he's not going to be 100% healthy until October.
And when he is healthy, he's fast enough and good enough in coverage to handle a coverage scenario against a tight end or against a slot. Yeah, he's done it before, and he did it well. And it's
I'm okay if we go with Campbell because I know he's the best guy on the board. I really wanted Emin Worry, and I have a feeling we're not going to take him. It's too early.
Yeah, I also think this is the one he's not necessarily the most needed position of your depth needs. He is, but he's not.
I like tone setters on defense, man. I always have. So
hear me out.
Siobhan Ravel is out there. That's all I'm saying.
Hear me out on this one. They decide to break the molding. They try and get cute with it. Jalen Milroe to start running the tush pushes so Jalen Hurts takes a few less shots. Designated QB sneaker, Jalen Milroe.
The entire city of Philadelphia will burn to the ground tomorrow.
It's going to burn to the ground regardless. It burns to the ground in celebration.
Okay, I was there at the parade. It was not burnt to the ground. It was fine. Okay? I'm tired of this slander.
Look, I'm just going to say this. I would draft Jalen Milroe first round of a fantasy football draft because I know the tush push touchdowns will be coming in insane
Even if Green Bay's
amounts. Like
weenie butt trying to get it banned.
25 touchdowns minimum for Jalen Milroe first year just running the tush push. He'll have 23 yards and 25 touchdowns.
Put him, Saquon, and Jalen in the backfield. And like, you can hand him the ball, and suddenly you have 4.3 speed this way, 4.3 speed that way, 600-pound squat up the middle.
I just, let's go all the way. Let's just go grab the fullback. Okay, enough. Bring back the fullback. Make him great again.
Yeah, if you want to fullback, Quinshon Judkins.
But Quinshon Judkins just take a few shots off of Saquon.
Well, I mean, we already have AJ Dillon, who literally looks like a fullback. So I mean, I'm okay
he is a
with
fullback.
This. Yeah,
those are fullback legs. No one will tell me otherwise.
Those legs are. Those are Eddie Hall legs. Those are world record setting squat legs. That's what those are. Those are 2 tree trunks. Those are redwoods. He do everything.
Jahad Campbell is the guy. So they are going with best player on the board. Jahad Campbell, linebacker of Alabama. So in 18 months, we're going to look in this bag. How did they get away with that? How did they get the 8th best player on the board? It's weird now, but you got the best player on the board. So I can't really fault it. But like you said, it is a weird fit.
DJ spot on again.
I think the health of Nakobe Dean is why they made this pick.
Spot on again, DJ. Spot on again.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this comes down to health. I think this comes down to depth. I think it comes down to flexibility and versatility at a position. Because I think you look at their linebackers, their quote unquote linebackers, they're dual linebackers. They're linebackers. They're edge rushers. We go to a NASCAR package, stand up and rush type of linebackers. They're also coverage linebackers. All of them can do some piece of it well. They do 2 pieces of it really well. And then so this versatility just adds to more of what they can do. And Vic Fangio, through all his head coaching problems as a DC, is all-time great DCs in the history of the game, at least in the modern game. And I can't imagine what type of crazy things he's thinking about when he sees Jahad Campbell rolling into Philadelphia next 2 days, and he's like, "Oh, I'm ready. Let's go. Here's the new playbook, boys. There's no down lineman for 3 weeks," and then seeing what happens. Oh, by the way, Jordan Davis is in a stand-up position. We're gonna put Jahad Campbell down in a 3-4 point stance. Like, let's go have fun.
6'2", 235. Dude's built like Patrick Willis. Holy crap!
The monster. He is sideline to sideline linebacker every single time, and he hits like a Mack truck. And I think that's what Jahad can. You want a tone setter, Jared? Tone setter.
Listen, I'm all for the attitude. I like guys who, like I said, I will say it 1,000 times over. I like guys who set the tone. It's what made guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, my love-hate relationship with him, flourish, because as much as he drove me insane, the dude set the tone, laid sticks all the time, picked off passes. I like playmakers who set the tone. This guy fits the bill. So you know what? Jahad, welcome to Philadelphia, my man.
Hey, you know what? We'll go ahead and keep you here as well, as the Kansas City Chiefs are now on the clock, and they got some options here. Offensive line makes the most sense considering, you know what, that Josh Simmons is right there as well. You could bring in Quinshon Judkins as well. We'll go ahead and have Vince join us right here as well. You could bring in a running back. You could also, offensive line's key. Will Johnson's right there. If you just want to be like, you know what, we could just use it. They could go in a lot of different directions. So we'll go and start with Vince, who just joined us. What do we think for Kansas City here to round out the first round? Assuming they don't trade out, never mind the picks, and they're not trading.
Well, I mean, wide receiver is a big option here. You got 2 guys that are close by, Luther Burden at Mizzou and Jaden Higgins at Iowa State. Those 2 guys, you could just add that much firepower to the offense. They have to get better at offensive line. Have to. So Josh Simmons, Arianti Ursary are both, I think, solid picks here. I thought they might go defense here, like cornerback, but with Hairston off the board now, I don't know that you want to go with a Benjamin Morrison or a Trey Amos or something like that at this pick. So it feels like they have to go offensive line, which means they probably won't go offensive line. Will Johnson, obviously, still on the board. Mike Green, value pick, still on the board. Travion Henderson, we've talked about him a few times. Again, another weapon. And Nick Emenwari, he's one of my favorite players still available. But I don't know if they necessarily need safety. That's what I was looking at there right now is their depth chart. Jaden Hicks and Brian Cook. Yeah, sign me up for Nick Emenwari at safety here as well. Man, there's a ton of options, though. Ezaraku, who has been talked about. Skirton, who's even talked about. There's plenty of people available. Their biggest need, though, is you're sitting there looking at Josh Simmons or Ursery, and it seems like Simmons' health issues, according to John McClain down there in Houston, is what he's saying is the reason he's dropping. And he's saying maybe Houston gets him in the second round. I don't know. That's what I would do if I was Kansas City. I'd go Josh Simmons.
So, Jared, what do we
I
think?
completely agree.
It makes sense. I think we're kind of all on the same page there. But Kelcey, you have a curveball for us.
No, I got to throw a name out there for you guys. Landon Jackson.
Oh,
opposite
6'8",
Karlaftis.
lanky.
Opposite Karlaftis. Allow Chris Jones to dominate the middle while you have two really good defensive ends. You talk about Chris Jones already being one of the best tone setters in the league. Karlaftis is one of the more underrated pass rushers. Does a great job setting the edge. You add on the opposite side of him a Landon Jackson who can set the edge as well as rush the passer. I know we've all seen the goofy video of him slapping the heck out of a tackle dummy, but honestly, at Arkansas, he was the reason that defense even had a chance. So let's be real about how good he is talented as a defensive end and edge. So I'm just throwing it out there, guys. What's your thoughts on Landon Jackson here?
I think that's a Tyleek Williams pick. I think he's a good player, but I think it's too early. Like, I think you can get him later. So that's
Vince, trying to pour salt on them Lions fans today.
Yeah, quit bullying them. So you know what? Kansas State's pick is in. Roger Goodell's up getting booed right now. So we're going to figure out who the final pick, the last fifth-year option of the first round of 2025 is. Handful of Kansas City fans in there. They're excited, and it is Josh Simmons. They are taking the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. So it makes sense. You got to protect the Patrick franchise and you got to protect the catch-up. So it makes sense. Bring him in there. If they've had a history with offensive linemen that have been injured, I think he'll be fine too. He was already exercising it as a pro day, so I think it's a good pick. It makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And he can play inside or out. He can go to guard if he needs to. He can go to tackle if he needs to. Right now, tackle's a bigger need for them. So I assume that's where they'll kind of plan on him being there. But he's got some versatility once he's healthy too.
Absolutely. Makes a ton of sense too. But we now have all 32 picks of the first round, which means there's a lot of really good players still on the board, including multiple people in the top 20. So first things first, I'm going to start with you, Jared. But the best value picks tomorrow? Probably Will Johnson, Nickham, and Worry top of the boards. Where do you think makes sense for him, and how long do you think they're waiting tomorrow?
I don't think they're waiting long. I think this is going to be a scenario where we're going to see a lot of teams who have a lot of draft capital, like your Cleveland Browns, who obviously have the number 2 pick, but they might trade back in again. You may see teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers who desperately need a quarterback will come back up and try to get a Milroe or a Kyle McCord maybe in the back end of the second round. I wouldn't be surprised if Philadelphia tries to trade up tomorrow to go get a safety or an edge rusher, whether it's Azaraku, Emin Worry, or Scorton or whoever. A lot of these guys are going to kind of stick around. I think that a guy like Elijah Arroyo, Landon Jackson also could be like back end of the second round. The guy I talked about already, but he's probably my favorite cornerback left on the board besides obviously Will Johnson is Trey Amos. Love everything about this kid's game. I thought he was a shoo-in to get picked by the Commanders because I figured they need guys to kind of erase the whole Emmanuel Forbes debacle. So, there's a lot of guys left on the board. We've talked about this before. This is a very deep draft because there's only 3 true blue chip prospects. The rest are pick and choose based on your scheme or your preference or your interviews. But I'll throw Ward in there because he was the only good quarterback, really. So at least worth of a first round pick. Dart going in the late first round is kind of expected, but I did say that Shedeur was falling out of the first round. I thought it was very on point. I warned you guys, and I warned people on the show, on the pre-show. I said, listen, these scouts do take this crap seriously with the bad interviews and the confidence, whatever it is. Is it warranted or not? Who cares? I did see one guy on Twitter just now try to compare him to Jalen Hurts. I'm like, stop it. They are the polar opposite of quarterbacks.
That's a
play
wild
style
one.
And attitude.
That's a wild one. But Vince, I'm going to go and toss things to you. We mentioned Shedeur. He's still on the board. How long is he waiting tomorrow? The Browns have the first pick of tomorrow at pick 33. Or is he getting past that spot, or where do you think he's going?
So I was looking at this a few minutes ago, right? So you got Cleveland's got the first and the 4th pick in the second round. You've got Vegas at 5, and you've got the Saints at 8. And Todd McShay said there's no way in the world the Saints are drafting Shedeur Sanders. So if you believe that, then you're looking at the Raiders and the Browns as the only options for Shedeur Sanders at the top of the second round right now. The Jets are at 10 in the second round also. So I would say that, 10 is probably the floor for Shedeur Sanders tomorrow, to have to wait 10 picks. I'm intrigued to see what Dion has to say tonight, if he says anything. And that'll be fun. I know what he's going to say when Sanders gets picked. He's going to show everybody, and he's going to be the greatest in the world and all this good stuff. So, Cleveland makes sense because of Stefanski, and the system works for Shedeur Sanders. They're going to build a dome. So the concerns with the arm, it's going to take a couple of years, but long term, that's not as big of an issue either. So the Browns make sense having 2 picks. They can go get Shedeur at 33, and then they can get a receiver a few picks later if they want to, or they could get an edge rusher a few picks later if they want to, or a running back if they want to. There's so many good players available right now. On my board, you mentioned those top guys. I still have Travion Henderson up there, Mike Green up there, and then you get into those receivers of Jaden Higgins and Luther Burden as well. Mason Taylor, the tight end, I really love. Think he'll go early in the second round also. And then you get into just the intrigue. The cornerbacks, Trey Amos, Benjamin Morrison, Siobhan Revel are all there as well. So it's going to be a really intriguing second round. And but the biggest question is going to be Shedeur Sanders. If Cleveland passes on him at 33, then what? It's going to be wild.
Well, I'll tell you right now, he's going to the Las Vegas Raiders to sit behind Geno Smith and where his mentor Tom Brady is. And in a couple of years, he'll be thrown to Brock Bowers and handing to Ashton Genty. So it makes the most sense. But Kelcey, I'm going to round this one out with you. Your boy Mike Green's still on the board. Where do you think he goes? How long is he waiting tomorrow? Where do you think he goes? Do you think he's waiting very long, or do you think he's going to be plucked up real quick?
Yeah, look, obviously his off-field issues are what they are. There's no getting around that argument. There's no getting around that conversation. There's no arguing your way out of that, unless you're the Cleveland Browns, because you've justified worse. Sorry, I couldn't stop that one. But look, it's at the end of the day. That one
very well. You hit that one on the head.
Yeah, look, you talked about Cleveland. It makes sense for Shedeur. Look, a lot of times it makes sense for Mike Green going there as well, but not now. I don't think he's that situation. He's there for them. I don't think he waits long. I think there's opportunities in the first 7 picks that he goes off the board. I just don't think he waits very long. He's one that I thought could sneak himself into the first round, and every time we did a mock draft, I always said that. I'm like, I think he's talented enough for the first round, just pure talent, but he's raw, and it's, do you want to take that risk on a guy in the first round? Probably not. Second round? Yeah. All right. Why not? And it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't go in the first 5 of the first round, first 7, let's extend it the first 7 of the first round, he wouldn't be going until the last 5 picks of the first round in my eyes. I don't think he hits that middle gap for any of these teams really, if who didn't get one of their guys in the first round. I think that's the problem, is there are a lot of defensive linemen taken in the first round, so there's no room for Mike Green in a second round pick in that middle stretch. So, yeah, I think he's going to stick around if he doesn't get picked in the first 7, and then maybe a late second round guy at the end of the day. Absolutely.
And you know what? There's like 37 defensive tackles taken in the first round. You got 5 pounds of potatoes in a 1 pound bag. Only so many can go. But yeah. I'm going to go ahead and round things out here. We have 2 elite corners on the board in Will Johnson and Benjamin Morrison, who are only hindered by their injury problems. If they were healthy, they'd have been off the board 3 hours ago. So if their health checks out, 2 people are going to get an elite starting corner in the second round. Benjamin Morris is arguably the best bump and run corner in the draft. But when you have 2 your hip surgically operated on twice before you're 24 years old, that's a little concern. And then Will Johnson with a knee, so who's, in my opinion, the best zone corner. I know Travis Hunter's the best overall corner, arguably. But those 2 are very, very good at what they do. If their health checks out, they are going to be incredible second-round picks for whoever gets them. But on behalf of Belly Up Sports, Corner Booth, Stove Report, 3rd and 10, High-Low Sports, everybody who has been able to join us from Belly Up Sports, we appreciate y'all for tuning in with us and going on this wild ride through the NFL first round with us. It is always a pleasure. And those of you jumping in the comments, following along, we do greatly appreciate it. Be sure to follow all of the shows for draft reactions. Send Nate flowers. He needs them right now more than ever. We do appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. We'll be sure to see you all again next time, and enjoy the rest of the NFL draft.